Chapter 201. It was the year 104 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, the month of northern wind. A group of travel-worn people slowly arrived on the road outside Flower City. At the very front of this group were three tall and sturdy armored bears. A young man meditated on the back of the giant bear in the middle with his eyes closed. Behind him, nearly 200 armored cavalrymen rode on scarlet warhorses, all looking mighty. The people behind them wore thick clothes from the Northern Territory. They sized up the passers-by curiously and confidently. Oh my god, it is the month of northern wind, yet these people are not dressed for winter. Isn't that so? Short-sleeved shirts. Is this how southern people behave? At this time, there are still flowers by the roadside. As expected of Flower City, the blacksmiths chatted in surprise. They had never left the Northern Territory and had no idea how incredible the outside world was. This was the current situation of most ordinary people in this world. They might never leave the territory they lived in for the rest of their lives. They did not know how big the world was, nor how wonderful the outside world was. Sam watched all of this nervously. He stood ready to follow the Lord into a great battle. He knew the kingdom would not quickly return Flower City to the Lord. These damned big shots constantly bullied the weak and feared the strong. Levi's army and a few thousand civilians had fled from the north. Although they were escaping, they had sufficient supplies, so everyone remained in a good mental state. They did not look like refugees at all. Below the city tower, the door remained tightly shut. Levi rode on a giant bear and stood at the city gate carrying two swords. He did not say anything, nor did he take any further action. Instead, he sat leisurely on the giant bear and looked at the city. He knew the big shot inside would give him an answer. Not long after, a figure appeared on the city gate tower. Red Willow Divine Sword, wearing light armor and holding a longsword, frowned. The teams of fully armed soldiers beside him looked at the mighty army below the city as if facing a great enemy. Where did this army come from? This army appeared insignificant, with less than 1,000 people. Moreover, most were part-time militia. However, the 200 fully equipped blood-red cavalry had shocked Red Willow Divine Sword. He ranked as one of the 7 godly swords. The Red Willow family only had 300 armored cavalrymen guarding Flower City, and from the quality of their equipment, they were inferior to the cavalrymen who had suddenly appeared. His heart stirred. He thought of the remnants of the northern forces, so he ordered the thousands of soldiers guarding the city to enter a state of war. At this moment, the city guards of Flower City stood on high alert, looking at the 3 giant bears below. Giant bears of the Northern Territory. Who could tame them as pets? I do not know. I have never heard of this person. It is fine. We have the Red Willow Divine Sword. Even if the earthly dragon beast comes, it will die. Everyone whispered to each other. They felt extremely at ease when they thought of the 7 godly swords on their side. Finally, before Levi could speak, Red Willow Divine Sword shouted down. Who are you? Why did you lead your army here? The Red Willow Divine Sword pressed down on his longsword, ready to fight at any moment. His voice rang out loud and clear, calming the morale of the army. Levi stroked the bear's head. Black Snake Baron Levi, the master of the Tulip Hill. I want to ask you, why did you send troops to occupy my territory? According to the kingdom's laws, this is undoubtedly an invasion and a declaration of war against the Lord. After Levi finished speaking, the 3 giant bears of the Northern Territory roared toward the sky. Their terrifying roars spread throughout Flower City. This time, Red Willow Divine Sword stood shocked. Baron Black Snake, you are still alive. He had almost forgotten about this person. What? Does the Red Willow Divine Sword want me dead? Levi smiled. His Grand Knight strength surged without holding back. His opponent's heart skipped a beat. During the years of the Civil War, the kingdom had long forgotten the existence of Baron Levi. A Grand Knight suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and it was Baron Levi. Red Willow Divine Sword stood bewildered. I am following the orders of the kingdom to guard this city. If you object to my actions, you can go to the capital and ask His Majesty for a second opinion. Thinking of his own identity, Red Willow Divine Sword calmed down. In that case, there is no room for discussion. Sir, please return. In terms of military strength, you are inferior to me. Do not do anything unwise. I am the 7 godly swords. My words and deeds represent the will of the kingdom. The Red Willow Divine Sword refused to give up the city just because of a Grand Knight who suddenly appeared. First of all, he could not verify Levi's identity. Secondly, even if Levi spoke the truth, he acted only under the orders of the kingdom to protect this city. He remained in the right. At that time, the higher-ups would not punish him. Levi sneered. As expected, these people would not cooperate without force. 7 godly swords. I only have one question. Can your words and actions represent the will of the kingdom? Are you worthy? After Levi finished speaking, he got off the bear and walked toward the city gate step by step. What do you want? If you leave now, I can still let you live. Otherwise, I will kill you without mercy. The Red Willow Divine Sword shouted in anger. He pulled out his sword, and black gas swirled around the blade. Chapter 202. I, Baron Levi, want to go home, that is all. Levi turned into an arrow. His speed was breakneck. He turned into a black blur and vanished from the eyes of the guards on the city gate tower. A terrifyingly thick black gas entwined around his palm. Inside his body, the black snake, giant rhinoceros, red lotus, and ostrich mountain life seeds roared. Levi had not gone all out since the battle with the Duke of Montenegro Mountain. After a long cultivation period, his strength surpassed his former self. With the support of many top-notch special effects, he had reached a terrifying level. The advanced ripple force gathered in his right palm. This was his full-powered attack. He felt confident that no Grand Knight, not even the Fist of the Empire, could withstand this strike. Boom! The golden ripple divine palm. With a single strike, ripples bubbled, air currents rotated, gathered, and exploded. Boom! Under the force of his palm, the thick iron city gate deformed and dented. Boom! Boom! After a few palm strikes, Levi stood before the massive structure. The city gate, which required a siege beast to break through, collapsed with a thunderous bang. Dust flew into the air, leaving the soldiers behind the gate dumbfounded. They thought a giant beast attacked the city gate. Now, they saw a man. What kind of monster was this? A Grand Knight could not break a city gate with his bare hands. Was he still human? At this moment, Levi did not resemble a human. His entire body was covered in black gas, and he appeared like a black fog giant. His eyes burned with killing intent. I am Baron Levi, the Lord of the Tulip Hill. Next, I will take over the city that belongs to me. Put down your weapons. Whoever launches a sneak attack shall die. When Levi finished speaking, the few soldiers facing him dropped their weapons in terror. Sam, come, carry out my order. The three brothers charged into the city with earth-shattering steps. Sam led the blood-red cavalry, and the remaining soldiers into the city. The Red Willow Divine Sword on the city tower watched in shock. He felt amazed by the courage of his opponent, but he was even more shocked by the raw strength of the man. A top-tier Grand Knight. Even the Black Snake Knight was nothing special in this world. However, the Red Willow Divine Sword decided to intervene. The actions of the intruder amounted to a slap in the face. You trespassed into Flower City. I will punish you according to the laws of the kingdom. The Red Willow Divine Sword leaped from the city tower and slashed down at Levi with a technique that descended from the sky. Levi pulled out Frostmourne and used a golden cross slash to block. Clang! One sword clash decided the victor. The Red Willow Divine Sword trembled violently. His sword kept shaking and wailing as if in great pain. This person's sword skill level is not inferior to mine. The realization left the defender numb. Who was this man? With such strength, even the nation-guarding Divine Sword, the leader of the 7 godly swords, would struggle to defeat him. He could not retreat now. As he ordered his soldiers to surround the invaders, he took the lead and charged toward Levi again. Levi sneered. He could quickly kill the Red Willow Divine Sword if he fully unleashed his strength. However, with so many people watching, he would not use any abilities related to wizards. Relying on his breathing technique was enough to defeat the arrogant swordsman. They fought. The three brothers charged forward, following behind the blood-red cavalry, and striking the enemies. Instantly, blood flowed like a river, and the flowers of the city were covered in red. Under the relentless attacks, the Red Willow Divine Sword moved like a small boat nearing a capsizing point. He was forced into a corner. After so many moves, his weapon shattered against the strikes of Levi. Holding the broken blade, the Red Willow Divine Sword stood dumbfounded. 7 godly swords. It seems like you are not much, after all. Levi grabbed the broken sword with his large hand and struck out with the golden ripple divine palm. With a single strike, the Red Willow Divine Sword flew through the air like a broken catkin. This palm strike did not take his life. However, the blow crippled the life seeds of the Red Willow Divine Sword. His Grand Knight Cultivation vanished. The Red Willow Divine Sword fell unconscious. His entire strength lay in his sword skills, and with those skills ripped away, he could not turn the situation around. Levi picked up the fallen commander and shouted from the city tower, "Those who do not want to die, put down your weapons." Levi stood like a demonic god, exuding a peerless aura. His black gas covered the sky, and the Red Willow Divine Sword hung weakly in his hand. When the soldiers in the chaotic battle saw that their commander had fallen, they immediately lost their will to fight. Only a few minutes had passed since the battle started, and the Red Willow Divine Sword, one of the 7 godly swords under the king, was already taken down. There was no need to continue fighting with such a vast disparity in strength. The 3 brothers and the blood-red cavalry dispatched those who resisted. According to the law, Levi could defend himself against such an act. Soon, the farce ended. Levi ordered his subordinates to arrange for the captives who had surrendered. He looked at the dazed civilians in the city. Everything will be the same as before. Remember that your lord is Baron Blacksnake. Levi smiled. Baron Blacksnake. Are you truly Baron Blacksnake? Some of the older residents struggled to believe what they saw. Chapter 203. Of course it is true. My father is a Black Snake Knight. Levi smoothed his armor. I see. I thought Baron Blacksnake had forgotten about this city. An old man sighed. Welcome home, Baron Blacksnake. Welcome home, Earl. The people who understood the situation had already begun to welcome him. To them, it did not matter who became the lord. As long as he could feed them, he was a good lord. Go home, all of you. It is okay. Levi waved his hand and dismissed the crowd. Next, he wanted to see what the kingdom had in store. He had severely injured one of the 7 godly swords. What would the kingdom do next? No matter what, Levi had his residents of Blackwater Valley enter Flower City. Since there was no place to stay for the time being, they could only remain in Flower Castle. The structure stood massive and imposing. When the Earl of Blood occupied the castle, it was renamed Bloody Castle. Now that Levi was back, he had to change it back. Levi changed the name to Black Snake Castle to publicize his sovereignty. Now, only Storm City remains. I have already made my stance clear. If the kingdom is kind, they should return Storm City to me. Levi stayed in Black Snake Castle and stood atop the ramparts, waiting for the reaction of the crown. Now that he had captured a bunch of the soldiers serving the Red Willow Divine Sword, the outcome depended on the attitude of the kingdom and the Duke of the Red Willow family. Entering Flower City, Levi did not alarm too many people. Everything remained the same as before, and the daily lives of the citizens continued unchanged. After some rest, Levi held a speech on the first day of the year 1015 of the Holy Brilliance calendar. He spoke in Flower City to announce the return of the Black Snake family. After returning to the city, Levi waited for the messengers of the kingdom to arrive. While waiting, he cultivated. Although the progress of his meditation art was slow, his breathing technique improved very quickly. There would be a breakthrough in a breathing technique every once in a while. With a sufficient supply of secret medicine, the Vortex Beast breathing technique, a stubborn technique, was quickly pushed to the limit by Levi. This breathing technique belonged to the third-rate category and was of excellent quality. It was not difficult to cultivate, but Levi lacked secret medicine previously, so he had put it aside and neglected it. Vortex Beast breathing technique. Level 7. Maximum, breakthrough available, current progress 1 out of 5. Special effect, top tier physique. The Vortex Beast breathing technique was at its limit at level 7. It was indeed the most simple breathing technique of excellent quality. It is a pity that physique-type breathing techniques are relatively rare. So far, other than the Vortex Beast, I have only found a basic physique-type breathing technique. Levi examined the new special effect. Top-tier physique. Your body resistance to diseases, viruses, and toxins is abnormally strong. Your self-healing ability is also extraordinary. Levi lightly cut his arm with a dagger. He wanted to test how robust the self-healing ability of a top-tier physique was. Fresh blood flowed out of the wound. To a Grand Knight, this was just a tiny scratch. The blood on the wound began to thicken and scab in just a few minutes without using bandages or potions. Levi only felt a slight pain. His transcendent endurance made him highly resistant to pain. Using a knife to cut his own body felt similar to an ordinary person being cut by a corn leaf. What a powerful self-healing ability. Levi exclaimed in his heart. This is only a top-tier physique. If it is a transcendent physique, it should be even more powerful. It seems that I have to find more breathing techniques related to physiques. At the very least, I must raise this special effect to the transcendent level. This will be of even greater help to me. Overall, the bonus of the top-tier physique to Levi remains small. With his current strength as a top-tier Grand Knight, even without this particular effect, it would not take long for him to recover from those superficial wounds. Hence, Levi looked forward to the Transcendence physique even more. Besides the significant breakthrough in the Vortex Beast breathing technique, the Ostrich Mountain breathing technique had also reached level 8, giving Levi the Transcendent Power special effect. There are 3 special effects on him, including Transcendent Power. They came from the Giant Rhinoceros breathing technique, the Giant breathing technique, and the Ostrich Mountain breathing technique. Levi intended to use these breathing techniques to break through the limits of the Red Lotus breathing technique, which was at the peak of level 10. Of course, the specifics would depend on the actual situation. A low-quality strength-based breathing technique, like the Giant Rhinoceros breathing technique, was enough to break the limit. As for the Giant, he would temporarily keep the first-rate breathing technique of excellent quality like the Ostrich Mountain breathing technique. Other than that, the different breathing techniques were not far from level 8. However, level 8 to level 9 required 100,000 proficiency points. Even with his current cultivation speed, it would not be easy for him to reach level 9. He could only take it step by step. On the other hand, the third level of the Black Devil Blade, the Evil Spirit Lingering, still had no progress. Levi estimated it would be difficult to achieve with his low-level Wizard Apprentice spiritual power. Perhaps only middle-level Wizard Apprentices could master the Evil Spirit. His current spiritual power was already far higher than that of an ordinary Grand Knight. Although he was only a low-level Wizard Apprentice, he had his specialties. The first-level deep-sea meditation art had already made his spiritual power extraordinary. It was just that there was no quantitative standard at the moment, so there was no way to show it. The benefits of increasing one's spiritual power were huge. His spirit was much better than before, and his senses were sharper. Coupled with the advanced vibrosencing special effect, everything within 30 meters was his absolute domain. Within this range, he was an existence that controlled everything. Levi did not know when he would be able to enter the wizard world, so he constantly paid attention to the changes in the fire paper. At the same time, in the capital, the news that Baron Blacksnake had returned to Tulip Hill finally reached the royal palace. The young king listened to the messenger's report and thought deeply. Chapter 204. In Emerald King City, the young king listened to the news. Baron Blacksnake. The king brought up distant memories. He had almost forgotten that such a family existed. According to the laws of the kingdom, Baron Levi served as the legal heir of Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill. However, because of the interference of the Duke of Montenegro Mountain, the royal family had initially intended to turn a blind eye and take back the 2 territories. The Black Snake family had remained silent for too long. He assumed Levi, the heir, would not care about the matter. Unexpectedly, Levi chose to come to the south because of the snow demon calamity. The king summoned his ministers to discuss the situation. In the end, everyone reached a consensus. The decision was to let the matter pass and not mention it again. After all, the kingdom had been unreasonable from the beginning. The kingdom, which had just ended a long war, existed in a state of extreme fragility. It teetered on the verge of death. The kingdom no longer wanted to make a big fuss. Moreover, Baron Levi appeared to be a top-tier Grand Knight like his father. Even the Red Willow Divine Sword of the 7 godly swords failed to match him. Baron Levi remained in his prime. At this time, the kingdom had no need to become enemies with a top-tier Grand Knight. Besides, Levi knew that the Black Snake Knights and their soldiers had sacrificed their lives for the country. However, the kingdom had tacitly allowed the Duke of Montenegro Mountain to take over the territory of the kingdom, which also constituted a mistake. This caused the Duke of Montenegro to become more arrogant and eventually catalyzed the rebellion. Therefore, the council decided that letting Baron Levi return to his territory represented the most suitable choice. With the gifts of the kingdom, the emissaries set off for Tulip Hill. Not long after, in Stormy Hill, the nation guarding Divine Sword also led his team to evacuate the place. In the last few days of the year 1014 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, Levi also received a reply from the kingdom. The kingdom had approved of his actions. He held legal status in the first place, so the kingdom could offer no objection. Otherwise, if the power of the nobles were shaken, the king could not sit firmly as the leader of the alliance. Levi replied, expressing his gratitude and loyalty to the kingdom while flattering the new king. Then, the Duke of Red Willow arrived with a dark expression. He brought ransom money to take his son and his army away. Levi also readily let him go. If looks could kill, the old eyes of the Duke of Red Willow would have killed him countless times. After all, Levi had crippled the future star of their clan, the Red Willow Divine Sword. However, the old fellow could not say anything. He had also received compensation from the kingdom. Moreover, even his son could not match Levi. The current strength of Levi exceeded that of the Black Snake Knight from back then. Gradually, the southern nobles learned that the mighty Black Snake had returned and entrenched himself in Tulip Hill. The fame of Levi also began to spread on a small scale. The titles of Giant Bear Lord and Black Snake Lord also began to circulate. Although this was not what Levi wanted, he could do nothing about it. Keeping a low profile did not mean suffering grievances. Sometimes, a fierce reputation helped to avoid trouble. Of course, he maintained a limit. That was enough for now. From now on, he just had to live a stable life. People could be famous, but not too prominent. The fattest pigs were the easiest to send to the slaughterhouse. No matter what, I can live a more stable life now, Levi murmured. He heard that the snow demons of the Northern Territory had appeared at the edge of the territory belonging to the Earl of Silver Mountain. This made him very glad that he had moved to the south. How could he cultivate if he stayed in the north and felt worried daily? Sometimes, people had to admit defeat. Facing the snow demon calamity in Icewind City, Levi could only wish luck to his old friend, the Earl of Silver Mountain. Levi felt little happiness after taking back Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill. With so many territories, life became troublesome, especially since Stormy Hill and Tulip Hill were not close to each other. He also lacked talent in his territory. The focus of Levi always remained on cultivation, and he could not waste too much energy on the management of the land. He had no choice but to spend a lot of money to recruit talent to help him manage his territory. Previously, he only needed to manage the Blackwater Valley, and the talent problem was not prominent. Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill were both famous. Levi knew that many people coveted his territory. Recruited talent was not as reliable as those nurtured by oneself. However, Levi had no choice. His heart was not on this territory. He did not want to give up the business of his family now that he served as a lord. Don't provoke me. I am great to get along with. Really, Levi muttered. He hoped that the great nobles in the south would be sensible. Otherwise, there might be fewer great knights in this world. After settling the matters of the territory, Levi cultivated in peace, waiting for the fire paper to burn. It was the year 1015 of the Holy Brilliance calendar. Levi gave a speech in Flower City and officially announced his return. The kingdom even sent messengers to congratulate him. This surprised Levi. More than 10 years had passed since Levi had transmigrated to this world. He had also grown from a little boy to a 25-year-old man. Chapter 205. He stood 2 meters tall, with solid muscles, a well-defined face, and a rough beard. Levi's current style drifted further from the original intention of a handsome young master and a pale-faced scholar. Instead, he resembled a version of Yan Chixia. Levi traveled to the Blackwater Valley and brought the Henha-2 generals to Tulip Hill. He hid them in the dense forest behind Flower City and declared this area restricted. He did this for the safety of his subjects. 2 grand night beasts roamed there. If anyone wandered in, they faced a high chance of not returning. With these 2 giant beasts guarding Flower City, ordinary enemies would not even realize the source of their demise. Time passed, and half a year vanished in the blink of an eye. Over half a year had passed since Levi moved into Flower City. Big cities offered their advantages. At least Levi did not need to enter the city frequently when he visited the Shining Tavern. However, Levi lacked nothing. Consequently, the frequency of his visits to the Shining Tavern decreased. Most of the time, he dedicated himself to cultivation. Occasionally, he went to the Shining Tavern to eavesdrop on the conversations of others. He wanted to see if any trace of the pyroxene existed. The meditation art continued to gain 1 point of proficiency per day. This proved beneficial for the cultivation of breathing techniques. After all, much time remained after practicing the meditation art daily. During this period, Levi used the hours to cultivate his breathing techniques. On average, he now slept less than 3 hours daily and stood in Flower City at 3 in the morning every day. His current physique and fitness eliminated the need for extended sleep. 3 hours provided sufficient efficient rest. Under such intense training, his breathing techniques progressed at a rapid pace. His breathing techniques held specific focuses. The black snake had remained stuck at the peak of level 9 for a long time. Therefore, Levi cultivated the elephant turtle breathing technique, an excellent defensive breathing technique. After more than half a year of hard work, Levi reached the limit of this technique. Elephant turtle breathing technique level 9. Maximum, can be broken. Special effect, elephant armor. After reaching the peak of level 9, the elephant armor effect of the elephant turtle breathing technique appeared essentially similar to the black scale special effect of the black snake breathing technique. Moreover, Levi tested it and found the defense of the elephant armor matched the black scale. However, the elephant armor made him look like a turtle. It lacked the beauty of the black scale. Layers of a gaseous shell, resembling a turtle shell, covered Levi's body. Suddenly, Levi noticed a problem. The elephant turtle and black snake breathing techniques could be used simultaneously. However, the special effects of the elephant armor and the black scale could only appear once. Looks like the special effects cannot be easily stacked. Levi sighed. He thought if the elephant armor and black scale effects could stack, he would not merge the elephant turtle breathing technique with the black snake breathing technique. Now it seemed Levi overthought the matter. It functioned like two extraordinary defenses that could not stack simultaneously. The elephant armor and black scale refused to stack. Since that remained the case, Levi had nothing to be nostalgic about. He merged the elephant turtle breathing technique with the black snake breathing technique, and in addition, he obtained a basic defensive breathing technique. Levi's black snake breathing technique broke through the limit once again. Black snake breathing technique level 9. 1 out of 150,000. Special effect black scale. I can continue cultivating the black snake breathing technique. When I reach the peak of level 10 of the black snake, my cultivation level should be on par with the former Fist of the Empire and the Duke of Montenegro. After the black snake broke the limit, it surpassed the excellent quality category. It became a genuine perfect breathing technique. Levi left the castle and went into seclusion for half a year. The fire paper remained silent. Levi always carried the fire paper, fearing he might miss the gathering. The efficiency of the wizard is low. Levi could not help but complain. His stomach growled, and the whale sack felt empty. The bag of gluttony seemed hungry. He asked the servants to prepare a large table of food for him. He also prepared an entire cow for the bag of gluttony. Next, the time arrived for the two gluttonous kings to enjoy their gluttonous time. While eating, Levi listened to the report of the newly recruited officials of Flower City. The people Levi brought from the Blackwater Valley managed the financial and military aspects of the territory. One held charge of the money, and the other oversaw the army's order. Both roles remained extremely important, especially the one handling finances. Flower City was not the Blackwater Valley. The annual revenue remained considerable, even for the wealthy Levi. He could not give it up. In addition, the income of Storm City could not be underestimated. This also explained why the Duke of Montenegro wanted to take down these two territories regardless of the cost. So far, everything in the territory functioned normally. The situation proved much better than Levi had imagined. Perhaps the prestige he left behind some time ago ensured that everyone behaved obediently. Moreover, his neighbors also expressed their goodwill to him in various ways. After all, he remained young and at the peak of his strength. A top-tier Grand Knight alone possessed enough power to intimidate most enemies. Moreover, the three giant bears of the Northern Territory, who had torn countless enemies apart, and the well-equipped Red Blood Cavalry, left a deep impression on the others. Chapter 206. The giant bear of the Northern Territory served as a symbol of courage. Levi could tame 3 giant bears as pets. In the impression of others, he appeared as a rude, barbaric, and violent barbarian from the north. Such a person seemed unreasonable, and certainly not to be provoked. The hypocritical southern nobles naturally understood this logic. Finally, Levi heard a report on the security of the territory. Lord, there have been some strange murders in the territory recently. My strength is low, so I cannot determine the identity of the murderer. However, I suspect the murderer is not a human, the sheriff reported uneasily. Not a human. Levi did not care much about the routine matters in the territory. However, the prospect of a non-human murderer piqued his interest. He smelled the scent of an evil spirit. It just so happens that my seal of dragon might is almost at level 3. Let us see which lucky fellow has delivered food. Levi had used almost all of his evil spirit dust to increase the proficiency of the seal of dragon might. Now, only a small reserve remained for actual combat. He worried about the current lack of evil spirits. He even considered opening a spirit removal firm. At that time, he could convince lords tortured by evil spirits to pay him for removal. He would acquire both evil spirit dust and money, while the lords would find safety. It would be a win-win situation. Bring me to see the dead. I want to see who dares to cause trouble in my territory, Levi sneered. The sheriff brought Levi to the morgue. Levi looked at the 3 corpses lying on the cold stone. The wounds on these 3 victims appear similar. I suspect they share the same attacker. It is what people say. The sheriff lifted the white cloth, and Levi looked at the slightly stinky corpses. What about the heart? Levi realized the heart of the corpse had vanished. When I found it, the heart was already gone. When the sheriff thought of such a heart-digging demon hiding in the shadows of Flower City, he could not help but tremble. Levi observed the corpses with care. The first corpse belonged to an ordinary person. His heart was missing, and his body appeared withered. The second corpse was an official knight. It seemed he was a minor noble. Similarly, his heart was missing. Even an official knight is no match for it. It might be an evil spirit, Levi analyzed in his heart. However, he had never seen an evil spirit attack by targeting the heart. According to his understanding, creatures like evil spirits generally did not attack physically. Instead, they attacked the soul directly. The soul-stealing nun and Naiad functioned this way. If it were a physical attack, the evil spirit would require a physical body. It could not carry out physical attacks in a pure spirit state. Do not tell me there are evil spirits with physical entities, Levi muttered. I understand. Continue to increase your patrols and investigations. The criminal might be a human, but he disguises himself as a monster by digging out the heart. If you find a possible enemy, do not make a move. Report to me first, Levi said. From the looks of it, the species of the murderer remained irrelevant for now. In short, ordinary knights could not pose a match for the creature. Yes, Lord. The sheriff panted and retreated as if he had received a pardon. It proved difficult to breathe in front of the 2-meter-tall lord. Levi closed the door and released Tutton. He could not reach a conclusion alone, so he sought the counsel of the wizard apprentice. Regardless of the circumstances, Tutton possessed knowledge and experience that far exceeded his own. When Tutton saw the dead, his expression turned solemn. If we exclude the mischievous human murderer, then the closest and most likely method to kill someone like this is the work of the Blood Clan. Blood Clan. Is it not an evil spirit? Levi asked. It should not be an evil spirit. The victim possesses a missing heart, and all the blood in the body has been sucked dry. According to the research of wizards, the Blood Clan appeared in the human world long ago and never left. They came from the intersection of the many planes of the ancient age. They are monsters left behind after creatures from certain planes invaded our world. You must be careful. The Blood Clan is not as easy to deal with as ordinary evil spirits or snow demons. Evil spirits are aberrations born from the combination of mortals with powerful obsessions and the dark wave. Snow demons are the aberrations of the undead that the blue frost has infected. Although they have some supernatural characteristics, their strength is limited. However, the Blood Clan is different. They were powerful creatures from some planes. They are as powerful as the legends claim. Moreover, unlike the tales of bards, the Blood Clan does not fear silver, sunlight, or garlic. Although they do not like the sunlight, they will not die when they meet it like in the stories. Even for wizard apprentices, the Blood Clan is not easy to deal with, and a powerful Blood Clan would cause even official wizards a headache. My suggestion is to report this matter to the church, and let the church send professionals to deal with it, Tutton said. The church. Count on them. Levi could not help but think of the evil spirit wreaking havoc in Icewind City for over half a year. They could not even deal with a dangerous level evil spirit, let alone the Blood Clan. Do you have any books about monsters? As a wizard apprentice, monster knowledge should be a compulsory course. Otherwise, how could one deal with monsters? Levi took the opportunity to ask. He lacked such resources. He needed to catch up on monster knowledge to know his enemy and maintain his calm when facing the monsters revived from the dark wave. A thin book appeared in the pot of equal value. Knowledge is money. Monster manuals are also very valuable. After all, the knowledge of many monsters is the research result of some wizards. They usually will not give it to others easily. However, mine is considered a more basic one. It is about some common monsters. According to the principle of equal exchange, give me the soul of a knight, and this manual is yours, Tutton said nervously. No problem. Levi randomly found a prisoner on death row in the dungeon, and exchanged the booklet with Tutton. The Franken Wizard's Monster Manual. Looks like you still have a lot of good things here. Levi looked at Tutton with a faint smile. Seeing this, Tutton immediately slipped back into the pot. Levi shrugged and returned to the castle to start learning. Chapter 207. Levi cultivated for the next few days, while reading the monster manual he had just obtained. Franken was a celebrity in the wizard world. He came from the life school of thought, and his primary skills were monster studies, mutation studies, bloodline studies, and transformation studies. Especially in monster studies, Franken wizards were highly famous, also known as Monster Franken. This was because he had personally created many famous man-made monsters. Stan was one of them. It was a stitched monster with infinite strength. The primary material used to make it was the corpse of a grand knight. Of course, it would be better if there was the corpse of a giant, but the giant was more complex to provoke than the grand knight. Stan was much stronger than a grand knight. This was because he was a monster stitched together by a wizard. Not only did he combine the powerful physical attributes of a grand knight, but he also had some spell abilities. He was the best choice for many wizards to guard their homes. Some poor souls who accidentally entered the residence of a wizard would usually end up miserable after meeting Stan. Because of the fame of Stan, Franken was also famous. His work was regarded as a model by many monster lovers. This included the creator of the pot of equal value. Therefore, when he created this pot of equal value, he also placed a monster manual inside. There were not many monsters in the monster manual, but they were all classic monsters. Among them were the classic legendary monsters such as Blood Clan, Werewolf, Ghoul, Vampiric Bird, Deer Head Spirit, and Chicken Snake. Levi read with great interest. In this world, Blood Clan members were still relatively robust. The Blood Clan was divided into two types, the primary Blood Clan, and the secondary Blood Clan. The original Blood Clan was the first generation from another plane. They were mighty, and usually, only official wizards could handle them. However, the original Blood Clan members were scarce, because they had come from the last ancient plane intersection. After that, there was no replenishment in numbers. The original Blood Clan members could not reproduce. They were all products of the Blood River Will. The Blood River Will should be a master of the multidimensional plane, similar to the Blue Frost Lord of the Blue Frost Plane. He was at least a demigod. As time passed, the first batch of native Blood Clan who came in with the plane convergence gradually died of old age or unnatural deaths. As a result, the number of native Blood Clan members worldwide was scarce. Even if there were, they slept in tombs deep in the mountains or remote ancient castles. The original Blood Clan members had a long lifespan. They could survive for thousands of years while in deep sleep. To humans, this was almost equivalent to immortality. Therefore, in the classification of wizards, the Blood Clan, giants, and elves were famous for their longevity. As for the secondary Blood Clan, they were the servants of the native Blood Clan members who had been transformed using ancient rituals. This was what most people called the Blood Clan. These Blood Clan members were afraid of sunlight. They hid in the crowd and drank human blood in the dark. Of course, some secondary Blood Clan members possessed strong willpower and moral sense. They were blood-sucking livestock, but such people were relatively rare. To the Blood Clan members, human blood was like delicious milk tea, while livestock blood was like spoiled milk that was difficult to swallow. The secondary Blood Clan members should be causing trouble in my territory. The strength of the secondary Blood Clan members is generally at the level of a Grand Knight. Some of the stronger ones might have the level of a top-notch Grand Knight, or even a legendary knight. Levi muttered these words to himself. During this period, he sent people to the territories of other nobles to investigate. He found similar murders had also occurred in different regions over the years. It was not because he came to the City of the Flowers that he became like this. This meant that these people, who seemed to be from the Blood Clan, were not targeting him. This was their way of living since ancient times. It was just that he was more meticulous in his public security investigation. That was why he found this clue. The battle would be over if it were any other lord or ordinary person who died. Due to widespread famine and war, they would not care about people dying daily. These lives were not enough to attract the attention of those lords. As long as these potential dangers did not threaten the rule of the lord, no one would care about them. Levi pondered whether he should make a move against the Blood Clan. According to Franken, the Blood Clan was more united. Because they were small groups, they often emphasized internal unity. Only in this way could they survive in the cruel human society. Forget it. Let us not bother about it for now. Let us let it go as long as it is not too frequent. I am about to become a wizard, so let us not complicate things. Levi reached this conclusion. He was not afraid of the secondary Blood Clan members. He was worried about the primary Blood Clan, which only an official wizard could handle. Levi estimated that if he relied on the power of a knight, he would need to be at least a legendary knight to deal with them. The Blood Clan members are born with extraordinary strength, speed, physique, and powerful recovery abilities. They even have spell abilities, which are much more powerful than a Grand Knight. However, Blood Clan members are more afraid of fire. My flame seal will be a sharp weapon against them. The black gas can also deal with them. Although he did not plan to take the initiative to attack, he had to be wary of others. If these Blood Clan members noticed him, he would not hesitate to attack. Chapter 208. Who cares if he lacked the support of the primary Blood Clan? Since these old antiques had been hiding in the human underground world, they feared humans, and did not want to cause too much trouble in the human world. Otherwise, there would be no need to remain so secretive. However, as the Dark Wave revived, perhaps these old antiques started to be dishonest. This occurred because the plane they lived in was about to converge again. At that time, a new primary Blood Clan might invade this world. This is troublesome. Can evil spirits, snow demons, and the Blood Clan be any more chaotic? Was it the revival of the Dark Wave? Levi stood in silence. Each of these foes proved harder to deal with than the last. It remained hard to imagine how the humans would face the invasion of these monsters without the help of wizards, and relying only on the rabble of the church. Levi felt that the wizard community would probably make a move. After all, wizards needed humans to replenish their blood. They would be unable to watch so many mortals die in the Dark Wave. The wizards had not made a move yet, because the situation had just begun. They would not act yet. Who cares? Saving the world has nothing to do with me. Levi ceased his worrying. He returned to his everyday life. In the following days, several similar murders occurred every month. The rumors of mind flayers spread rampantly. Even a blacksmith Levi brought over from Blackwater Valley met his end. This forced Levi, who originally wanted to turn a blind eye, to take action. Damn it. How dare you take advantage of me, out of all people? Levi cursed under his breath. He decided to investigate first to see if members of the Blood Clan were behind this. Now, the mind flayers seriously affected the everyday lives of the residents of Flower City. With so many murders every month, the situation became unbearable. However, after concluding the characteristics of so many murders, Levi discovered some patterns. They liked to commit crimes at night, and their targets were usually vagrants or wandering knights. Moreover, they preferred to attack young adults. No elderly people appeared among all the victims so far. They were all young men or women. Other than that, these murderers left behind few clues. On the other hand, Levi had his subordinates focus on the investigation according to the monster manual. He had also hired some professional detectives, who were all capable and expensive. Levi did not intend to alert the enemy. He wanted to find the murderer secretly. Generally speaking, members of the Blood Clan were no different from ordinary people under normal circumstances. However, some characteristics remained. For example, they possessed pale, unhealthy faces. They often had dark circles under their eyes, exactly as the monster manual introduced. Other than that, they liked to move in the dark, and the full moon served as their favorite hunting time. According to the preliminary research of Franken, it seemed that during the full moon, they could sense the power of the Blood River will from their distant hometown, which they believed in, and obtain the blessing of strength. Therefore, combining these characteristics, Levi planned to try and bait and find the murderer. In the following days, although the Lord had increased security patrols, some people still went missing every month. In the end, the corpses of these people appeared in the corners of the city, or the wilderness. Without exception, they all lacked hearts, and their blood was dried. The Church of Flower City also sent people to investigate. However, Levi really could not compliment the ability of this group of people. Without their god, this group could do nothing. Of course, on the surface, Levi maintained a good relationship with the church, and had never stopped donating small amounts of money. No matter what, the church remained the true overlord of the country. He had no need to make things difficult for them. With the care of the church, doing things became easier. Tonight was the night of the full moon. Dark clouds floated in the sky, casting shadows on the ground. The moonlight shone on Flower City. Inside the castle, Levi wore a black robe and cloak, carried 2 swords on his back, and donned a white wolf mask. He quietly slipped out. He wanted to see which damned member of the Blood Clan was causing trouble in his territory. No one else wandered the streets because of the mind flayer rumors, besides some homeless people. Levi shrunk his body and became thin. He hid in the shadows and activated his advanced vibrosensing. So far, no response came from the spider sensing. He reached the top floor of the church. This served as the highest point of Flower City, and he could overlook the entire city. Come on, little bastard, let me see you. The muscles of Levi tensed up, ready to move at any time. A drunken wandering knight had just emerged from the shining tavern into an empty alley. He reeked of alcohol and burped. He staggered on the street. In the corner of the tavern, a slender, curvy figure wrapped tightly in cloth raised her head silently. A veil covered the lower half of her face, but one could vaguely see the features of a woman. She pursed her lips and stretched lazily, letting out a sexy moan. A fat customer at the side looked at this young lady, and felt his hormones rise. He used alcohol to strengthen his courage, and impulsively blocked her path. Chapter 209. The man felt vulgar, yet he inadvertently glanced at the lady's heavy chest, and his restraint vanished. Beautiful young lady, it is so late, and you are still drinking in the tavern. Are you homeless? Why do you not come to my residence and rest for the night? The speaker was a fat noble with a plump figure, and he served as an official knight. The man blocked the lady, who could not help but frown. She looked at the wandering knight who had left, and then at the fat noble. She sighed softly and said, "Sure." The fatty did not expect this young lady to agree. Instantly, he took his drink and pulled the hand of the young lady. She did not resist and let out a grunt, allowing the fatty to hold her hand. She followed the fatty home. The residence of the fat noble sat within the inner city. Even now, he felt as if he existed within a dream. Although the face of the young lady remained hidden, her breasts tempted him. Even if she possessed the face of a bat, the fatty did not mind. Her body served as the most important factor. What difference did looks make when the lights turned off at night? The fat noble did not bring the woman to his house, but to a hotel. He had sobered up and felt that bringing her home served no good purpose. It would be easy for others to track him after the encounter. She asked faintly, "Did you not say we were going to your house? I forgot to bring my key. Shall I get a room?" the fatty asked softly. The woman said nothing. She pulled the fatty into a dark alley with her slender hands and pressed him against the wall. Her beautiful, white, slender fingers touched the chest of the fatty, and she supported one hand against the wall as if to pin him in place. The fatty could not help but swallow. He did not expect this woman to be so proactive. Something felt wrong. How could such a good thing exist in the world? Even if such a good thing existed, would it fall to him? A gust of cold wind blew over, and the fatty felt completely sober. He looked at the woman. An indescribable coldness lay beneath her beautiful face. For some reason, he recalled the rumors about the mind flayers. This, the fatty began, but he failed to finish his sentence. The beautiful woman in front of him began to tear apart. From her back, a ferocious bone spur extended. The towering things on her chest also popped out. They were not breasts. Instead, they were 2 pairs of ugly lumps. The lumps had 2 slits, like human heads. They were filled with fine teeth that hissed. Monster. The fatty felt shock, but he subconsciously reached for the black gas. Unfortunately, his black gas proved extremely weak in front of this monster. Like a thin piece of paper, it broke with a stab. The beautiful woman had wholly turned into a monster. Her wet skin appeared red, revealing the veins of her muscles. She seemed to have no skin. Her bald scalp secreted mucus. Her face had become like a bat, showing sharp teeth, and her mouth split open to the roots. The moon behind her seemed shrouded in a layer of blood-red mist, like a river of blood across the sky. It felt strange yet fascinating. The fatty wanted to speak, but maintaining speech in the face of the terrifying aura of this monster proved too difficult. This represented the vast difference between ordinary knights and members of the Blood Clan. Kaka. The sharp claws of the monster dug out the heart of the fatty. Blood flowed out, pulled by a mysterious force, and moved against the natural flow. The blood finally gathered and turned into a mini blood river. The two meatballs in the chest of the monster sucked the blood, and the fatty visibly shriveled up. The aura of the monster seemed to have become a little stronger. Delicious. This is much better than the blood of livestock. Why does the elder not allow us to drink human blood? This is delicious. The monster did not understand. Its body began to return to normal. The fatty had already become a dried corpse. The deliciousness of human blood made it forget everything. A dagger condensed from black gas, tore through the air, and stabbed deeply into its head. The dagger exploded in its head, and the liquid inside splashed everywhere. The monster felt pain. It turned its head mechanically. Its face, which had been blown up, looked a little puzzled. Half of its head looked forward. It saw the figure charging over like a phantom. A human Grand Knight. Although the Grand Knight was not its match, it did not want trouble, so it chose to escape. The skull that the black gas dagger had shattered also gradually recovered. For a secondary Blood Clan member like it, even though it could not be reborn like a primary Blood Clan member, it felt no fear of such a trivial fatal wound. Levi looked at the monster. White bones suddenly stretched out on its two ribs, connected to bright red wings. It is the Blood Clan. Damn it. Levi sent out another two blades of black gas toward it. Bang, bang. The creature felt pain. It roared angrily and flapped its wings to fly up. However, it did not escape. Instead, it flew toward Levi. At first, it did not want to fight, but this reckless Grand Knight forced it. As a noble Blood Clan member, it should not have to live in the shadows of humans. It had never approved of the idea of the elder of living peacefully with humans. It had had enough of drinking the blood of livestock like a human ascetic every day. Humans believed that those not of the same race would possess different hearts. Why should they follow the wishes of humans? The Blood Clan was more muscular and superior. Humans were just lowly food. Now, it could feel that the power of the Blood River was gradually approaching this world. At that time, even more true primary Blood Clan members, more potent than the elders, would descend into this world. They no longer needed to live in the shadows. The Blood Clan should live in this world with their heads held high. Humans were food, so they had to possess an awareness of their status as food. Its wings tore through the air and charged toward Levi. Chapter 210. Levi wore a solemn expression. Black gas swirled around his body, finally condensing into black scales that rang out like gold and iron. From the looks of it, this is undoubtedly a secondary Blood Clan member. The aura of the primary Blood Clan felt much stronger than this. If it were a primary Blood Clan member, Levi would have run away without saying a word. The black gas in his palm transformed into a sharp blade. It slashed at the incoming opponent. The sharp claws of the Blood Clan member collided with the black gas, producing the ear-piercing sound of metal striking metal. One collision told Levi that its strength did not fall below his own. Moreover, his opponent could fly, and its speed was not slow. I have to end this quickly. I cannot let it fly away. If it has external support, I will not be able to rest in peace. Originally, Levi wanted to turn a blind eye, but this creature refused to grant him any respect. Black gas filled the sky, dancing wildly and rising. Levi used his palm as a claw and grabbed its hind leg. It lost its balance and fell from the sky after the black gas caught it. Levi took advantage of the situation. The floor cracked, and rocks flew everywhere. Frostmourne unsheathed and nailed the Blood Clan monster to the ground. Given the physique of the Blood Clan, Levi knew that these external injuries meant nothing. In terms of self-healing ability, even his own transcendent physique could not compare to the mighty power of the Blood Clan. Their self-healing ability did not originate from themselves, but from the supreme Blood River will. It remained far beyond imagination, even for a secondary Blood Clan member. Levi dared not be negligent. While the Blood Clan monster remained nailed to the ground, he had already prepared the Seal of Flame. The azure blue flames of the level 3 Seal of Flame appeared like ghosts in the night. They swept out with a bang. A sizzling sound like frying oil filled the air. The monster wailed in agony. Its cries echoed through the empty alley. As expected, a weak monster, Levi smashed the head of the monster with a punch. He relied on his powerful level 9 black scale and frost giant armor to withstand the ferocious attacks of his opponent. These attacks could easily tear apart the defense and armor of ordinary Grand Knights. This Blood Clan monster possessed slightly more substance than an ordinary top-tier Grand Knight, because its attributes remained robust. It stood equivalent to a weakened version of Levi. In particular, its physique and strength felt slightly more substantial than those of Levi. Fortunately, Levi possessed the seal. Surging seals went out one after another. The body of the monster burned, but even so, it did not die. Instead, it struggled violently and broke free from the restraints of Levi. It knew that it stood no match for the Grand Knight. Its short burst of power was no weaker than the human Grand Knight in front of it, but his endurance was too powerful. He was not human at all. Moreover, his defense was monstrous. It flapped its bone wings and took off. How could Levi let it go? If this monster flew away, catching it again would prove impossible. Members of the Blood Clan were good at hiding, and could even change their appearance. As long as they wanted to hide, Levi could not find them. Levi grabbed its wings and felt himself lifted from the ground. Without hesitation, he snapped his fingers. The phantom of the frost giant appeared. The vampire looked even more terrified. It roared, a wizard tool. It was evident that the Blood Clan knew about wizard tools. First ring spell, frost giant sigh. The cold wind blew past, and it seemed out of place in the warm winter night of Flower City. the body of the monster began to stiffen. Its bodily fluids had already frozen, but its physical fitness remained extreme, and its heart still thumped. Levi's firstborn took the opportunity to stab its heart. He poured out the black gas, and the black gas surged into the heart. The surging black gas burst the heart of his opponent. Compared to the brain, the heart was the weakness of the monster. In addition, the frost giant's sigh had a freezing effect. Snowflakes fell from the sky. They fell together. There was also the corpse of the Blood Clan. It fell straight to the ground from a height of 100 meters. Levi stepped on its corpse and crashed to the ground. The frozen body had lost its powerful defense and became fragile. Coupled with the fact that it was falling from a high altitude, the impenetrable corpse smashed into the ground and shattered into pieces. However, it was still not dead. This made Levi understand why Blood Clan monsters were so troublesome. It is a pity that I do not have the inheritance of the Van Helsing family. Otherwise, it would be much easier to deal with them. Levi could only use the Seal of Flame to continue attacking. In the end, the corpse of the Blood Clan monster roasted until only a charred and dried skeleton remained. It shattered into ashes, and it was utterly dead. Levi used the iron box he had prepared beforehand to store the remains of the corpse. Levi felt this would be useful if the Blood Clan corpse served as a casting material. He looked at the mess on the ground. Levi cleaned up the apparent traces of battle. He placed dry wood on the ground, scorched black by the Seal of Flame. He placed the torn clothes of the Blood Clan monster and the body of the fat noble in the fire and burned them. The fire burned brightly at night. In this case, it can cover up the traces of my Seal of Flame, Levi muttered. Then he left. He killed a Blood Clan member. He remained a little nervous. What if there was some inexplicable connection between the Blood Clan monsters? Chapter 211. They would not come looking for revenge, would they? The following day, a group of people gathered in the deserted alley. Last night, there seemed to be a ghost crying here. Do you think there are evil spirits in the city? It looks like an intense battle broke out here. The ground has cracked open. It is too terrifying. I can already imagine how powerful both sides are. Well, it cannot be the Mind Flayers, can it? It is possible. I heard that the Lord was investigating the Mind Flayers. I wonder what the result is. People discussed and gradually dispersed. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Sure enough, no more signs of the Mind Flayers appeared. The serial murder case seemed to have finally come to an end. In the castle, Levi also heaved a sigh of relief. It had been a month, and no Blood Clan monsters had come to seek revenge. It seemed that this monster might be an exception. The mastermind behind the serial murders in Tulip Hill and the nearby territories should be the Blood Clan monster he killed. Now that it was dead, the nearby area was peaceful. Somewhere in the Emerald Kingdom, in a remote abandoned castle, sat a gloomy place devoid of sunlight all day long. This place had been deserted for a long time. The castle had long since been forgotten after its owner died. Not far from the castle, there was a mass grave. Tombstones stood everywhere in the cemetery. On the tombstones, there were no names. Instead, they bore symbols of animals. Deer, wild boars, night ravens, and animal skeletons were piled under these tombstones. In a dark corner of the castle, a coffin seemed to have decayed. The coffin was covered, and some hexagram patterns were carved in blood around it. They were demonic and mysterious. Behind the coffin was a suit of armor. It was a dark red armor that emitted an ancient aura. The armor looked rusty, as one would expect after staying in a dark and humid place for a long time. Next to the armor was a 1.5-meter long scythe. It looked like a blood-colored crescent moon, emitting a faint black light. The scythe looked made of mithril, with some rune patterns carved on it. There were some small letters on the scythe handle. Brad. The coffin suddenly opened. A shriveled corpse suddenly sat up. A rat appeared beside the coffin. The rat was soon turned into a dried corpse. It was as if he had drunk life-saving holy water. The shriveled corpse said hoarsely, "How long have I been sleeping?" He arrived outside the castle and looked at the blood-bred forest behind the courtyard. This was the sapling he had planted before he fell asleep. The blood-bred tree was rare. This kind of tree could emit a strange fragrance. It lured all kinds of wild animals in the forest to come under the tree to eat the leaves of its trees. However, the leaves of the blood-bred tree were poisonous. These wild animals would die instantly after eating them. Their blood would be absorbed by the powerful roots of the blood-bred tree and stored in the trunk. He exerted strength in his palm and gently stabbed it into the hard trunk of the blood-bred tree. Blood oozed out of the wound like resin. The blood turned into a river flowing in the air and finally entered his mouth. With the continuous infusion of blood, his shriveled body began to fill up. Finally, he turned into a handsome man 2 meters tall and slender. His voice was no longer hoarse. It was as if he had returned to his youth. Judging from the growth of these blood-bred trees, I should have been asleep for 200 years. The last time I walked in the human world, I used the identity of Blood Knight Brad. Unfortunately, that identity has been remembered by the church, so it is not convenient to use it. If it were not for the death of a junior, perhaps I would still be in a deep sleep. It seems that these juniors began to feel uneasy while I was in a deep sleep. To kill a third generation of the secondary blood clan, he must have the strength of a top-tier Grand Knight. He should be close to a legendary knight. I wonder if there are any new legends in the human world after such a long time. The figure of the handsome man changed into a slightly aged old man. This time, I will change my identity. The identity of a legendary knight is too dazzling. From now on, I will be Knight Anderson. The self-proclaimed Knight Anderson returned to the castle. When he reappeared, he was already wearing rusty dark red armor and a sickle wrapped in cloth. He was the elder of the Blood Clan, the member Levi had killed. Although he was not a primary Blood Clan member, in the hearts of many clan members, his prestige was not inferior to that of a primary Blood Clan member. After all, he belonged to the first generation of the secondary Blood Clan members, the strongest of the secondary Blood Clan. Other than that, he also had another identity. The legendary knight, Blood Knight Brad. 200 years ago, he used to walk in the human world as Blood Knight Brad. After he became a Blood Clan member, he had always asked himself to uphold justice and eliminate evil with the honor and morality of a knight. He was one of the very few peace-loving members of the Blood Clan. Since his debut, he had never drunk human blood and always cultivated with the blood of wild animals. In the end, he became a legendary knight step by step. Unfortunately, his identity as the legendary knight Brad became increasingly famous, and his prestige increased. Chapter 212. It was a severe threat to the faith of the church. Therefore, the church kept its eyes on him. The pope of that generation used his foundation to encircle and suppress him. Ultimately, he could only fake his death and escape. He hid in the castle and slept for a long time, slowly healing his injuries. Only now had he fully recovered. Just because a junior died, it became the fuse to awaken him. Anderson had lived for so long, so he knew there was a high chance that the Blood Clan member did not remember his teachings and had been discovered by human experts by feeding on human blood. He did not know if the one who killed her was the church or some other human powerhouse. The Blood River Will was also continuously infiltrating this world with the awakening of the Dark Wave. This was not a good thing. Anderson knew that a Blood Clan member like him was an anomaly. Most of the Blood Clan members, especially those belonging to the primary Blood Clan, did not have the moral concepts or the sense of good and evil that humans possessed. They took human blood for granted, just like how humans ate beef. They felt no guilt at all. Humans were also in their homeland, because this was the law of their survival. The humans there were the blood food raised by the Blood Clan. They were pigs. It was just like how humans in this world raised livestock. No matter what, I will try my best to prevent the worst from happening, Anderson muttered. His figure disappeared into the forest. He wanted to go where the junior died and visit the expert who could kill the Blood Clan member. He would not mind teaching them a lesson if they belonged to the church. Even a good person like him felt anger if his good intentions were treated like a donkey liver. Now that the Blood River Will had infiltrated his body, his power grew more potent. He felt it was time for the church to pay the price for its immoral actions 200 years ago. Naturally, Levi did not know that a first generation of the secondary Blood Clan, a legendary knight, had targeted him. He remained at home, cultivating meditation art and breathing techniques while waiting for the Magi to come and pick him up. The meditation art proficiency increased daily at a tortoise-like speed, regardless of the weather. Levi remained helpless against it. His breathing technique changed day by day, breaking through rapidly. It was the year 1015 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, the moon of the wheat field. Tulip Hill enjoyed a bumper harvest. The territory was filled with joy. During this period, the army of Levi also expanded. To defend such a large territory, the original Blackwater Valley troops were not enough. During this period of cultivation, Levi also looked for his successor. This successor had to be loyal to him. When he left the territory and headed to the wizard world, the successor would continue to manage the place and wealth for Levi. This way, when he returned, he could bring the wealth over. As far as Levi knew, there were also mortal gathering places in the wizard world. In these human gathering places, gold coins remained the common currency. When he became a wizard apprentice, he could still use gold coins to buy basic living materials or supplies. Although some alchemy wizards had mastered the real alchemy and could create materials like gold, the cost of such alchemy remained extremely high. The price of artificial gold was several times that of natural gold, and it was not universal at all. Therefore, gold remained the currency some wizard apprentices or mortals used to transact ordinary goods. It was still precious. This was also why Levi decided to take back Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill. He needed to support a force in the human world that could provide him with cultivation resources in the wizard world. Many wizards did this. Perhaps some prominent merchant association or power stood behind it. There were traces of wizards. Therefore, Levi could not relinquish the territory, which was part of his wealth and spiritual land. Unfortunately, he was still young. It seemed too late to marry a wife and have a child to inherit his territory. Levi did not have such thoughts, so he still had to find a reliable agent in the human world. This agent must be loyal to him, and it would be best if he had the strength of a Grand Knight. Only then would he be able to intimidate ferocious people. I am worried. Levi sat in silence. He could only think of two methods. One was to use the living dead controlled by the seal of hell to replace him and guard the territory. The advantage was absolute loyalty and sufficient strength. The downside was that their intelligence was too low, and they could not handle complicated lord matters. Moreover, this living dead probably could not be used in the human world after he entered the wizard world. The second method was to use the man-faced spider kiss to control a Grand Knight for his use. The advantage was that it was a living person with no problem with intelligence. The disadvantage was that such a Grand Knight was threatened by death and might not be loyal enough. Moreover, to maintain this relationship, he had to give the Grand Knight the antidote every year. If only there were a spell that could control real living people. There must be such a spell, but I have not mastered it yet, nor does that Tutton, Levi sighed. If he had that kind of enslavement spell, he could enslave a Grand Knight for his use and manage his territory. Forget it, I will take it one step at a time. There is still time, anyway. I can pay attention to things in this area during this period. Levi walked out of the castle. He had been cultivating his breathing techniques during this period, and his strength had improved a little. However, Levi already had this particular effect, so there was little chance of repeating it. It had to break through to level 9 to allow his speed to rise to another level. This time, Levi came out of seclusion mainly because he wanted to walk to green bug territory. He still did not want to give up on the Scorpion Knight method of controlling scorpions. He decided to find a way to see this method before he left the human world and entered the wizard world. This way, he could have another trump card. Chapter 213. When Levi left Tulip Hill, a plain-looking old man in armor also stepped into Flower City. The old man was the first generation of the secondary blood clan. To avoid attracting attention, he dyed his dark red armor black. His current identity was Knight Anderson, a wandering knight, and not the Blood Knight Brad. That legendary knight was already dead. He first went to Shining Tavern. Your Excellency, today's pass is blood wine. The burly man at the entrance of the Shining Tavern reminded him warmly. He feared that Anderson would not understand, so he even introduced the origin and symbolic meaning of the blood wine to him. Knight Anderson smiled. Blood wine. He immediately ordered a cup of blood wine and drank it in one gulp. Blood wine was not blood, but red wine. It was as red as blood and was called blood wine. This wine tasted lovely. Not bad, Anderson laughed. Thank you for the compliment. After drinking this cup of blood wine, I hope you will be as famous as the Blood Knight. Anderson cursed in his heart. Was he famous everywhere? He wanted to live a low-key life now. It was not wise to go against the church. When one thought the church was already rotten, the damned church would always be like a centipede that had died, but would revive. It was unknown where they had gotten their hands on some so-called sealing sacred objects. These sacred objects often had miraculous powers. It was said that the gods blessed them with incredible strength. Using them often required the church to bear a considerable price. Therefore, the church would not use such resources if it could. The power of the sealing sacred objects was very great. Once, an influential primary blood clan member committed evil for a while, and sucked the blood of an entire town, creating a shocking disaster. The Church of Holy Light immediately used one of the powerful sealing sacred objects. The primary blood clan member, which had destroyed a town and killed several official wizards, was burned under the item. Therefore, even someone as powerful as Anderson would not go head on with the church. However, if he taught the church a lesson and made them suffer a little, it would at least make his 200 years of suffering a little better. Knight Anderson wandered around Shining Tavern alone. His perception was powerful. Whether due to his robust body or his cultivation of a legendary knight, he had a perception that surpassed that of ordinary Grand Knights. Eavesdropping on some conversations was too easy. There was no better place to gather information than Shining Tavern. Knight Anderson asked around. He found that Blood Clan members had been roaming around Flower City some time ago. There were also some in the nearby territories. Mind flares. It should be Vanina. Poor Vanina. I often told her that her desires should not control her. She should be the master of her desires, not a slave to them. It seems like she has broken her precepts. Vanina was the name of the female Blood Clan member that Levi had killed. She could be considered a third generation of the secondary Blood Clan, who was exceptionally talented in the memories of Knight Anderson. If the church killed you, I will avenge you. But if it is the revenge of the people you hurt, then I cannot do anything about it. This was the limit of what Knight Anderson could do. Deep in his bones, he was more inclined to think of himself as a human. Therefore, he preferred to stand on the side of the humans. Even though he knew Vanina had done the evil first, his moral principles and Knight code made it impossible for him to side with her. He was causing trouble for the church primarily because of the personal grudge between him and the church. Finally, Knight Anderson left the tavern. He wandered the city and finally found the place where the incident happened, the trace of ore left behind by Vanina. The battlefield had been leveled and repaired by the men of Levi. However, the sense of smell of Anderson was extremely sharp. He could smell the scent of Vanina. He followed her scent and continued to search. Finally, he stopped in front of the towering Black Snake Castle. The church does not kill her. Interesting. I did not expect the Lord of Flower City to be so powerful, Anderson muttered. He politely approached the edge of the castle and asked the guard. Cough, young man, I am a wandering knight. I have something to report to the Lord. Please help me inform him. The guard said, Old man, the Lord has gone out. Please return. All right then. Knight Anderson shook his head. Naturally, he could barge in. However, it was impolite to barge into the castle of someone else like that, and it did not conform to his inner moral code. It was precisely because he had strictly followed the moral code for so many years that Knight Anderson could constantly suppress the desire of the blood clan in his body. So he slowly left. He planned to stay in this city, first to feel the changes of the times, understand some things, and simultaneously wait for the return of the Lord. Levi was already in the territory of the Scorpion Knight. Since he killed the Scorpion Knight, Levi had been unable to forget about those strange scorpions. Although insects are not beasts, the wild heart should be usable, right? Levi muttered. He thought he would catch and tame a few if he could not find a method to control the poisonous scorpions. Chapter 214. Compared to the humongous beasts like Hen Ha2 Generals Ha, These elusive poisonous scorpions suited actual combat better. It also proved convenient for Levi to carry them with him. Within the city, the kingdom had rewarded the Scorpion family for their contribution to quelling the rebellion in Montenegro Mountain. The current patriarch of the Scorpion family was an ordinary Grand Knight. This Grand Knight, Knight Lyle, remained in the secret room of his family, studying the private method left behind by his father. Saint Insect Defending Technique. One of the saint insects in this secret technique was saint scorpions, which were highly poisonous. Their most potent attribute was an iron shell, which was impenetrable and extremely hard. The father of Knight Lyle, the Scorpion Knight, had once controlled over 1,000 saint scorpions at his peak. If he prepared, the average Grand Knight would not stand a match for these saint scorpions. Even top-tier Grand Knights might fail. This treasure represented the most precious asset of the Scorpion family. It also served as the foundation of their family. However, many of the saint scorpions escaped after the death of his father. Knight Lyle had captured less than 1/10 of them. These 100 saint scorpions were his last seeds. It was very troublesome to raise a saint scorpion. It needed fresh flesh and blood as food. However, this served only as the lowest level of blood food. The saint scorpions that were nurtured had average strength. The best saint scorpions required feeding on living creatures that had just died. Among the living beings in the mortal world, humans were the best. Using humans to feed saint scorpions was undoubtedly against human ethics. Therefore, he had to nurture saint scorpions secretly. In the secret room of the Scorpion family, saint scorpions were hibernating in the Scorpion Pond, and living people on the verge of death were thrown into the Scorpion Pond. Most of these people were criminals, vagrants, refugees, captives, or people who had offended the Scorpion family. They were thrown into the Scorpion Pond, and soon, their bodies were covered with saint scorpions. They struggled, but it proved useless. The expression of Knight Lyle was cold. The Scorpion family had always been ruthless. It was an old tradition of his family to feed the living holy armor. The saint scorpions nurtured in this way would be even more powerful. When Knight Lyle watched the scorpion eat a living person, sounds of fighting came from outside. This made him frown. He wore his armor, picked up his weapon, and left the secret room. A black-clothed man wearing a bird of death mask inside the castle stood at the top of the tower, looking down at the soldiers below. The arrows shot by the soldiers could not get close at all. They were all scattered by the black gas around him. An expert, an absolute expert. Knight Lyle felt shock. "Are you from the Bird of Death voice?" Knight Lyle asked. He pressed his weapon, ready to attack at any moment. Although the other party was suspected to be a top-tier Grand Knight, and he was no match for him, this remained the territory of the Scorpion family, after all. He did not believe they could not subdue a Grand Knight with so many people. Levi looked down at the Grand Knight. According to the information he had received, this was the current head of the Scorpion family, the heir of the old Scorpion Knight. "I heard that the Scorpion family can control poisonous insects and make enemies tremble in fear. I will tell you straight. I am very interested in the method to control poisonous insects. I will leave now if you hand over the technique and poisonous insects," Levi said. In his heart, he felt that he had finally stepped into the ranks of the fanatics. The Scorpion family had no enmity with him in the past or the present. Knight Lyle was furious and sneered. "Your Excellency, you sure are arrogant. The Scorpion family has been famous in the south for hundreds of years. This is the first time we have been threatened. Even the Duke of Montenegro has never given in. You are just an assassin of the Bird of Death voice, and you want to get your hands on our ancestral secret technique. What a joke. Men, crossbowmen, shoot this person to death." The army of the Scorpion family swarmed over. The expression of Levi did not change. Like a bat knight, his black cape fluttered as he leaped high, releasing countless poisonous gases. As expected of the despicable Bird of Death voice, using poison right from the start. "Quick, everyone, hold your breath. Do not breathe in poison gas." Knight Lyle personally knocked his bow and shot at Levi. Levi grabbed the arrow shot by Knight Lyle and threw it out. The hand was wrapped in black gas. Pitchy. The arrow shot into the armor of Knight Lyle. The expression of Knight Lyle changed drastically. His arrowhead had been dipped in the poison of the saint scorpions. Who would have thought that the enemy would be so assertive? Not only could he catch the arrow with his bare hands, but he could also reflect it and break his armor. This kind of usage of black gas was unheard of. "Then I am sorry." Levi turned into an afterimage and swept over. With a loud boom, a group of soldiers flew when he landed on the ground. Levi appeared in front of Knight Lyle. "I mean what I say, patriarch of the Scorpion family," Levi threatened. Knight Lyle looked at his opponent, who had easily defeated him. At this moment, he was terrified. The enemy was so powerful. It was far beyond his imagination. In his opinion, even the legendary knight in the legends were nothing more than this, right? "Think carefully, patriarch of the Scorpion family. Is your life more important, or is the secret technique more important?" Levi said. Chapter 215. The patriarch of the Scorpion family panicked. In the end, forced by the tyrannical power of Levi, he ordered his subordinates to retreat. He brought Levi into the secret room, where the saint scorpions were raised. Levi looked at the poisonous scorpions in the pond. "It is this thing. It can devour souls." Levi looked at the saint scorpions and muttered. However, Levi frowned when he saw the people being devoured by the scorpions. "You feed the scorpions with living humans?" Levi asked. "These people would not live long even if they were not fed to the saint scorpions," Knight Lyle said. "They are just people who are about to die. You would do the same if you wanted to nurture powerful saint scorpions." Levi said nothing. Under the threat of death, Night Lyle handed a sheepskin notebook to Levi. Levi took the sheepskin notebook and glanced through it. It was the method to control the poisonous insects. Saint Insect Defending Technique. Saint scorpions and many other poisonous insects can be raised and tamed. This is a good thing. It must be the masterpiece of a wizard. Although Levi did not look closely, he knew that it was not something that an ordinary person could create. It was a work written by a wizard who studied the school of poisonous insects and monsters. Wizards had a wide range of research. It was customary for a school that specialized in poisonous insects to exist. That is right, you did not lie to me. Unfortunately, I am an assassin of Bird of Death voice. I do not keep my word and I am despicable and shameless. Levi sneered and shattered the heart meridian and life seeds of Night Lyle with a palm strike, killing him instantly. An ordinary Grand Knight like him was no match for Levi. Since he had already offended the Scorpion family, he would offend them to the end. The Scorpion family was a family that held grudges. If he let Night Lyle go now, although he did it as Bird of Death voice, he might be found in the future. It was better for him to die. After Levi killed Night Lyle, he searched the secret room. According to the Saint Insect Defending Technique, there were usually unique breeding bags for poisonous insects. He searched for a while and finally found a strange bag hanging on the wall. It seemed to be sewn from some animal fur, and there were some runes flashing on it. This should be it. Levi picked up the bag and opened it with the magic of the secret technique. He jumped into the scorpion pond and used his black scales to protect his body, while grabbing the poisonous scorpions with his bare hands. He could feel that the saint scorpions were nibbling at his black scales. What a powerful poisonous insect. My black scales are invulnerable, but cannot withstand its bite. As expected of a mutated insect bred by a wizard, Levi praised in his heart, and became even happier. His strength could rise to another level when he mastered this method of controlling poisonous scorpions. This way, after he entered the wizard world, he would have more means to deal with his enemies. He felt delighted. Suddenly, Levi remembered that the saint scorpions could devour souls, so he took out the corpse of Night Lyle. Immediately, a bunch of saint scorpions lay on the head of Night Lyle. They crawled on the ground as if performing some evil ritual. Then, they sucked in the air. Tutton was released by Levi and said when he saw this scene, "What a powerful insect. It can devour souls." This poisonous scorpion is undoubtedly a creation of the wizard from the School of Insects. Is the School of Insects also a wizard school? Levi asked. That is right. However, it is a relatively unpopular school of thought. People tend to classify it as the School of Mutation. After all, it is a weirdo who studies mutated poisonous insects. Soon, before his black scales were bitten to pieces, Levi finally put all 100 saint scorpions into the bag. The soul of Night Lyle was also devoured. After devouring the soul of Night Lyle, Levi noticed that a few scorpions seemed to have eaten until they were round. They lay motionless on the ground as if they had overeaten. I hope they will not die from being stuffed, Levi thought. As long as this method of controlling poisonous insects can be displayed on the proficiency panel, it will be convenient. He picked up the body of Night Lyle and wrapped it up. Although he was an ordinary Grand Knight, he could still be considered the fifth member of his living dead family. It was not a problem for him to be cannon fodder. This was the rational use of corpses. When the 5 generals of the living dead family were all crippled in the future, their flesh could be fed to the saint scorpions and recycled. An evil secret technique, but I like it. The more evil it was, the more powerful it was. For the sake of strength, Levi did not mind becoming one of those weirdos. He searched the mansion of the Scorpion family and found a few more saint scorpions that had escaped. Levi also found the breathing technique inheritance map of the Scorpion family. Unfortunately, it was the strength-type breathing technique that he disliked the most. It could only be cultivated to the peak of level 8, and was considered a second-rate breathing technique of excellent quality. In the end, Levi threw down the mask of the Bird of Death voice and sneakily returned to Black Snake Castle in Flower City with the corpse of Night Lyle. After returning, Levi turned Night Lyle into a walking dead. Levi named it Demon Scorpion. It was used to commemorate the poor Scorpion family. At this point, Levi already had Magic Shark, Demon Mountain, Demon High, Spectre, and Demon Scorpion under his command. What a luxurious lineup. There are still 2 empty seats left. I wonder which 2 lucky fellows will benefit from it. This fixed establishment is a blessing that these people took 500 years to cultivate, Levi laughed in his heart. Conversely, the Scorpion family received terrible news a few days later. An assassin of the Bird of Death voice attacked the Scorpion family. This major event became the gossip topic of the southern nobles after dinner. The kingdom strongly condemned the despicable behavior of Bird of Death voice. During this period, Levi had been studying the Saint Insect Defending Technique without sleep or food, preparing to record the method of controlling poisonous insects in this secret technique on his proficiency panel. Chapter 216. Saint Insect Defending Technique. It was indeed not simple. This was a genuine wizard book. This was what Levi felt when he studied the secret technique these days. The author of this manual was unknown, but there was no doubt that the author was the master of the School of Insects that Tutton mentioned. The contents of this manual were profound. To Levi, it was even more difficult to comprehend than breathing technique inheritance diagrams. Many of the terms were incomprehensible to those not senior researchers of the School of Insects. From the perspective of Levi, this book was meant for professional wizards. It was not something that a half-wizard like him could comprehend quickly. I picked up a treasure. Levi felt overjoyed. As for the other contents, Levi was still unable to comprehend them. However, there was no problem with the saint scorpions. After all, if the scorpion family could understand it, he would have no problem with it. According to the classification of all the different insects in the multidimensional planes, the insects in the world could be divided into 3 classes. High-grade insects often come from multidimensional planes. They were powerful, and wizards did not dare to provoke them easily. If too many of these insects existed, it would be the most terrifying insect plague in the world. Even wizards had to avoid them. Middle-grade insects were also relatively rare. Many of them were hybrids of the visitors from the multidimensional planes and the insects of this world. As for the low-grade insects, they were some ancient insects of this world, such as saint scorpions. It was a relatively famous poisonous insect. The saint scorpion itself was a highly poisonous creature in the world. The man-faced spider tears that Levi had refined required the poison of the saint scorpions. However, the most vital point of the saint scorpion was that its shell was tough and impenetrable. It could even bite the black gas and even devour souls. If these poisonous insects devoured souls, there was a slight chance they would evolve their life level. It was possible to evolve from a low-grade insect to a medium-grade, or even a high-grade insect. Of course, this required a long nurturing process. Generally speaking, no wizard would do such an extra thing. This was because the strength of a single saint scorpion was limited. A large group of saint scorpions was required to form considerable power. If he wanted to nurture a large group of evolved saint scorpions, the time, energy, material, and financial resources needed were unimaginable. Therefore, the school of insects wizards preferred to cultivate high-grade insects directly. It does not matter. I am patient anyway. After Levi saw it, he felt that the saint insect defending technique was not simple. It was also very suitable for him. If one day, he could use the proficiency panel to nurture thousands of evolved saint scorpions, then with a wave of his hand, the army of scorpions would cover the sky and devour everything. This would be a living natural disaster. Not bad. Levi was comprehending the saint insect defending technique. The bag used to store the saint scorpions was called Bughouse. To a certain extent, the Bughouse was also a wizard tool. Moreover, it was a spatial magic tool similar to the Bag of Gluttony. However, the Bag of Gluttony was a creation of the School of Death. The Bughouse was a creation of the School of Insects. This kind of wizard tool only had one use. It was to become the little pets of the wizards of the School of Insects. Of course, the Bughouse was of a higher grade than the Bag of Gluttony. This was because the Bughouse could also be used to store other things, as long as one did not worry about the items being eaten by the bugs. Interesting. It is like I have 2 storage items. No matter what, the Bughouse is more reliable than the Bag of Gluttony. I can put my important things in the Bughouse. I must ensure that the poisonous bugs I put in will not devour the things in the bag. Levi felt delighted. Currently, there were more than 100 saint scorpions in the Bughouse. The opening of the Bughouse required a mantra, and Levi had already memorized it. Levi placed his essential things in the Bughouse, such as hammers and a large amount of gold. Saint scorpions ate flesh and souls, not metals, so they would not be eaten. At the same time, Levi took a saint scorpion from the Bughouse and placed it in his palm. He used black gas to grab the saint scorpion, and it kept struggling in his hand. It also used its sharp mouth to gnaw at the black gas defense of Levi. So powerful. What is this mouth made of? A knife cannot cut my black scales, but this mouth part can bite. Although it can only bite a little, it will be very terrifying if it bites a lot. Levi looked at the poisonous insects curiously. He planned to try the method of controlling the saint scorpions from the saint insect defending technique. There were 2 ways to control saint scorpions. The first method was the blood defense technique. Simply put, it was to continuously feed his blood to the saint scorpions once a day. The advantage of this method was that it would take effect faster, but the disadvantage was that it would harm the body. Moreover, as the number of saint scorpions increased, it was evident that feeding them with his blood was impossible every day. In any case, Levi would not do this. Over time, it would harm his body, and the gains would not compensate for the losses. The scorpion family used this simple method to control the saint scorpions. Levi planned to use the second method, divine obstruction. As the name suggested, it was a technique that used one's spiritual force to control the saint scorpions. This was the most authentic way to control it. After all, wizards cultivated spiritual power, the most suitable way to control it. Chapter 217. However, using mental power to control saint scorpions also required a corresponding spell. The authentic school of insects control spell on the saint scorpions was called Sacred Insect Touch. This was a proper first ring spell, and Levi could not cast it. Although this saint insect defending technique seemed to have recorded the spell model of this first ring spell, it was useless to Levi. To a man with no foundation in spells, that was like a humanities student reading calculus. He could not understand it at all. Therefore, he could only settle for the next best thing. He would use a 0-ring cantrip to barely control it. Levi felt it was feasible to use it with his wild heart. He would use the traditional blood defense technique if it did not work. This 0-ring cantrip was called the insect controlling technique. It might sound like a high-end technique, but the earliest inventor of this trick was a wizard apprentice who could not make it in the wizard world. After returning to the human world, he devised this trick by controlling poisonous insects as a circus act. It was just a trick. Generally speaking, its power was not that great. Therefore, the effect of this insect controlling technique was much worse than that of a proper first ring spell. However, the insect controlling technique was straightforward to learn. Over time, it became a must-learn trick for some school wizards. Levi looked at the spell model of the insect controlling technique. Such a simple spell model was drawn on a flat surface. Because of its simple structure, it could be displayed on a two-dimensional surface. According to Tutton, the complicated high-level spells and models were all displayed in the crystal ball in a three-dimensional form. That was the only way to display the complicated structures of a spell model. Therefore, according to some wandering poets, wizards would always hold a crystal ball in their hands and stare at it in boredom. This was a wizard studying the spell model. However, the insect controlling technique was not a complicated spell. It was the most straightforward trick, only a little more advanced than the performance of a charlatan. No matter what, this was still a challenge for Levi. Before this, Levi had never learned any spells, nor had he possessed a systematic teacher to teach him. Therefore, he had no confidence that he could successfully construct the spell model of the insect controlling technique. In the following weeks, Levi stopped cultivating the breathing technique. His daily work consisted entirely of acquiring meditation art and comprehending the spell model of the insect controlling technique. At least he had a guide, teacher Tutton. Although Tutton was not very skilled, he had mastered some cantrips as a wizard when he was alive. He was also quite knowledgeable about the construction of spell models for cantrips. With Tutton explaining the steps, Levi gained a preliminary understanding of spell model construction. The spell model was similar to setting up a program and writing code. Levi needed to constantly observe the spell model, and then use his mental power to construct the framework inside his mind. This was the foundation of learning spells. Only by mastering the spell model could one cast spells in the future. The critical step for a wizard to create a wizard tool was to build this model on weapons or props. This step was called solidification. Of course, the prerequisite for solidification was that he had already grasped the spell model. Moreover, not all spell models could be solidified on items. Only some could. The insect controlling technique could be solidified. If Levi could master the spell model of the insect controlling technique, he could solidify this spell onto some unique materials. For example, he could refine an insect flute, which could barely be considered a wizard tool. At that time, he only needed to play the insect flute to control the saint scorpions. However, spell solidification was a skill that only an official wizard possessed. Even if an apprentice mastered a cantrip, they could not solidify it on a wizard tool. The spell model of the insect controlling technique only had three significant structures. It looked like a triangle. However, this was not a simple triangle. There were many essential spell nodes on it. The spell nodes must all be completed. The first step of the spell model must be executed perfectly. The more advanced the spell model, the more complicated it became. There were triangles, quadrants, pentagons, hexagons, and complex hexagons, hexagrams, and octograms. The higher the spell level, the more complicated the model structure, and the number of nodes involved would also increase. Levi looked at the simplest insect controlling technique and realized he needed to construct dozens of spell nodes. Tutton had said that complicated magic spells had nearly 100 nodes. This made Levi think of the tiny figures on breathing technique inheritance diagrams. The two seemed to have the same effect in this aspect. Official spells had hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of nodes. The higher the level, the more nodes there were, and the more complicated it became. Levi could imagine it would take a wizard years, or even decades to construct a complex spell model. This was like constructing a building in his mind, where the more complicated the spell, the higher the structure, and the higher the difficulty level. Chapter 218. Of course, Levi did not need to worry about this yet. He only needed to build these dozens of nodes and the insect controlling technique model, which would be a breakthrough. Levi spent a month comprehending. During this month, he did not even cultivate breathing techniques. He practiced the meditation art day and night, then focused entirely on comprehending the spell model of the insect controlling technique. After working tirelessly for a month, he had only completed half of the nodes. The difficulty of learning spells left a deep impression on him. He did not know if it was because he was a beginner, or if the process would always be like this in the future. If he continued to progress at this speed, becoming an official wizard would be incredibly tough. When he asked Tutton, the old wizard gave an answer that made Levi completely relieved. If a wizard can build his first spell model in a month, even if it is the simplest cantrip, then he is a genius in the field of spell model construction. It is slower the first time, because it is a process of starting from scratch. It will be much better after that. Of course, some complicated spell models will still take a lot of time, so a wizard is always busy. This made Levi feel at ease. His construction speed was not slow at all. He did not have an official wizard as his mentor, so he felt he could be considered a minor wizarding genius. So what if he was one of the children of chaos? His ability to comprehend spell models was pretty good. During this period, Anderson came to the castle to find Levi again. However, Levi remained in closed-door cultivation, and he had instructed his subordinates that he would not meet anyone. Knight Anderson did not disturb him, choosing instead to wait patiently in Flower City. He possessed plenty of patience as a Blood Clan member with a long lifespan. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the master of the Black Snake Castle was not simple. Therefore, he wanted to meet this young man. Within Black Snake Castle, Levi put all his heart and soul into constructing the spell model. In the second month, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the speed of his node construction seemed to have increased a little. Initially, he could build a node in a day and a half. Now, he could make a node every day. Practice makes perfect. This is the truth. Levi was delighted and struck while the iron was hot. Meditate, meditate, construct. The cycle repeated. Finally, at the end of the month of Northern Wind of the year 1015 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, a precise and mysterious spell model lit up like a star in his mind. If Levi's mind were compared to a star map, this spell model was like a constellation connected by starlight. After nearly 2 months, the spell model of the insect controlling technique was finally constructed successfully. This provided a great encouragement to Levi. Without a mentor, he had comprehended a spell model entirely by himself. Levi, as expected of you. He gave himself a thumbs up in his heart. Of course, he did not become arrogant and complacent. Building a spell model is only the beginning of spell cultivation. Next, you will need to improve through continuous spellcasting practice to become more skilled, accurate, and powerful. The cultivation of spells was similar to that of seals. There was no shortcut to increase proficiency, only the continuous practice of spellcasting. Of course, if he were a son of element, his cultivation speed would be faster than a child of chaos like Levi. Thanks to their affinity with a single element, those individuals were able to cultivate the meditation art and spells of the corresponding elemental school, as if the gods blessed them. However, the insect control technique was a spell from the school of the worm. It was closer to the life school of thought, the school of death, and the school of alchemy. The tremendous significance of the birth of a new school was to open a path for most ordinary wizards with the talent of the children of chaos. This was because they had the lowest requirements for elemental affinity compared to the old elementalist school. Of course, the lowest requirement did not mean no criteria. To become a wizard, one still had to have the talent of a child of chaos. This was because regardless of whether it was the new or old school, everything relied on the 4 great wills of creation: earth, fire, wind, and water. However, the old school relied heavily on elemental affinity, while the new school relied less. After successfully constructing the spell model of the insect controlling technique, Levi opened his proficiency panel. He realized that a new skill had appeared on the screen. Insect controlling technique, level 1, 1 out of 1000. Perfect. Once you get on my proficiency panel, I will cultivate you to the maximum. Levi felt a surge of confidence. The next step was simple. He would practice the insect controlling technique. The insect controlling technique did not require casting materials. He only needed to use his spiritual power to communicate continuously with the poisonous insects he controlled. Levi took out a Saint Scorpion. His mental strength flowed along the constructed insect controlling technique spell model. After circulating, it formed a faint connection. He instantly felt as if he had an invisible hand, or rather, a sensation similar to the mother tree on Pandora. This was the high-level wild heart, which allowed Levi to use his spirit to communicate with Saint Scorpions. Of course, the advantage of the wild heart was that it could be used on all kinds of wild beasts. However, the insect controlling technique could only communicate with mutated insects, failing to work even on ordinary ones. There were specializations in every field, and no distinction between good and evil. Soon, Levi sensed the emotions of the Saint Scorpion. It felt confused, irritable, and crazy. Under his reassurance, the creature gradually calmed down. Levi tried to remove the black gas, and gently touched the Saint Scorpion with his hand. It did not attack him. Success. Initial control successful. Levi was delighted. At the same time, a system notification arrived. Insect controlling technique proficiency +1. I will start cultivating. From now on, Levi could be considered a true, low-level wizard apprentice. Chapter 219. The month of winter of the year 1015 of the Holy Brilliance calendar brought no chill to Flower City, which remained as warm as spring. Levi emerged from his deep cultivation state. Recent news from the front line painted a grim picture. Montenegro Mountain City had fallen, and the snow demons had officially invaded the northern territory. In response, a few of the church's 7 holy knights of the world had led their elite knight groups north to hunt the creatures down. The only glimmer of hope lay in the geography. Ever since the blue frost broke out in Montenegro Mountain City, the other northern cities had remained untouched. The Pope claimed he had received an oracle from the Heavenly Father, declaring that God had noticed the suffering of the human world and would punish evil. The pontiff urged the world to unite and fight against the blue frost. Levi harbored grave doubts about this divine intervention. If God truly cared, what about those who died before? He sighed, adjusting his collar. Rather than relying on a distant deity, a person had to rely entirely on themselves. Whether walking the path of a knight or a wizard, personal strength was the best way for mortals to protect themselves. If he had remained an ordinary lord, his fate might be no better than that of the common refugees. Shaking off the grim thoughts, Levi focused back on his magical training. His continuous practice had finally borne fruit, pushing his insect controlling technique to the next level. Insect controlling technique, level 2, 1 out of 5000. This advancement significantly deepened his connection to the Saint Scorpions. He could easily control the creatures now, though he faced a strict limitation. The number of Saint Scorpions under his command could not exceed 10. If he attempted to push past that limit, the excess scorpions would turn on him and bite his hands. Since level 1 allowed him to control a single scorpion, he calculated the progression. If his level increased tenfold, he should be able to command 100 of them. By level 4, his horde could reach 1000, and level 5 might grant him control over 10,000 insects. Of course, that assumed the technique could even be cultivated to such a high level. For now, 10 Saint Scorpions offered negligible combat power. He would need at least 100 to truly threaten a Grand Knight. Progress would take time, and he had already dedicated too many days to mastering this single cantrip. He needed to pick up his breathing techniques again. After all, the path of the night still provided the most immediate boost to his physical strength. Levi left his private chambers today, due to a persistent visitor. A guard had reported that the man had returned several times. Initially, Levi planned to ignore the disturbance, but the soldier mentioned the visitor possessed the unmistakable bearing of a Grand Knight. Intrigued, Levi decided to grant him an audience. The man waiting in the courtyard possessed a weathered face, a slightly hunched posture, and a head of silver hair. He wore pitch black armor, and despite his aged appearance, his powerful aura commanded immediate respect. It was Knight Anderson, a man who had now visited the estate 3 times. Esteemed Lord Levi, I am Knight Anderson. I have something to discuss with you. The old man spoke with a calm, balanced tone, getting straight to the point. Levi stood perfectly still as his spider sensing flared, registering a faint, but distinct sense of danger. The newcomer was an elite expert. Even though the old man only displayed the typical strength of a Grand Knight, Levi's superhuman senses and spiritual energy detected a far more formidable power hidden beneath the surface. Anderson was the strongest knight Levi had ever encountered, easily matching the presence of the Duke of Montenegro or the Fist of the Empire. The old man stood so still he seemed to merge completely with the surrounding courtyard. Sir Anderson, why are you looking for me? Levi gestured for his servants to leave the room, closing the heavy wooden door behind them. Knight Anderson sighed, his voice dropping to a soft murmur. Did you kill a Blood Clan member some time ago? Levi kept his expression entirely neutral, though his mind raced. He had been incredibly cautious, yet somehow his actions had been exposed. He wondered if this old man belonged to the same nocturnal race. There had to be some secret connection or tracking method shared among their kind. A dangerous situation had landed right on his doorstep. However, panic did not set in. With his current combat strength, as long as the opponent was not a primary Blood Clan member, he stood a fighting chance. At worst, he would activate the Red Lotus blood and risk everything in a life or death struggle. Furthermore, the old man's calm demeanor suggested he had not come seeking immediate bloodshed. What do you mean by that? Levi feigned confusion, refusing to admit or deny anything. Knight Anderson smiled gently. I have no ill intentions. I am simply here to confirm the matter. Vanina is the name of the Blood Clan member you killed. She was my junior, an eccentric and overly indulgent creature. I have no desire to avenge her actions. Levi remained skeptical, keeping his guard up. I do not know what you are talking about. He would not hand over an admission of guilt so easily. Knight Anderson nodded slowly, his voice remaining flat and steady. Forget it, it is not a big deal. I will speak plainly. I am also a member of the Blood Clan and Vanina's senior. According to our laws, we typically enact the craziest revenge on anyone who slays our kind. However, I operate by a different standard. I will not seek revenge. I merely want to take Vanina's corpse away. I can clearly sense her lingering aura inside your castle. If not for my personal moral code, I could have easily snuck inside without your knowledge to steal the body, or snatch it directly from your hands. The old man paused, looking directly into Levi's eyes. But my heart does not allow me to act like a thief. I hope you can hand over Vanina's corpse to me. As a form of compensation, I can grant you a single request within my capabilities. I can provide you with anything you require, whether you seek immense wealth or rare, secret combat techniques. Chapter 220. I think you are a wild wizard. If you want to enter the realm of the unbelievers, I can introduce you to a mentor. I know some wizards with good character. Knight Anderson spoke softly, his silver hair catching the dim light of the study. His expression remained sincere, entirely devoid of deception. Levi stared at the old man, his mind twisting into knots of skepticism. A member of the Blood Clan acting like a paragon of virtue seemed impossible. Even among humans, very few individuals actually followed a strict moral code. Yet the old man stood there with a heavy stillness, his ancient eyes seemingly capable of peering through stone and flesh alike. This immense presence lent an undeniable weight to his words. A legendary knight, or perhaps an official wizard, stood in the room. A being of such power could easily crush a Grand Knight, meaning there was absolutely no reason to resort to petty lies. Even so, caution won out. I do not know what you are talking about, sir. Knight Anderson chuckled, a sound trapped between amusement and exhaustion. This young lord possessed a fascinating level of stubbornness. The offer was incredibly generous, yet the boy refused to budge. Any other member of the Blood Clan would have lost patience long ago and torn the castle apart. All right, you can come and find me anytime. I live at 13 Tanton Street. Knight Anderson waved a hand dismissively, turning toward the heavy wooden door. You are a member of the Blood Clan. Levi stepped forward, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Aren't you afraid of the church's punishment for openly appearing in the human world? Knight Anderson paused at the threshold, looking back over his shoulder with a calm smile. I am not afraid. I believe that you won't tell on us. After all, we both have secrets. The words hung in the air, and before the echo faded, the old man vanished from the room. Levi walked over to the open window, staring into the empty courtyard. This old fellow had to be a senior figure within the nocturnal hierarchy, likely a first-generation creature of the night. He was clearly not a primary Blood Clan member, as those beings were known to be complete lunatics, who viewed humanity as nothing more than cattle and blood food. They never displayed such politeness. Anderson possessed immense spiritual strength, allowing his human willpower to withstand the corrupting influence of the monstrous lineage. The man was dangerous. Furthermore, a single glance allowed the old man to identify a wild wizard. The creature obviously sensed the unique frequency of a regular person's mental energy compared to a magic practitioner. This realization sent a cold shiver down Levi's spine. If an old vampire could see through his disguise so easily, perhaps some of the high-ranking powerhouses in the church had already noticed his true nature. The consequences of the Holy Inquisitors discovering a secret wizard apprentice in the heart of the kingdom would be catastrophic. The term Wild Wizard was a title used by organized practitioners within the realm of the unbelievers to describe the solitary magic users wandering the mortal realm without a mentor or an academy. Such outcasts existed, but their numbers remained incredibly small. Living in the human world meant constant vigilance. The church watched every corner, forcing a practitioner to hide in the shadows, trapped in a perpetual state of anxiety. Levi could not even practice his cantrips openly, fearing a single slip of energy might draw the eyes of the executioners. Furthermore, the secular world suffered from a severe lack of ether elements. Constructing spell models and casting magic in this barren environment produced results far inferior to the ambient energy of the hidden realms. The exact same spell cast here possessed only a fraction of its true power. Wizards also required collaboration and debate to advance their craft. Attempting to master the arcane mysteries behind closed doors offered little progress, as individual intelligence could never match collective knowledge. No established wizard willingly chose to waste away in the mundane world. For now, necessity forced Levi to remain hiding in his castle. Although Knight Anderson appeared genuine, trusting a monster remained an unacceptable risk. Perhaps in the future, the preserved corpse could be exchanged for valuable resources, but the timing had to be perfect. The vampire showed sincerity, yet his nature demanded extreme caution. If the old man possessed some forbidden ritual to resurrect the female creature, bringing her back to life would only invite a vengeful enemy right to the castle gates. Pushing thoughts of the vampire aside, Levi returned to his strict routine. The days blurred into weeks of intense physical exertion, though the search for the elusive fire paper yielded no results. On New Year's Day of the year 1016 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, the intense training bore fruit. The Red Lotus breathing technique broke through to its 8th level. Red Lotus breathing technique, level 8, 1 out of 100,000. Special effect, transcendent power, Red Lotus blood. This milestone unlocked a new tier of physical evolution. Having achieved breakthroughs in multiple combat disciplines, Levi accepted the sudden surge of power with calm composure. A vast collection of level 8 breathing techniques now anchored his physical strength, which grew more formidable with every passing day. He remained deep in the shadows, cultivating his power quietly while maintaining a completely low profile. That very same New Year's Day brought explosive news rippling from the Tuva Empire into the Emerald Kingdom. The Fist of the Empire had returned. This legendary warrior, an unparalleled god of war born amidst violent storms, had re-emerged with terrifying speed. He assassinated the newly crowned king before the monarch could even warm the throne. In the chaotic aftermath, the Night Storm Regiment of the Church of Storm launched a massive manhunt. Relying on sheer, brutal power, the fugitive slaughtered 3 Grand Knights during his escape. Even when the head priest unleashed the ancient foundation relics of the church, the legendary warrior broke through the blockade and escaped into the outer seas. The desperate flight to the dangerous outer waters was driven by a monumental discovery. Someone had unearthed an authentic treasure map left behind by the legendary Golden Knight Gregor, a mythical figure whose exploits still echoed through history. Chapter 221. Gregor was mighty. Legends claimed the blood flowing in his veins was pure golden, emitting a brilliant golden light. He was invulnerable to swords and spears, indestructible to Vidra, and completely resistant to both water and fire. This was the famous golden blood. Some claimed Golden Knight Gregor descended from a robust foreign race, while others believed he was the offspring of a wizard. Opinions varied wildly, but one truth remained undisputed. Golden Knight Gregor had mastered unparalleled sword skills. He was a true master of the blade. The current 7 godly swords amounted to nothing more than squabbling children, compared to the ancient Golden Knight. According to the newly discovered treasure map, Gregor left his immense wealth on an isolated island in the outer seas. Stories said that during the final years of his life, deeply dissatisfied with the rule of the church, he spent a fortune to build a massive ship and set sail into the unknown. When he went to sea, the Golden Knight filled his hull with wealth, took several Grand Knight servants under his command, and carried everything he owned into the deep ocean. After that, silence. Now, the treasure map had reappeared. The mysterious treasure of the Golden Knight waited on an isolated island in the outer seas. Do you want to obtain the wealth of Golden Knight Gregor? Do you want the most potent power, authority, and breathing techniques in the world? Do you want to become a legendary knight? Then set sail for the ocean. Golden Knight Gregor left everything there. Driven by this incredible rumor, the coastal areas of the Tuva Empire took the lead, launching a grand voyage of adventure. Even the Fist of the Empire joined the fray, heading into the outer seas to search for Gregor's treasure. The craze now swept across the Emerald Kingdom. Levi chuckled, shaking his head at the reports. These people had far too much time on their hands. With the navigation and shipbuilding technology of this era, finding a hidden island in the outer seas was a fool's errand. Besides, the news smelled of a hoax. He refused to buy into the madness. Under no circumstances would he participate in such a pointless distraction. Still, he occasionally monitored the tavern gossip and the movements of the Fist of the Empire. That 3-meter-tall warrior had left a deep impression. A desire to clash with the Fist of the Empire flickered in his chest, a perfect way to test his current strength. However, the chances of that happening were slim. He had no intention of tracking down a legendary warrior just for a friendly spar. A sudden thought struck him. Could the powerful sword skill of the Golden Knight be the very same golden cross slash he practiced? The Serpent Vulture Knight had taught him the technique, claiming that if cultivated to the absolute highest level, it would become a perfect, perhaps even legendary sword skill. Golden Knight Gregor was a legendary knight. It stood to reason that only a legendary knight could create such a devastating style. Levi had maintained a strict training regimen for his golden cross slash. If his theory held true, he would likely push the technique to perfect level 6 within the year. Level 7 would unlock the power of revolving force. Of course, due to the integration of the Golden Ripple Divine Palm, the original name was purely cosmetic. It was far more accurate to call it the Golden Ripple Divine Palm. While keeping an eye on the seafaring frenzy, Levi quietly accumulated experience within his territory. The mysterious and powerful Blood Clan member gave him no trouble during this period, seemingly content to live as an ordinary old man in Flower City. Levi occasionally crossed paths with him during visits to the Shining Tavern. The old man would even offer a kind, gentle smile. Critically, his spider sensing remained perfectly quiet during these encounters. The complete lack of danger meant the old man harbored no ill intentions, nor did he plan to harm the young lord. A spark of temptation grew. This was a powerful, ancient member of the Blood Clan. He had lived a tremendously long life and maintained connections to an official wizard. The man possessed vast resources. If Anderson was willing to introduce him to the arcane world, Levi might not even need the fire paper, bypassing the long wait for news from the 4 great families. A single word from the old vampire could grant him entry into the realm of the unbelievers. However, the undeniable truth remained: the man was a monster of the night. This reality constantly fueled Levi's hesitation. Caught in this dilemma, Levi focused heavily on his training. By the month of flowing fire in the year 1016 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, an intense heat wave gripped Flower City, sending oppressive thermal currents through the stone streets. After months of grueling repetition, the Golden Cross Slash, the powerful technique passed down from Sir Fred, finally hit its absolute limit. Golden Cross Slash, level 6, maximum, breakthrough available. Special effect, advanced vibration, advanced waves. The Golden Cross Slash had reached a bottleneck. Breaking through to the highest realm was never going to be easy, Levi muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. He had dedicated his recent efforts almost exclusively to the blade, as the technique had languished at the 6th level for far too long. He desperately wanted to force a breakthrough to the 7th level and master the elusive revolving force. However, reality proved that the specialized energy was incredibly difficult to grasp. Previously, his progression from level 1 to level 6 had been seamless, transitioning smoothly on its own as soon as the experience filled. Now, spanning the gap between the 6th and 7th levels required a conscious effort to shatter the bottleneck, pushing past the mortal limit to unlock the true power. But how do I break the limit? Anxiety gnawed at him. He stood a mere single step away from success. Tremble, ripple, circle. His prior understanding felt correct, using physical vibrations to create ripples and turning those ripples into a crushing vortex. What missing piece would trigger the breakthrough? Seeking inspiration, Levi left the quiet sanctuary of the castle and walked down to the Shining Tavern. He sat in a dimly lit corner, listening to a group of rowdy knights debating the latest news surrounding Golden Knight Gregor's treasure. After half a year of feverish excitement, the sailing craze had begun to cool. A massive number of adventurers had vanished into the deep sea, while the survivors slunk back into port empty-handed. Analyzing the clues, Levi suspected that if the Golden Cross Slash truly belonged to Golden Knight Gregor, then understanding the legendary knight himself might hold the key to unlocking the revolving force. Chapter 222. Inside the quiet space of the Shining Tavern, Levi listened closely to the ambient chatter. He raised a cup of wine to his lips, taking a slow sip, while his mind processed the intersecting conversations of the traveling merchants. The room buzzed with endless rumors surrounding the lost wealth of Golden Knight Gregor. Through his own discreet inquiries and the various whispers gathered over the past few weeks, the evidence suggested a clear pattern. The specialized Golden Cross Slash style he practiced had almost certainly been created by the legendary Golden Knight himself. Even so, the prospect of blindly rushing into the outer seas to chase a mythical inheritance felt entirely foolish. He decided to remain exactly where he was, waiting patiently to see who would emerge victorious from the frantic maritime gold rush. Once a clear winner surfaced, a targeted visit would be far more efficient. Besides, with enough time, unlocking the secrets of the revolving force on his own would not be an impossible task. Across the room, Knight Anderson sat alone in a dimly lit corner, nursing a single drink. Levi set his cup down, ordered a fresh glass from the barkeep, and walked over to join the silver-haired elder. Anderson looked up, a gentle expression softening his weathered features. "Have you thought it through?" "I have." Levi pulled out a wooden chair and sat down, keeping his voice low. "But I hope you can understand my position. As a lord, my primary duty is to protect the people under my care." Playing the card of knightly virtue felt like the right approach, given that the old man appeared to be one of the rare individuals who actually respected the ancient laws of chivalry. Of course I understand. Anderson nodded slowly, setting his hands flat on the table. That is precisely the reason I chose not to seek vengeance against you. Levi gave a polite nod, rising from the table to lead the elderly vampire back toward the heavy stone walls of Black Snake Castle. Once inside the secure sanctuary of his private study, he reached into a locked drawer and presented a small wooden container. This is the corpse of that member of the Blood Clan. Levi spoke with complete calmness. Anderson reached out, his ancient face tightening as he took the box. Your Excellency is remarkably thorough. You cremated my junior. I heard tales regarding the terrifying regenerative capabilities of your kind. Levi offered a small, awkward smile, keeping his posture relaxed. The circumstances forced my hand. With a smooth flick of his wrist, Anderson caused the container to vanish instantly from his grasp. The seamless movement confirmed the old man possessed an authentic spatial storage artifact, proving he was an exceptionally powerful individual. For a member of the Knight to secure the friendship of an established magic user meant he occupied a high position in the hidden world. Thank you for your honesty, the old man said, resting his hands on his knees. What is your request? Levi leaned forward slightly, weighing his words. May I ask which specific faction your magic-practicing friends belong to? Anderson tilted his head, reflecting on the question. I am acquainted with two practitioners. One studies within the School of Death, while the other belongs to the School of Alchemy. Which particular discipline governs your own meditation art? The Ocean School of Thought, Levi replied smoothly, inventing a plausible lie. Anderson snapped his brows together, a look of concern crossing his face. The Ocean School of Thought. I have no personal connections within the traditional elemental lineages, but I can certainly make inquiries on your behalf. If any official practitioners from the elemental schools are seeking apprentices, I will attempt to secure a position for you. The old man shifted in his seat, his voice dropping to an absolute whisper. You must understand that practitioners from traditional organizations, like the Nature School, harbor immense arrogance. They absolutely despise interacting with members of foreign races like myself. On the other hand, the practitioners within the newly formed guilds display far more tolerance and openness, mainly because their historical foundations are still quite shallow. Consequently, the associates I know belong entirely to these newer factions. Navigating the rigid hierarchies of the traditional schools is a brutal task. Anderson let out a heavy sigh. His deep pool of knowledge ran exceptionally wide, seemingly far exceeding the limited historical awareness of Tutton. Everything about this ancient creature suggested he lived as a deeply traditional gentleman, an honest and trustworthy soul, who operated strictly on principles of justice. Finding such qualities in the current era was an absolute rarity. Establishing a solid rapport with the old fellow could yield massive benefits in the future. Knight Anderson, do the practitioners within the School of Alchemy still accept new apprentices? Levi asked. After a quick mental calculation, he decided to completely avoid the School of Death. Tutton's tragic history served as a stark warning, forcing him to maintain a respectful distance from the graveyard arts. Every faction possessed its share of villainy, but he simply could not overcome his negative impressions of the death segment. I will find out for you, Anderson said, adjusting his pitch-black gauntlets. He currently supervises several apprentices, so your chances of standing out from the crowd might be limited. Furthermore, since your core alignment belongs to the Ocean School of Thought, your elemental affinity might fail to meet his specific criteria. Levi swallowed the urge to explain that his unique constitution allowed him to practice any magical path regardless of faction. Caution won out, and he kept the secret to himself, letting Anderson handle the initial inquiries while waiting for the four great families to deliver the fire paper remained the safest strategy. Employing two separate avenues maximized his chances of success. With the agreement finalized, Levi organized a grand banquet within the castle walls to properly entertain his guest. Even a legendary warrior belonged to the mortal world, and maintaining proper social etiquette was an essential part of life. His initial paranoia had faded, replaced by an authentic enthusiasm now that they understood each other's boundaries. Years of absolute isolation had clearly left Anderson starving for genuine company. He possessed no living descendants, and the fallen female vampire had been a junior in rank rather than a relative by blood. As a first-generation member of the secondary lineage, his ancient origin, unmatched physical power, and immense prestige earned him the title of elder among his peers. When the feast concluded, Levi personally escorted the silver-haired warrior back to his residence in Flower City. Before stepping through his front door, Anderson paused, looking back with a look of profound respect. Your natural physical talent is absolutely spectacular. Even if you successfully transition into the magical arts in the future, you must never abandon the path of the sword. The legendary rank is not the absolute limit of our physical evolution, yet an invisible barrier currently blocks my vision, preventing me from seeing the path ahead. If you manage to achieve the rank of a legendary warrior one day, we can dissect our experiences together. I possess absolutely no affinity for magic, leaving me completely hopeless in this lifetime. My entire legacy rests upon the edge of the blade. Chapter 223. Anderson possessed the legendary Knight realm, and he recognized that Levi was already a top-notch Grand Knight for his age. This meant that Levi held top-notch talent, not inferior to Anderson in his younger years. Another essential reason he wanted to befriend Levi was that there were too few existences like them in this world. Legendary knights rarely found any communication with their peers. Most legendary knights were not born in the same era. Even if they were, they remained hidden from the eyes of the church. Therefore, in the opinion of Anderson, every person with the potential to be a legendary knight was worth befriending. Levi offered a sincere smile and nodded. "Thank you for your warning, Sir Anderson. I will continue on the knight path." This old man was an extraordinary person. With the current knowledge Levi held regarding breathing techniques, only a legendary knight could compare to his depth. Anderson and Levi enjoyed an engaging conversation, and both regretted not meeting each other earlier. Levi also learned that Knight Anderson was the once famous legendary knight, known as the Blood Knight Brad. This knight was well known, and everyone acknowledged his status. Levi felt more at ease with the character of the Blood Knight. He knew that he could not be a romantic hero in this era. That kind of mentality and perseverance was too strong. In addition to the fact that he was a member of the Blood Clan, it was rare for him to maintain such a disposition. In terms of cultivation, they were partners on the same path. In the long cultivation process, he needed someone to talk to, someone to discuss his craft with, so he would not feel lonely. Unfortunately, Knight Anderson did not possess the talent of a wizard. However, because of his identity as a member of the Blood Clan, many wizards might have died, but he would not. It was the month of harvest of the year 1016 of the Holy Brilliance calendar. The meditation art of Levi was slowly cultivated. During this period, Knight Anderson often came to Levi to discuss the mysteries of breathing techniques. He did not expect Levi to have such a deep understanding of breathing techniques at such a young age. Levi knew that this was all thanks to his hard work and experience. Every time he gained proficiency, it was a little bit of comprehension and understanding. Over time, his grasp of breathing techniques grew far beyond that of ordinary people. Most importantly, Levi had cultivated a bunch of breathing techniques simultaneously. This was likely unprecedented. Therefore, no matter what type of breathing technique it was, Levi could master it with ease and thoroughness. Levi also learned about advancing to a legendary knight from Knight Anderson. Such knowledge was highly precious, even more so than meditation art. Meditation art was relatively easy to obtain in the world of the wizards. Still, the legendary knight understanding and breakthrough methods were scarce. Looking at the history of the 7 countries, even grand knights were like carp crossing the river. However, legendary knights were as rare as phoenix feathers. The Blood Knight Brad was one of the 7 legendary knights the Shining Tavern had specially brought out to commemorate. He had an extraordinary status. Through the explanation provided by Knight Anderson, Levi learned that a legendary knight needed a second transformation of their life seeds. After this transformation, the life seed would transform the body of the legendary knight. According to the different characteristics of the breathing technique, a supernatural organ would be born in the body. If one said that a grand knight relied on black gas to become extraordinary, the most significant difference between a legendary knight and a grand knight was that they could directly use the life seed to evolve their bodies. It allowed a specific part of his body to become extraordinary, to achieve the goal of becoming extraordinary and reborn. This was the power of a legendary knight. However, Levi was still a distance away from the legendary knight realm. His current supernatural organ was not even at level 10. Levi estimated that the extraordinary organs born from the black snake breathing technique should be related to defense. Will my skin turn into scales, and will I be turned into a naga? Levi wondered with a bitter smile. There was still a distance between him and a legendary knight, and he could only speculate for now. Moreover, according to Anderson, breaking through to the legendary knight level usually required robust mental strength. According to the standard of a wizard, to break through to a legendary knight, one would need to have the mental strength of an intermediate wizard apprentice. This was another reason why legendary knights were rare. Most ordinary people could not reach the intermediate wizard level without practicing meditation art. If someone were born with such spiritual power, that person would be a hotshot and a legendary genius. However, most knights had no talent to cultivate as wizards, so there was no way to improve their spiritual power. Ultimately, they could not break through to the legendary knight even if they were as talented as the White Horse Knight. Knight Anderson had also become a Blood Clan member by chance, which solved the problem of mental power and made him legendary. As expected, a knight must be one with his body and soul in the end, Levi realized. He now had a basic understanding of the path of a legendary knight, which most grand knights did not have. Because there were too few legendary knights, there was no system to summarize the experience of becoming one. Chapter 224. It was only because Levi had befriended Anderson that he learned how to break through to the legendary realm. Time flew by. Levi asked about the Golden Knight treasure while silently cultivating in the castle. He also paid attention to the snow demon calamity in the north. To his surprise, he did not know if the so-called oracle of the church had taken effect. In short, after the blue frost spread to Montenegro Mountain City, it did not continue to descend north. Up until now, Icewind City was alright. Other than some snow demons from Montenegro Mountain City, there was no blue frost tragedy. Nothing happened in his Blackwater Valley. Levi did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he did not regret his decision. He realized the South was still better after getting used to living there. Whether it was the climate or production development, the South was superior to the North. The path to becoming a lord was slowly getting on the right track. With professionals managing the territory, at least the finances of Flower City and Storm City did not fall much compared to before. Levi had not found a suitable successor yet. He would also need someone to manage his territory when he left the human world. He could only take it one step at a time. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and it was the month of the northern wind. After a long cultivation period, the giant breathing technique finally reached its limit. Giant breathing technique level 9. Maximum breakthrough available. Special effect frost arm gas. After the giant breathing technique reached the peak of level 9, his transcendent power evolved into frost arm. Levi felt that his strength was much more muscular than before. Now that he was facing the Duke of Montenegro, he would not be much weaker than him. This was the first strength-based breathing technique that had reached the peak of level 9. He also had Ostrich Mountain, Giant Rhinoceros, and Red Lotus breathing techniques at level 8. Undoubtedly, the final primary cultivation of the strength-type breathing technique was the perfect grade Red Lotus. A miserable piece of news was that after the giant breathing technique reached level 9, his height reached 2.2 meters, and his weight had reached 600 to 700 pounds. Although it was not as exaggerated as the Fist of the Empire, the size still gave Levi a headache. If not for the siren breathing technique bone shrinking transformation effect, such a large body would have affected his life. However, this was something that could not be helped. Strength was not something that came out of thin air. It came from the continuous strengthening of the body. The giant inside his body was saturated with black gas, which then wrapped around his arms. A bone-chilling sensation spread from his arms, and the surrounding temperature dropped slightly. His arms emitted cold air. Water vapor condensed around him into frost as if he were wearing ice armor. The giant breathing technique has such a weak frost effect after reaching level 9, Levi thought. His arms resembled the giant arms of a frost giant. His muscles were full, exaggerated, and full of strength. Levi slammed his palm on the wall. A layer of frost immediately covered the stone. Levi placed his arm in the water. After a while, the bucket of water was also covered in ice. Amazing. This should be a spell-like ability. Although it is fragile, this effect is better than nothing, Levi murmured. This frost arm effect was even more potent than he had imagined. Levi experimented with the new frost arm effect again and again. In the end, the entire room was covered in a thin layer of frost. Such an effect would not cause any effective damage to an enemy in actual combat. But for Levi, this seemed to be an inspiration. If this special effect continues to be promoted, will I be able to gain a real spell-like ability? I do not need to use ice spells to freeze everything with a single palm strike. Just like the legendary frost giants. Isn't this the birth of an innate divine ability with the body? Levi pondered. This would only be known after he continuously upgraded the special effects. However, as a strength-type breathing technique, there were many of them, so he did not have to worry about the giant breathing technique breaking the limit. His strength had steadily increased again. Levi felt quite happy. He went to the Shining Tavern for a drink to celebrate. Then, he went to chat with Knight Anderson for a while. Knight Anderson told Levi that he had asked his wizard friend to help reach out to some of the Ocean School of Thought wizards to see if anyone needed to recruit apprentices. Unfortunately, they had yet to reply. Levi was curious about how Knight Anderson communicated with the wizards, but since Anderson did not take the initiative to say it, Levi was too embarrassed to ask. This might involve other people's secrets. Anderson spoke before he left. He could feel that some Blood Clan members seemed to have awakened from their slumber. He told Levi to be careful during this period. Knight Anderson was not the only one in the social network of Vanina. The other Blood Clan members might not be as easy to talk to as Anderson. He was worried that Levi would have a conflict with them. This way, no matter which side was injured, it was not the outcome he wanted to see. Regarding this, Levi expressed that as long as they did not provoke him, he would not cause trouble. Anderson was also helpless. He could only tell Levi that if any Blood Clan members were to cause trouble, he could look for Anderson. This way, Anderson might be able to mediate between them, and everyone would be able to resolve significant issues. Chapter 225. Levi expressed his gratitude to Anderson. After returning home, Levi ordered his subordinates to strengthen the patrols in Flower City. The Blood Clan members were troublesome. In this situation, he could only try to increase his strength before possible revenge arrived. Levi felt no fear of others, provided they were not Anderson, a legendary knight, or a member of the Blood Clan. With his trump card, if these Blood Clan members dared to provoke him, he would kill them. Of course, resolving the conflict through a night would be better. It was the new year 107 of the Holy Brilliance calendar. The insect controlling technique was now at level 3. The number of Saint Scorpions he could control had reached 100. He only had so many Saint Scorpions now. Levi opened the bug house, and 100 Saint Scorpions swarmed out. They gathered around his body, and Levi gave them orders through the insect control technique. The current Levi could already control these Saint Scorpions to perform attack commands. Of course, Levi still had limited use of the level 3 insect controlling technique. He would have to reach level 4 to be more effective. However, there was a problem. Levi did not have enough Saint Scorpions. Fortunately, there were male and female Saint Scorpions among the 100. It was not a problem for them to reproduce continuously, but it would take some time. Levi observed that the development of these Saint Scorpions differed significantly from one to another. Some were huge and ferocious, while others were smaller and listless. This involved a vital research field of the School of Insects, the breeding of mutated insects. They constantly selected Saint Scorpions with good bloodlines and quality for targeted breeding. They were fed with particular evolutionary drugs, and their offspring had a higher probability of producing stronger Saint Scorpions. This was the method of human intervention, to make the Saint Scorpions mutate in a good direction continuously. Ultimately, this low-grade insect might one day transform into a terrifying high-grade insect. However, Levi did not have enough knowledge in this area. Culturing the Saint Scorpions involved a lot of wizard knowledge, including pharmaceutics, mutation, bloodline, and even alchemy. He had not learned any of these systematically, so he could only let nature take its course. When he reached the wizarding world, he could try to cultivate it. During this period, besides the breakthrough in his insect controlling technique, Levi had another breakthrough. The black snake breathing technique had successfully reached the limit of level 10. Black snake breathing technique, level 10, maximum, breakthrough available. Special effect, black scale, liquid. With the level 10 black snake breathing technique, Levi successfully advanced to the ranks of the strongest knights below legendary status. At this stage, he was more potent than the so-called top grand knight, and was only a step away from becoming legendary. He could be called a half-step legendary knight. The former White Horse Knight, the Fist of the Empire, and the Duke of Montenegro were all experts at this level. An ordinary Grand Knight was no match for a powerhouse like them. Only a top-tier Grand Knight could barely fight them. Previously, Levi had relied on his many breathing techniques and his all-rounded attributes to be comparable to a top-tier Grand Knight. Now, Levi depended entirely on his cultivation to be on par with the Fist of the Empire. At the heart of Levi, the black snake seed was even more lifelike. The black snake with a candle was extraordinary, and its eyes were sharp, emitting a mighty majesty. Beneath the black snake were the two-legged giant beasts roaring at the sky. There were also frost giants, blood whales, siren, giant rhinoceroses, ostrich mountain, blood beasts, thunder wolves, and vortex beasts. Countless ancient legendary beasts fought inside the body of Levi, making it lively. This made Levi feel as if his body had turned into a zoo. Levi came out of his seclusion. Suddenly, a warmth spread through his chest. He pulled the fire paper from his chest. To his surprise, the fire paper started to emit green smoke and self-ignited. There is finally news. Levi sighed. He had waited bitterly for a few years. There was finally news from the four great families. There is no time to find a successor. Suddenly, a thought struck Levi. If he left, what would happen to his territory? He had yet to settle these matters. Levi packed up his essential items while considering countermeasures. He had thought about this problem before. He had also found some candidates. However, although these people had good management skills and remained loyal, their strength was lacking. Take Sam, for example. Although Sam was now an official knight and Levi trusted him, his prestige in Flower City was far from enough. With the strength of their opponents, they would probably get restless if Levi left his territories for long and never returned. Everyone only behaved like obedient babies under the fierce might of Levi. Once he left, it would not be long before many took risks driven by their interests. At that time, they would likely usurp power and take the wealth of the territory. Therefore, Levi had always wanted a grand knight loyal to him to manage his territory. Chapter 226. All he needed to do was to act as his will and supervise the territory. I should ask Knight Anderson. He might have some good suggestions. Moreover, I am about to leave this world, so I have to bid farewell to this good friend of mine. Levi packed everything he needed for his trip to the wizarding world and placed them in the bug house and the bag of gluttony. Gold, breathing technique inheritance diagrams, secret medicine, and the Lion King pride. The ingredients for the secret medicine should be found in the realm of the unbelievers. The resources there were much more prosperous than in the human world, so Levi was not worried about the secret medicine. After everything was prepared, it was up to the three brothers and the two generals, Hen and Ha. These pets Levi had tamed in the human world could not be taken away. Although the bug house could store living things, it was obvious that it could not keep these big guys. Moreover, the human world was the best place for them to stay. If Knight Anderson did not have a solution to the problem of a successor, Levi would temporarily entrust the territory to the few people he trusted the most. They were all from Blackwater Valley. Under long-term influence and brainwashing, they were obedient and loyal to Levi. He did not have to worry about betrayal. Then, he would make the three brothers and the two generals listen to these people in the future. With 5 divine beasts guarding the territory, he should not have to worry in the short term. This was especially true for Hapes and Hendry, who had long lifespans and could live for at least 100 years. Levi felt that this method was feasible. Finally, it was Harris, the snow eagle. Snow eagles did not have long lifespans. When Levi took over Harris, he was not young. After all these years, Harris was already old. Levi patted the head of Harris and smiled. "You are free now, Harris. You can pursue what you want in the future, or retire in this castle." Harris tilted his head and looked at Levi. Levi sensed the sadness within the bird. Ultimately, Harris chose to spend his remaining years in the castle. His hunting ability had deteriorated too much. If he went outside, he might starve to death. After dealing with the follow-up matters of the territory, Levi went to 13 Tanton Street and found Knight Anderson drinking chicken blood. Seeing the arrival of Levi, Anderson elegantly wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. "Looking at your expression, it seems like you are leaving," Anderson said. Levi nodded. "Yes, I received a message from the 4 great families. I should be able to go to the realm of the unbelievers, so I came to bid farewell to you." Knight Anderson smiled. Congratulations then. You do not come to me for no reason. You must have something to ask of me this time. Yeah, Levi replied with a bitter smile. Then, Levi told Anderson about the things that had been worrying him. Anderson laughed. You are just like me. You only care about cultivation, and do not find a partner. Otherwise, you could have left behind a few children. The current situation is indeed very awkward. To you, pursuing the path of a wizard is more critical. For the territory, you want to find someone to transfer it to on the surface, and let him become a lord legally. But this person must be completely loyal to you, and not betray you. On the surface, he must be a lord, but he must be your spokesperson in the human world. That is right. Sir Anderson, are you willing to be the lord for fun? Levi asked half-jokingly. Anderson shook his head. Stop fooling around. I do not want to be a lord. I would rather be alone. The Blood Clan does have a secret technique called the Blood Slave Curse. Those the Blood Slave Curse hits will become your blood servant and be loyal to you. However, the Blood Slave Curse can only be cast by us, the Blood Clan. Why do you not become a Blood Clan member? I can help you hold a transformation ceremony and let you become a Blood Clan member with a long lifespan. The price is to hide in the darkness and dislike the sun. From now on, you can only be accompanied by blood, Anderson joked. Levi quickly shook his head. He did not want to rely on blood to survive in the future, nor did he want to lose sunlight, nor did he want to be treated as an alien by the wizards. Other than that, he had no objections to the Blood Clan. Other than the Blood Slave Curse, does Sir Anderson have other methods? Levi asked. Anderson shook his head. Why do you not let me see this Blood Slave Curse, Sir Anderson? What if I have the blood of the Blood Clan too? Levi said jokingly. Anderson thought momentarily. I still owe you a favor. Are you sure you want to use this favor to exchange for a spell useless to you? Levi nodded. He had no other choice now. As for the rest, he did not feel at ease. From the description of Knight Anderson, the Blood Slave Curse was exactly what he needed. If he could learn this, he should be able to solve his problem. All right, this is your choice. Do not go back on your word. Anderson passed a chant to Levi. Levi memorized the words. Then I will take my leave. If Sir Anderson needs help, please come to my castle and look for my butler. If Sir Anderson leaves the world and goes to the realm of the unbelievers, we might meet again and continue to discuss the night path, Levi said. Chapter 227. Forget it, forget it. I do not even have the talent to become a wizard. Going to the realm of the unbelievers is just asking for trouble. I had better live in the human world, Knight Anderson said enviously. He felt envy toward the knight and wizarding talent of Levi. Levi possessed many paths, while he only followed the path of the knight. As for his identity as a member of the Blood Clan, the strength of a secondary Blood Clan member had reached its limit. If he wanted to grow stronger, he would have to become a primary Blood Clan member, which was even more difficult to achieve. After bidding farewell to Knight Anderson, Levi returned home to study the Blood Slave Curse. He planned to give it a try in 3 days. If it did not work, he would immediately head to the capital. The current travel speed of Levi would take only 2 days to reach Emerald King City. Therefore, 4 days remained sufficient. On the other hand, Knight Anderson had received news from an old Blood Clan friend who had been sleeping for a long time. He left Flower City to visit his old companion. For a long-lived existence like him, every friend remaining in the world was worth cherishing. In the castle, Levi began to chant the incantation of the Blood Slave Curse. To cast the Blood Slave Curse, there must be a corresponding target. This target was the person the Blood Clan would enslave. Levi found a prisoner in the prison to serve as his experimental subject. He felt that since his proficiency panel could ignore the Knight Bloodline Curse and the Bloodline restrictions of Transcendence, it might be able to overlook the Bloodline restrictions of the Blood Clan. Of course, this remained only a guess. After all, the Bloodline restrictions of the Blood Clan operated on a completely different level than the previous 2. No matter what, the first 2 were still within the human race. The difference in bloodline was not significant. However, the Blood Clan was entirely different from humans. Therefore, Levi lacked confidence that he could master the Blood Slave Curse. After Levi finished reciting the incantation, the prisoner did not react. There were no signs of the Blood Slave Curse Knight Anderson had described being successfully cast. Can I not do it? Levi muttered. He tried many times. None of them succeeded. This meant that Levi had no way of mastering the spell of the Blood Clan. Thinking about it, the result made sense. The Blood Clan and the human race were completely different species. No matter how heaven-defying the proficiency panel was, it should be unable to cross the restrictions to let him learn the spell of the Blood Clan. This Blood Slave Curse was essentially a spell ability of a supernatural creature. It was an innate magical ability and a divine power. Although he knew he might have failed, Levi did not give up. He continued to experiment with the Blood Slave Curse over and over again. However, the prisoner did not feel under control from the beginning to the end. Just like that, the Blood Slave Curse still did not succeed on the second day of the experiment. This made Levi feel helpless. If it does not work out, I can just sell the territory to the kingdom for a good price. Levi did not want to sell Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill unless necessary. The money from selling these 2 territories at once would not match the profits from long-term operations. Levi cleared his mind and thought carefully, wondering if any other way existed. The night was silent. Levi looked at the full moon in the night sky. He prepared to try it again during the night of the full moon. Many Blood Clan members shared a connection to the night of the full moon. It might not work usually, but it would work on the night of the full moon. The prisoner Levi had interrogated for an entire day had dark circles under his eyes and remained tied up. "Just kill me, do not nag in front of me. I am going crazy from your nagging," the prisoner groaned. Since yesterday, Levi had been droning on about weird things. The prisoner could not stand it anymore. Levi ignored him. When he finished chanting the general incantation on the night of the full moon, he felt his heart heat up. A warm current began to spread in his chest. He felt surprised that the blood mist like blood beast seed on his heart had reacted to the moon night as he chanted the incantation. "What is happening?" Levi wondered. Levi continued to chant. The blood beast seed jumped, and wisps of black gas flowed. However, in the eyes of Levi, this black gas could no longer be called black gas. The aura was blood red. At the same time, blood gas circulated through his limbs and bones. As Levi chanted, his pupils became bloodshot. In his field of vision, the hazy full moon in the sky seemed to have turned blood red. He could vaguely see a river of blood flowing on the full moon. The river of blood was rolling and extremely thick. Some creatures were wandering inside. There were all kinds of blood-red creatures and ferocious blood clan members. As the blood river flowed, all the blood gathered on a vast blood lake in the middle of the full moon. Levi saw a ball of blood mist swirling and changing as if alive in the blood lake. Many primary blood clan members prostrate themselves around the blood-colored fog and worshipped it. The shape of the blood-colored mist was highly similar to the blood beast seed in his body. The situation of the blood clan worshipping the blood beast was similar to the picture of the little people worshipping the blood beast on the blood beast breathing technique inheritance map. Blood beast. Is it related to the blood river will? Levi thought. At this moment, Levi felt shocked. According to the notebook of Wizard Franken, the blood river on the moon that Levi had just seen should be the blood river will. It was this blood river that gave birth to the blood clan. In the blood river, Levi saw the humanoid blood clan members described in the notebook, and other types of blood clan members that were even more powerful than those. A ball of blood mist was scattered and unstable in the middle of the blood lake. It was precisely the breathing technique inheritance diagram that the Earl of Blood had inherited from his ancestors. Blood beast. Levi realized that he seemed to have unintentionally glimpsed a hint of the truth behind the breathing technique inheritance diagram. Blood beasts are not creatures of this world. They are powerful creatures from the plane where the blood river will is located. Levi thought carefully and felt deep fear. A mere night breathing technique was related to a powerful existence in the multidimensional plane. The path of the night was profound. No wonder knights could walk on the earth so early. No wonder the legend of the 7 Knights of the Sky was spread in the Church of Holy Light. Knights were indeed not simple. After Levi finished reciting the incantation, an inexplicable power surged into the body of Levi, or more accurately, into the blood beast seed in his body. Then, an illusory blood-red chain began to extend from his back. The chain went straight into the chest of the prisoner and tied up his heart tightly. A mysterious connection began to link Levi and the prisoner. Levi realized that he seemed able to control every move of the prisoner. "Raise your head," Levi commanded. The prisoner raised his head. Levi opened the chest of the prisoner and saw the position of his heart. A ball of blood-red mist slowly appeared and condensed into a blood mist mark. This was a blood beast. At the same time, a notification came from the proficiency panel. Levi quickly opened it. Blood beast breathing technique, level 8, 56,743 out of 100,000, special effect, transcendent speed, blood contract. Chapter 228. The blood slave curse was completed. Levi had a complicated expression. He did not know if it was because of the proficiency panel, the uniqueness of the blood beast breathing technique, or a combination of these two factors. In short, on this full moon night, he had learned the curse technique only the blood clan could master. He felt that he might have activated some of the hidden attributes of the blood beast seed by chanting the blood slave curse on the night of the full moon. As a result, he felt the blood river will that only the blood clan could sense. Then, by chance, he obtained one of the blood clan innate abilities, the blood slave curse. However, the blood slave curse was the second special effect of the blood beast breathing technique, blood contract. Levi opened the special effect of the blood contract. It was an unfair contract established by the blood river will. Those contracted must obey orders unconditionally and remain loyal unconditionally. They must not betray or resist. They would not even have the slightest thought of disobeying. His will was the will of the contracted. This contract could not be upgraded. As long as the level of the target was not higher than his, this contract could be effective on any existence lower than the blood beast. This contract could only be effective on one person. What an overbearing contract. This is even more powerful than the blood slave curse that Knight Anderson told me about. When Anderson gave Levi the blood slave curse, he mentioned that the blood slave curse could only be used on races other than the blood breeds. It was usually used primarily on humans or some other weak races. However, the blood contract of Levi seemed to be a higher quality blood slave curse. No matter what race it was, as long as it was not much more vital than him, and as long as its level was lower than the blood beast, he could contract them. This meant that Levi could even contract members of the blood clan. Perhaps I can even form a contract with Knight Anderson, Levi smiled. Of course, he would not do that. He was not a villain. Levi looked at the prisoner. "Master," the prisoner said, He looked at Levi with fanaticism in his eyes. It was as if a fanatic believer had met the God he believed in. Levi knew that this was accurate control. Moreover, it was controlled by the subjective initiative of the person being controlled. The person controlled by the blood contract could manage the territory for him under absolute loyalty. "Now kill yourself," Levi said to the prisoner. When the prisoner heard this, he did not hesitate. He smiled and said, "Master, can I borrow your sword?" Levi handed the frostmourne to the prisoner. After the prisoner received the sword, he stabbed it through his heart without hesitation, just like a robot executing an order. The prisoner died. The blood beast mark on his chest began to dissipate. The blood contract could only be used on one person. If the contracted person died, the contract would lose its effectiveness. Naturally, Levi would not waste this precious opportunity on a prisoner. He was in a good mood. Now, he could find a Grand Knight and contact him. Then, he would transfer his territory to him and let him manage it. As a hands-off shopkeeper, he only needed to occasionally come to the human world to withdraw money. It was perfect. But who should I look for next? Levi thought to himself. Grand Knights did not tend to be silly. He had the blood contract now, but lacked a suitable target. Forget it. We will talk about it tomorrow morning. Levi decided to have a good night rest. He took out the blood beast breathing technique he had obtained from the Earl of Blood and stared at the mist-shaped blood beast in the middle of the inheritance diagram. Looks like the blood beast breathing technique is not simple. Blood beasts might also be a type of blood clan member. Moreover, they might be a higher level blood clan creature. The blood beast breathing technique was a breathing technique similar to the black snake breathing technique. It was a first-grade breathing technique of excellent quality. Therefore, Levi felt that if the legendary blood beast and the black snake with a candle existed, they should be on the same level. And the giant beast Red Lotus behind the perfect grade breathing technique seemed to be of a higher level than the previous two. All along, I thought the legendary creatures behind these legends were all the ancestors of the big families. Now it seems that I might be wrong. Since the blood beasts might exist, then the black snake, Red Lotus, and the frost giant might all be real. Furthermore, they are very likely powerful existences from other dimensions. This also shows that the potential of the night breathing technique is extremely great. It is not what it seems on the surface. The confidence of Levi in breaking through to the legendary night grew. Perhaps the black snake breathing technique, or the giant breathing technique, can give birth to a second, or even a third special effect. They need an opportunity to be activated. Levi lay on the bed, considering the suitable candidate for the blood contract. Why do I not directly contract with the king? Levi suddenly had a crazy thought. He might as well turn the king into his contractor without anyone noticing. In that case, the entire kingdom would be his, not to mention these two territories. Forget it, forget it. The risk is too great. Let us prevent the church from finding out. The king needed to interact with the pope frequently. With the background of the church, it would be easy to discover the peculiarity of the king. Chapter 229. Then I will contract my neighbor. Levi remembered another earl in the eastern part of his territory, Earl Redbud of Redbud territory. He was also a Grand Knight. Earl Redbud it is. Levi did as he was told and immediately equipped himself. He planned to take advantage of the darkness of the night. He left the castle and looked at the cold, round moon in the sky. Levi could not calm down for a long time since he saw the blood river illusion on the full moon. If everything goes well, we can go to the capital tomorrow. I wonder if we can see the moon in the realm of the unbelievers, Levi sighed. A gust of cold wind blew over, and the hair on the arm of Levi stood on end. He instantly became alert. Spider sensing. Danger. From the corner of his eye, a black shadow charged at him at lightning speed. The black shadow was too fast. It was even faster than the transcendent speed of Levi. Boom. Levi felt a strong force. He was sent flying. He smashed into the ground. Dust and rocks flew everywhere. Levi stood up solemnly in the pit, his face covered in dust. Liquid black scale flowed all over his body. They crisscrossed each other and made hissing sounds. However, a hideous hole in his chest broke through despite the liquid black scale defense of the peak 10th level. A claw mark appeared on the frost giant armor of Levi, leaving a scratch on it. Levi was slightly shocked as he looked at the slender figure before him. As expected of a blood clan. Are you here to avenge Vanina? Levi asked. In front of him was a young noble dressed in luxurious clothes. He was handsome and slightly pale. His body was slender and well-proportioned, and his entire body emitted a faint aura of blood. The expression of the young man was cold. You have the smell of that old fellow I hate. I knew it. That senior fellow always favors you, humans. He knows you killed Vanina, but did not kill you to avenge her. He even stayed in your city and became your so-called friend. How laughable. Let me introduce myself. My name is Andrew, a blood clan noble. Vanina is my good friend, Andrew said with a gloomy expression. Levi sighed in his heart. As expected, the blood clan members had a way to sense each other. Killing one would attract a whole bunch of them. However, Levi was not afraid. You are just a secondary blood clan member. You are neither human nor ghost, but a noble blood clan. Compared to the old man, I do not feel any nobility from you, Levi mocked. Andrew sneered in disdain. Not all blood clan members respected the elder. This was especially true for a strange creature like Knight Anderson. He came to take revenge because he sensed Anderson had left Flower City entirely. Andrew knew that if Anderson were in Flower City, he would cause trouble. He would be a good guy and stop him from taking revenge on humans. He would abide by his boring morality and justice. The old man did not understand that the moment he became a Blood Clan member, he was no longer on the same side as humans. Thinking of this, Andrew did not waste any more time. He could feel that the lord in front of him was mighty. Among all the grand knights he had seen, he was one of the top 3. This person had already touched the threshold of a legendary knight. However, Andrew was still confident in killing him because he was a noble second-generation secondary Blood Clan member. There were very few second generations in the secondary Blood Clan. He had once fought with a legendary knight among humans and relied on his powerful physique to battle his opponent. Therefore, he did not think the lord before him could be compared to a legendary knight. Suddenly, Andrew turned into an afterimage and charged toward Levi again. The speed of Levi was not as fast as the latter, so he stood where he was without any intention of dodging. With advanced vibrosensing, he could sense the attack direction of Andrew, but the other party was too fast. Even if he felt it, it would not be easy to dodge. This was a crushing speed. If it was converted into a breathing technique, the speed of Andrew was at least a speed-type breathing technique at the limit of level 10. Boom. Levi was sent flying again. He fell to the ground and felt his internal organs churn. Taking advantage of being sent flying far away, Levi leaped over the city wall and ran towards the wilderness. Andrew sneered and chased after him. Weak human, you can only become the prey of the Blood Clan. I will not kill you quickly. I will slowly suck your blood and turn you into a dried corpse. I will seal you in the wax statue of Venena and let you repent for your sins forever. Levi remained silent. The figure of Andrew disappeared and chased after him again. Boom. The back of Levi was hit again. His liquid black scale was scattered once again. Fortunately, the pure mithril frost giant armor was mighty, and Andrew did not break through the defense of Levi. After all, the liquid black scale had already neutralized most of his strength. The entire body of Levi was blasted into the wilderness, and he only stopped after crashing into a large tree. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled. Andrew smiled sinisterly. A small piece of prey with rough skin and thick meat is more delicious when eaten. Under the moonlight, the body of Levi began to grow. Usually, to avoid appearing too bulky and barbaric, Levi used bone shrinking transformation to maintain his height at around 1.9 meters. Chapter 230. Now, he ultimately let go of himself. The black gas around him danced wildly, spreading and tearing his clothes apart. The black gas of the giant seed coiled around his arms, and then frost appeared, condensing into a vambrace. This was the special effect of the giant breathing technique, Frost Arm. His strength began to increase exponentially. In his body, the seeds of the ostrich mountain and the giant rhinoceros began to explode, and their strength rose again. Levi, over 2 meters tall, stretched his muscles and bones. If he could not defeat this Blood Clan member, even if he went all out, he would use the Red Lotus blood. Undoubtedly, Andrew was the most potent enemy Levi had ever met. He had already surpassed the Fist of the Empire. Perhaps only a legendary knight could fight against this person. Tonight, on the eve of his journey to the realm of the unbelievers, Levi finally welcomed the battle he had dreamed of. He wanted to use this battle to test his strength. Come on, bug, Levi mocked. Andrew exerted his strength again. He turned into a black wind and seemed to be everywhere, like a shadow following him. Around Levi, countless shadows of Andrew appeared. Suddenly, long nails appeared on the hand of Andrew, like the claws of a wolf. Bloody sharp claw, Andrew shouted. He charged over. This was the physical technique of the Blood Clan. Levi picked up a thick tree trunk on the ground and started spinning on the spot. Crack, crack. A moment later, the tree trunk was cut off section by section. Another hit struck the face of Levi. At the same time, the palms of Levi were filled with black gas, transforming into black ghost claws that grabbed the sharp claws of his opponent. I caught you, Levi shouted. Golden Ripple Divine Palm. He picked Andrew up and slammed him to the ground. Andrew was smashed to the ground. His gorgeous robe was torn to shreds, revealing a slender figure that seemed to be made of steel. The ground cracked, and dust flew everywhere. Andrew escaped the ghost claws of Levi, and quickly pulled away from Levi. His face was ashen. He did not expect himself to be defeated. The attack of Levi shattered the bones in his arms. However, the recovery ability of his Blood Clan was potent. It was said that the primary Blood Clan could not stop the Blood River, and the Blood Clan could not die. In other words, even if the original primary Blood Clan members were killed in different terms, their faithful souls would return to the Blood River and be reborn. Although he belonged to the secondary Blood Clan, and could not do this, it was still easy for him to instantly heal some injuries that seemed impossible for humans to recover from. Blood Moon Cross Slash. Andrew suddenly pulled out a long sword and slashed at Levi. It could be seen that he was also a sword expert. He knew that he could not fight Levi head-on. Otherwise, his body would be shattered by the strange power of Levi. Even if he did not die, it would cause trouble for him. The rapid self-healing of the secondary Blood Clan also required energy consumption. In a short period, it was impossible to heal quickly many times. Levi pulled out Frostmourne as well. Golden Cross Slash against Blood Moon Cross Slash. Bang, 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 bang. The light of swords and sabers floated in the forest. The most potent battle in the world occurred in the wilderness at night. Wherever Levi and Andrew passed, the trees collapsed. A casual slash from them could cause massive damage. In the end, the golden cross slash of Levi was still a notch higher. The long sword of Andrew was cut in half by Levi. He threw away his sword and charged at Levi. If it was not for the fact that he wanted to test the strength of his breathing technique, Levi only needed the frost giant Sai and his seals to kill the enemy. The attack of Andrew was powerful, and he could always break through the liquid black scales of Levi. Unfortunately, Levi still had the frost giant armor, so he had a high chance of making mistakes. However, Andrew could not do that. He had to constantly dodge the attacks of Levi, because he would end up miserable once Levi seized the opportunity. But Andrew did not want to give up just like that. He was a noble blood clan member. Moreover, it was a whole moon night today. It was his home ground. He did not plan to play with his prey anymore. His body began to expand like a giant beast was about to crawl out of his slender body. The clothes of Andrew were completely ripped apart. The naked Andrew had already turned into a monster with blood-colored muscles exposed. He had no skin and was covered in blood-colored mucus. He was 4 meters tall and looked like a thin ghost. His right arm had turned into a pale bone blade. This was his blood clan form, utterly different from Vanina. Every blood clan member has their characteristics. Bloodstorm, Andrew yelled. The entire body of Andrew spun rapidly, almost turning into a high-speed spinning top. The bone blade cut through the void, cutting through the air, forming a blood-red storm that devoured everything around it. This was the killer move of Andrew. After releasing his blood clan form, he had the combat strength of a legendary knight. Boom. Andrew, who was like a blood-red tornado, arrived. It was swift. Levi took a deep breath and looked at the blood-colored tornado that had entered the frost giant Sai range. The seal of protection lit up on his body with a bright silver light. At the same time, the liquid black scales poured out and piled up around Levi. Boom. An ear-piercing cutting sound filled the air. The bright silver protection was quickly shattered. At the same time, the liquid black scales were also blown away, turning into black gas and dissipating. Levi hugged the spinning storm. Chapter 231. Then, he snapped his fingers. The frost giant phantom appeared behind Levi. The frost passed through, and everything was frozen. Frozen moment. His liquid black scale had been completely shattered, and even the frost giant armor had deep scratches for the first time. This had never happened before. This was an attack comparable to a legendary knight. This was also the source of the confidence of Andrew. The frost giant armor was not invincible. Ultimately, it was just a mithril armor that the witch had customized for Melon. The unique thing was that it was enchanted with a spell. However, Levi was still holding Andrew down. If the black scale were broken, then it would condense again. A steady stream of black gas surged in the black snake seed. The black snake seed had already exploded. Wounds also appeared on the body of Levi. He already knew where his current limit was. That was, he could receive an attack comparable to that of a legendary knight. Andrew, who was in front of him, was temporarily frozen. However, the body of the blood clan was too strong. Although his body was frozen and his movements were slow, he did not lose his combat power entirely like the other Grand Knight. He looked at the spell of Levi in shock. You are a wizard. I knew it. How could an ordinary Grand Knight be a match for Vanina? That silver light just now seems to be the work of the Winchester family. Are you a spirit exorcist of the Winchester family? The blood clan and the transcendent families have always had a blood feud. Today, let us settle the old and new grudges together. Andrew grinned. In the next moment, the azure blue flames engulfed everything. Levi had already seen his limits through this battle. He would not hold back like before. The seal that he had prepared beforehand was already blasted out. Ice and fire were two different things. In an instant, Andrew was in so much pain that he wanted to die. One must know that the seal of flame of Levi was almost at level 4. Powerful. The blood clan was weak to begin with. Therefore, this sudden attack of flame flow directly changed the situation. Struggling in the flames, Andrew was engulfed by another seal of dragon might. This is a flame flow. This was the Constantine family seal. How did you master the seals of both the Winchester and Constantine families? In the flames, the panic-stricken Andrew cried out. His frozen body had yet to recover. Immediately after, the golden eyes appeared in the void, and the dragon might was swept out. Moreover, at some point in time, poisonous scorpions had crawled all over his feet, gnawing at his flesh and blood. Levi used all his trump cards to ensure he could kill his opponent. His body once again swelled up to 2 meters and 5 meters. Boiling black gas emerged from the red lotus breathing technique. The blood of Levi began to heat up like it was about to burn. His body was emitting steam, and he exhaled countless white gas. Under his skin, blazing blood flowed. Boundless power filled the body of Levi. His physical attributes, strength, speed, physique, perception, and defense were all enhanced. Boom. Levi descended from the sky and took advantage of the effect of the frost giant Sai to beat his opponent. He pressed Andrew to the ground, and Andrew kept struggling. At this moment, his strength was utterly crushed by Levi. Levi held Andrew down tightly, and his golden ripple divine palm poured down, shattering almost all of the body of Andrew, causing blood and flesh to fly everywhere. However, Andrew did not die. The powerful physique of the blood clan was terrifying. Levi suddenly thought of something. Why should I kill him? I can put him under a contract. Thus, he began to chant the blood contract. He heard Levi chanting a familiar incantation. The expression of Andrew changed drastically. How do you know the blood slave curse? You are not a blood clan member. Andrew was utterly shocked by the person in front of him. What was the identity of this human? Why did he know a little about everything? Andrew did not think that the blood slave curse of Levi would work. He would have sensed the blood clan aura if he were a blood breed. However, he did not feel anything. There were only two possibilities for this situation. One was that his bloodline was too weak, and his realm could not sense it. The other was that his lineage was too high and covered his blood clan aura. Even his second-generation secondary blood clan bloodline could not perceive it. Behind Levi, a blood-red chain stretched out. Andrew struggled, but he was frail. Even with the robust physique and self-healing ability of the blood clan, he could not recover quickly after being attacked by Levi countless times. In the end, the blood-red chain locked Andrew tightly. Then, the blood beast mark began to appear on the chest of Andrew. The eyes of Andrew began to change. His expression was regular, but he said, "Master." "Crush your own heart," Levi said. Andrew grabbed at his heart without hesitation, but Levi stopped him. He heaved a sigh of relief and finally confirmed that the blood contract had successfully subdued Andrew. To be safe, Levi tied Andrew up and cleaned up the battlefield before bringing Andrew back to the castle. He suddenly realized that he did not need to trouble a Redbud anymore. This blood clan member seemed more suitable. In the underground secret chamber of the castle, the injured body of Andrew had already begun to heal. Levi could not help but admire the self-healing ability of the blood clan. They were too strong. These mortal injuries could be recovered. Chapter 232. No wonder some people wanted to be part of the blood clan, not humans. Humans were still too weak. Levi asked Andrew and learned that his identity, before he became a blood clan member, was Earl Leal. He was the patriarch of a Count family 200 years ago, but this family had already disappeared. "Can you change your appearance?" Levi asked. According to the Franken Wizard Monster Manual, the blood clan was very good at hiding. They could change their appearance and imitate the people they had seen. That was why the blood clan members could hide so long and profoundly in the human world. Andrew nodded. "This is the basic ability of the blood clan. All right, from now on, you will take my appearance. I want you to replace me and be the Lord of Tulip Hill and Stormy Hill. Remember, from tomorrow onwards, you are Levi," Levi emphasized. Andrew nodded. This was the advantage of being a blood servant. They could follow the rules set by Levi unconditionally. It was equivalent to having the loyalty of the living dead and still having the consciousness of when they were alive, not a robot. Absolute loyalty. This was what Levi needed. "Yes, Master," Andrew said. Levi told Andrew about the things he needed to take note of in the future and some of his habits. He wanted him to pretend to be him in the future. For example, he made him not go out and say he was in seclusion if someone came looking for him. He disallowed him from having any dealings with the church, from exposing his identity as a blood clan member, and only drinking the blood of livestock in the future. Andrew naturally understood the meaning of his master. "Do not worry, Master." Just like that, Levi finally solved the problem of his territory after he left. To him, this was the best outcome. With Andrew assuming his identity and overseeing the territory, he was loyal and decisive. Significantly few people in this world were more potent than Andrew. Andrew was almost unbeatable as long as the church did not discover him. Even he needed to use all his trump cards to defeat Andrew. This was the true strength of a legendary knight. Moreover, Andrew had a very long lifespan. After a few decades, Andrew could completely change his appearance and remain the Lord as the son of Levi. In the future, he could even be the grandson of Levi, until Andrew died. However, there were some risks in the impersonation of Andrew, but overall, this was the best choice for Levi. After settling the problem of the territory, the following evening, when Levi was about to leave for the capital, Knight Anderson returned. He looked at Levi with a strange expression. "Why do I feel the aura of Andrew on you?" Levi shrugged and said casually, "Andrew came to find trouble with me, and I turned him into a blood servant." Even if Andrew changed into his appearance and disguised himself, Anderson would still be able to perceive him. Therefore, Levi decided not to pretend anymore. He wanted to clarify things with Knight Anderson and lay his cards on the table. Anderson had a look of disbelief. "That is impossible. I did not sense any blood clan aura on you before. Were there any blood clan members in your ancestors?" "I am not sure," Levi thought momentarily and said seriously. "Anyway, I have mastered the blood slave curse." Anderson sniffed carefully in front of Levi like a hound. After a while, he looked puzzled and said, "That is strange. I did not sense the aura of the blood clan before. Now that I am smelling it again, there seems to be a fragile aura. Although it is very faint, it is indeed the aura of the blood clan. Was my nose malfunctioning?" Anderson doubted his life. Logically speaking, with his identity as a first-generation blood clan member, he should not have made a mistake. Levi guessed that it might be because he had used the blood slave curse on the night of the full moon and activated the blood clan attribute of the blood beast breathing technique. That was why Andrew, a first-generation blood clan powerhouse, could sense this weak blood clan aura. "It cannot be. Could there be a blood clan member in my ancestors?" Levi said with a changed expression. "That should be the case. Otherwise, you would not have mastered the blood slave curse. Moreover, the blood slave curse cannot be used on blood clan members under normal circumstances. In your case, it means that the blood clan member from your ancestor should be a true high-ranking blood clan member, and not an ordinary one. Only high-ranking blood clan members can enslave low-ranking blood clan members," Anderson said as if he had seen a ghost. In his impression, there did not seem to be any high-ranking blood clan members who had come to this world. Of course, he could not rule out the possibility that some high-ranking blood clan members had hidden in the human world during the early realm intersection and left behind bloodlines with the humans of this world. Perhaps. Anyway, I am leaving today. I will let Andrew continue to be the lord in my place. Sir Anderson, if another Blood Clan member comes looking for trouble with Andrew, I will have to trouble you to take care of him, Levi said. Levi was mainly worried about the attitude of Knight Anderson. Although Anderson had a good personality, he had taken in a Blood Clan member as a blood servant. If Anderson were dissatisfied, he would be in trouble. Now it seemed that he was overthinking. Knight Anderson did not care too much about it. Anderson sighed and said, I did not expect you to go to the wizard world so soon. I thought we could have a good chat after you advanced to the legendary realm in the human world. Forget it. We will talk about it in the future. Maybe I will get bored in the human world and go to the wizard world to look for you. Chapter 233. Alright, we will meet again. See you again. There were not many words in the farewell between men. Levi bid farewell to Anderson and quietly left the territory on the empty night. Andrew had already transformed into the appearance of Levi and continued to act as his agent in the mortal world. A Blood Clan powerhouse with a long lifespan and the ability to change his appearance at will had become the lord of the territory. He was much stronger than any ordinary Grand Knight. The 5 members of the living dead family belonging to Levi were also hidden in his territory. He definitely could not bring them into the realm of the unbelievers. Levi took out their core of the undead. In the future, when he reached the realm of the unbelievers, he would slowly gather the 7 generals of the living dead family lineup. After doing everything, Levi left Flower City overnight. He took his things and arrived at the capital in less than 2 days. He took out the fire paper that was still burning and walked to the door of a remote mansion. This was the mansion of Wenster. He used his high-level advanced vibrosensing to sense around, and there seemed to be quite a few people inside. He took a deep breath and stepped into the mansion. Inside, Levi saw a dozen young people in Wenster, whom he had not seen for a long time. Among them, there was a young man who was very eye-catching. He was tall and close to 3 meters. He stood out among the crowd. Fist of the Empire, Emperor Mew. The heart of Levi slightly changed. He did not expect that this person would come as well. He thought that the Fist of the Empire was still at sea. After all, the grand voyage to find the treasure of the Golden Knight Gregor had not ended yet. But now he had returned early and contacted the 4 great families. He probably wanted to become a wizard. Interesting, Levi muttered. He and the Fist of the Empire were fated. However, with time, he no longer had the fear and oppression he held in the past. He could already face such an expert calmly. These were all potential apprentices that Wenster had found in the past few years. These people were all talking and laughing at this moment. It was obvious that they had known each other for some time. They had all rushed over immediately after receiving the news of the fire paper and arrived a while earlier than Levi. The Fist of the Empire stood there alone. There was no one around him. The aura he emitted was too powerful, as dazzling as the sun. No one dared to approach him. When the Fist of the Empire saw Levi arrive, he only glanced at him. A big shot like the Fist of the Empire would not recognize a nobody like Levi. If Levi were not strong enough, he would not even bother to look at him. Sir Geralt, you are here. Wenster had quite an impression of Geralt. After all, he had sent him the handwritten letter of his ancestor, which was very useful for his cultivation. Sir Webster, I am not late, am I? Levi asked. Wenster responded, no, the official wizard has already arrived. Wait for 3 more days. When everyone is here, I will take you to him. Levi nodded, found a seat, and sat down. He looked at these wizard apprentices and saw that most were nobles, and a few were commoners. One of them was a commoner child dressed in ordinary clothes. He was young and looked to be only 14 years old. From their conversation, Levi learned that this young man was called Jagri. He was a rare seedling of a wizard with a dual affinity with water and fire. Although he was not as good as a child of the elements with a single affinity, he could still be considered a genius. Therefore, Wenster thought highly of him, saying that this child was an apprentice personally selected by an intermediate wizard from the Ocean School of Thought. Levi knew that only wizards above the 3rd circle could be called intermediate wizards among official wizards. Intermediate wizards were usually the leaders of a large wizard organization in the realm of the unbelievers. With an intermediate wizard as his teacher, Jagri had a meteoric rise. In addition, his natural talent was not bad, so as long as he did not die prematurely, advancing to an official wizard was a sure thing. This made the other young wizards envious. They grabbed hold of Jagri and chatted with him. Their voices were filled with flattery and envy. If they could build a good relationship with Jagri, it would be the same as making friends with a future official wizard. It would be easier for them to mingle in the wizard world. However, due to his background as a commoner, Jagri was not used to such hypocritical compliments. He just kept smiling foolishly. He was very reserved, but he was also too embarrassed to offend these young nobles. Levi sighed. This was reality. He had not even entered the realm of the unbelievers, yet this was already happening. In the next 3 days, people came here one after another. In the end, Wenster had recruited 36 wizard apprentices over the past 2 years. Among them, only Jagri had 2 elements. Most of them were children of chaos, and some had triple elements. The various factions in the realm of the unbelievers had already reserved those apprentices with 2 to 3 types of affinity. Levi, one of the children of chaos who lacked elemental affinity, had no reservations. We will set off tonight, Webster said. Wizards naturally would not appear in the capital. There were many people here, and it was close to the church. Chapter 234. In the middle of the night, Wenster brought Levi and the rest out of the city and headed straight for the wilderness. They arrived at a beautiful valley with beautiful lakes and mountains the following day. They saw a dilapidated wooden house in the forest by the lake. On the shore, a middle-aged, tall, thin man dressed in ordinary noble clothes was fishing. "Lord Ron, I have brought everyone here. There are a total of 36 wizard talents," Wenster said respectfully. It was evident that Lord Ron was an official wizard, and he was also the one who brought Levi and the others into the realm of the unbelievers. Levi remained on his guard. So far, there had been no hints from the spider sensing. If this wizard wanted to harm him, he would immediately run away. Wizard Ron nodded slightly. "Well done. There is someone with dual elements in this batch. You have worked hard." Ron threw a small bag at Wenster. It was likely a bag of treats. "Then I will take my leave first. I hope everyone here can become an official wizard one day." Wenster finished his work and left in a hurry. Ron glanced at Levi and the rest. There were not many people he paid attention to. Unlike the geniuses like Jagri, who had 2 or 3 elements, only Levi and the Fist of the Empire caught his attention among the Children of Chaos. The detection spell of Ron could sense that these 2 were powerhouses among Grand Knights. The feeling they gave him was already infinitely close to that of legendary knights. Not bad. Ron was delighted. Legendary knights were also very rare in the realm of the unbelievers. Some famous legendary knights had statuses that were not inferior to the official wizards. To a wizard, having a legendary knight as an apprentice was not bad. However, he frowned slightly because these 2 people had already cultivated the meditation art. Their spiritual power was different from ordinary people. Ron did not think about this anymore. He looked at these young figures whose eyes were filled with confusion, anticipation, or determination. He could not help but think of when he embarked on the wizard journey 100 years ago. He was in high spirits. Now, the cruelty of the wizarding world had smoothed the edges of time. "My name is Ron, the guide of your wizard path, a member of the Penplain Wizard Council. From today onwards, you will embark on a journey you have never imagined, pursuing the truth you can never reach. In this process, you may face many unimaginable dangers and strange things. Therefore, before entering the realm of the unbelievers, I want to tell you that the wizarding world is less beautiful than you think. You can live the rest of your life in the human world, but in our world, all the power and status you have now will start from scratch. Therefore, if you are not determined to become a wizard, think carefully before stepping in. Are you ready to become a wizard? I will give you 7 minutes to consider. After 7 minutes, those still willing to follow me will stay, and those who are unwilling will leave. Turning back will be difficult once you set foot on this path." The expression of Ron was solemn as he spoke in the standard language of the Emerald Kingdom. With a wave of his hand, the ordinary noble attire on his body changed into a black wizard robe with flame patterns. These young people looked at the wizard and decided in their hearts. Naturally, Levi did not hesitate. He had already made this decision when he knew about the existence of the wizard. As time ticked by, some of the young nobles struggled. In the end, 6 chose to turn around and leave, returning the way they came. Only 30 people remained standing. Perhaps the wizarding world was exciting, but to them, they were not ready to face that unknown world. Wizard Ron was expressionless. He took a piece of parchment and spread it on the ground. There was something like a map drawn on it. He muttered something as if he were reciting a spell. Then, the parchment continued to expand, and the map grew. Levi stared at the map carefully. The map had endless blue oceans, red deserts, ice fields, black mountain ranges, and green forests. Levi felt this map was similar to the current map of the 7 kingdoms, but it was not the same. On these maps, Levi also saw some doors. These doors suddenly appeared on the flat map, shining brightly. It was very magical. They probably used this tool to enter the realm of the unbelievers. Realm of Ice, Realm of Azure Cloud. The Realm of Life. These are the names of the realm of the unbelievers. Levi had some understanding of the wizarding world and muttered. Then Ron looked at the nervous newcomers and said, "Next, stand at the door where I tell you to stand when I read the name." This map is the distribution map of all the schools under the Penplain Wizard Council. Each school occupies a realm of the unbelievers. I will assign you to a school according to your elemental affinity. This map will send you directly to the receiver of the corresponding school. There, your teachers have already sent people to wait. They will contact you. In the future, you will follow your teachers and cultivate well. As long as you become an official wizard, you will automatically become a member of the Penplain Wizard Council. You will also truly appreciate the wonders of the wizard world. Chapter 235. After Ron spoke, he began to call out names. He named Jagri first. Jagri, the Ocean School of Thought, standing before the realm of Azure Cloud. The young man, Jagri, did not think of being called first and immediately stood before the realm of Azure Cloud door. The realm of Azure Cloud was on the map above the endless blue sea. Montel, the School of Death, standing before the realm of Hell. The young man named Montel was unwilling, but he did not dare to disobey. He stood before the eerie realm of Hell door. Soon, Ron had finished assigning all the newcomers to their respective guilds. Fortunately, Levi was also assigned to the Ocean School of Thought. Fortunately, it is not the School of Death. Perhaps it is because I cultivate the meditation art of the Ocean School of Thought, Levi guessed. Next to Levi was a 3-meter-tall giant. It was the Fist of the Empire, Emperor Mu. He was also assigned to the Ocean School of Thought. This made Levi feel that he was fated to be with the Fist of the Empire. It was because Emperor Mu had also cultivated the meditation art of the Ocean School of Thought. Remember, although I have temporarily divided you into different schools, it does not mean you have to walk the path of this school in the future. No matter your school, many wizards from other schools will be mixed in. So if you are lucky enough, you can still learn the meditation art and spell of your favorite school. In addition, when you are in the realm of the unbelievers, you must master the common language of the wizard as soon as possible. Many wizards in the realm of the unbelievers come from various regions of the Seven Kingdoms and other planes. Therefore, everyone uses the common language created by the wizards. Now that everyone has been assigned to their respective sects, I will activate the teleportation. Close your eyes, and do not look around, Ron urged. Then, the vast map began to spin. The illusory doors suddenly opened, and the figures in front of the doors disappeared one by one. This map was developed by the wizards of the Penplane Wizard Council as a new wizard tool. This way, they could avoid looking for the entrances to the realm of the unbelievers scattered worldwide, and directly carried out fixed-point teleportation. Naturally, Levi did not dare to open his eyes. He waited until he felt his feet on the ground, and his advanced vibrosensing sensed the wind and footsteps before he opened his eyes. The Fist of the Empire and Jagri were beside him. Levi looked around and found himself on the deck of an ancient ship. Under their feet were highly complicated arrays and runic patterns. The three of them stared at each other. Three people wearing different wizard robes were chatting on the ship deck. After noticing that people had teleported over, they turned around. There were two men and a woman. They did not look old. The woman looked even younger than Levi, probably in her early 20s. One of the blue-robed wizards with the most potent aura asked, "Who is Jan?" Jagri raised his hand. "I am your senior, an official wizard Leo. Your talent is not bad, and you have been accepted as an apprentice by my teacher, the island master of the Whalesong Island. From now on, you are a member of the Whalesong Island," Leo said confidently. He deliberately used the emerald language to facilitate understanding. It could be seen that Whalesong Island was a very famous force in the realm of Azure Cloud. "All right, Senior Leo," Jagri rubbed the back of his head and laughed. "Let us go. The teacher is already waiting for you," Leo said. Then he whistled, and a slender whale-type sea beast suddenly appeared on the sea surface. He pulled Jagri and jumped onto the back of the sea beast. Then, he smiled and said to the other man and woman, "If there is a chance, you two are welcome to come to Whalesong Island to taste my wine." Then, the beast disappeared from the sea at a breakneck speed. In the end, the remaining man and woman discussed in low voices. Then, the woman took out a die, and the two seemed to be deciding who to choose by rolling the dice. After rolling the dice, the man smiled. He walked to the Fist of the Empire and asked, "Emperor Mew, I am a high-level wizard of Sighing Sea Breeze. The master of Sighing Sea Breeze is a second circle wizard, Sage Mason. Are you willing to join Sighing Sea Breeze and become a wizard apprentice?" The Fist of the Empire immediately nodded. Levi had learned from Wenster that although the Fist of the Empire had talent in the wizard arts, he was also one of the children of chaos like Levi. Therefore, from the point of view of the Fist of the Empire, being accepted as an apprentice by a second circle wizard was already far beyond his expectations. Just like that, Levi was left alone to enjoy the sea breeze. He seemed to have no other choice. The woman was wearing a grey wizard robe with a sun tattoo on her chest. Her black curly hair was naturally draped over her shoulders. She smiled and said, "I am a high-level wizard of the Grey Tower, Winnie. Are you willing to become an apprentice of the Grey Tower?" The owner of the Grey Tower is Herman, a white-robed wizard and a wizard from the famous Ocean School of Thought. Levi nodded. "I am willing. Hello, Senior. Please take care of me in the future." Winnie nodded. "Then we will just take this ship back to the island. We will probably reach the island where the Grey Tower is tomorrow morning. You can come to my room to sit." Winnie greeted Levi and walked into the cabin. Levi saw that the Fist of the Empire had followed the wizard from Sighing Sea Breeze into the room. Obviously, other than the official wizard Leo of Whalesong Island, the people of the Grey Tower and Sighing Sea Breeze did not have their own means of transportation. They could only take this public transportation to pick up the new students. Levi sighed in his heart and entered the cabin of Winnie. Chapter 236. The sea surface was calm. White waves sparkled under the sunlight. The ancient ship advanced at a constant speed. Winnie sat on the bed in the classically decorated cabin. She leaned lazily against the wall. Her wavy hair shone in the sun and turned pale gold. She casually crossed her right leg over her left leg. The loose grey wizard robe could not hide her slender legs. Levi sat on a high stool with a severe expression. He waited for his senior to speak. "Junior, how old are you?" Winnie asked. Because Levi had not mastered the common language, Winnie communicated with Levi in the Emerald language. Unlike Levi, she was born in the realm of the unbelievers. Because her mother was from the Emerald Kingdom, she was fluent in the Emerald language. 27, Levi said. "Junior, you should shave your beard." "I thought you were 40, Winnie chuckled. "Although I am younger than you by 2 years, I entered the tower earlier. I hope you do not mind me calling you Junior," Winnie said. Levi smiled and nodded. He did not care about these titles. "Are you a noble of the Emerald Kingdom?" Winnie said. Levi nodded. "Gerald is also a fake name, right?" Winnie said with a smile. "Yes, Senior. You may call me Levi," Levi responded. Anyway, this was the wizarding world. There was nothing to hide. I knew it, but it does not matter. In this world, no one cares what your name is anyway. It is just a boring code name. "I will call you Junior Levi from now on," Winnie said. For wizards, no matter what your identity was before you came in, even if you were the king of the 7 kingdoms, we would not care. In the eyes of wizards, the power and status in the secular world are just a bunch of short-lived mayflies playing a boring game. What the wizards value more is knowledge, power, and your status in the Penplane Wizard Council, Winnie took a sip of water and continued. Let me tell you about the situation of our Grey Tower, so that you can have a basic understanding. Thank you, Senior. Levi nodded and thanked her sincerely. Yes, this is my duty. There is no need to thank me. The Grey Tower was founded 400 years ago by Salmon, the first-generation White Robe Wizard. The current Tower Master Herman was Salmon's apprentice, a second circle wizard. As for Wizard Salmon, he had already advanced to a third circle wizard 100 years ago. After becoming an intermediate wizard, he left the Grey Tower and went to the Star Tower. Levi nodded. A third circle wizard could live for 400 years. He had never heard of the Star Tower. Tutton was not from the Ocean School of Thought, so he did not know much about it. Winnie seemed to have noticed the confusion of Levi and said, the realm of Azure Cloud is also known as the Endless Sea. Our Grey Tower is located at the edge of the Endless Sea. The Star Sea is in the center of the Endless Sea. That is where the Star Tower is located. The Star Tower is the most significant force in the realm of Azure Cloud. It gathers wizards from all over the Endless Sea. The Star Tower also maintains the order of the realm of Azure Cloud. However, it is too far away from you and me. You will know in the future. Back to the main topic. Our Grey Tower now has a second circle wizard, Tower Master Herman. Also, 3 first circle wizards teach meditation, magic, and general knowledge. You will see them when you reach the Grey Tower, and I will introduce them to you in detail. As for wizards, the Grey Tower has a fixed quota of 30 people, and I am one of them. Our Grey Tower pursues quality over quantity so that we may have fewer people than other organizations, but our strength is not weak. We are enough to rank in the top 5 among the wizard organizations in the nearby sea. Our Grey Tower is more united, and everyone gets along well. Besides the Grey Tower, the nearby sea areas with more prominent wizard organizations include the Sighing Sea Breeze, the Whale Song Island, the Dark Sea Cave, and the Undead Ship. There are more than 10 of them. Whale Song Island was the most powerful among them, because their current island master is a third circle wizard. Other than that, the other forces were similar. They usually had a second circle wizard overseeing them. Of course, there are some other small forces. Because the realm of Azure Cloud area is too small, it is mainly distributed as an archipelago. Therefore, some official wizards have not joined the significant forces on other small islands in our sea area. In the future, you should not randomly land on the island in this sea area. Every wizard hates it when others enter their territory without the owner's permission. Although the Panplane Wizard Council forbids wizards from killing each other in private, and advocates that the Wizard Tribunal should handle disputes, trespassing on the territory of other wizards is not handled by the Panplane Wizard Council. The Island Master could kill you on the spot. Winnie introduced Levi patiently. She often mentioned an organization. That was the Panplane Wizard Council. This was a cross-sect, even cross-plane wizard organization. Wizard leaders of the old and new schools of thought jointly launched it. To protect the interests of all the wizards in the world, maintain order among the wizards, and fight against other forces. It was an all-encompassing and powerful organization. Chapter 237. The sponsors were usually some legendary wizards and grand wizards. In the world of wizards, only a 9th circle wizard could be called a grand wizard. Beyond that, they were legendary wizards. According to Tutton, a grand wizard was a powerful existence comparable to some demigods of the multidimensional plane. On the other hand, legendary wizards surpassed demigods and could be compared to gods in the multidimensional space. That was why Tutton said the Witch of the School of Ice, Witch Gulwick, was the closest woman to the snow goddess. According to the first article of the Panplane Wizard Council Constitution, no matter what sect you were from, no matter what region you were from, once you became an official wizard, you would be a member of the Panplane Wizard Council. The Panplane Wizard Council would protect your life rights, property rights, and intellectual property rights to original spells. There were also some protective rules for wizards. After all, the life of a wizard was also cherished. Of course, most of the protection was in principle, but it was challenging to implement due to manpower and technical difficulties. There were still many lawless fanatics in the wizarding world. Levi listened to the explanation from Winnie while matching the wizard he had heard from Tutton. The findings were the same. It seemed that these two people were not lying to him. The ship sailed slowly until it reached a vast island. Sighing sounds came from the sea breeze. This is the voice of the sighing banshee in the sea. This island is the Sighing Island, the territory of the Sighing Sea Breeze. Winnie pointed out the window and introduced the location. Levi watched as the Fist of the Empire got off the ship under the lead of the high-level wizard. Then, they took a small boat and headed for the island. Levi looked at the disappearing figure of the Fist of the Empire. This legendary figure had become a nobody in the wizard world. Will the Sighing Banshee attack the humans? Levi asked the question. Besides the monsters described in the Frankenwizard Monster Manual, he knew nothing about the creatures in the realm of the unbelievers. No, they are afraid of people and hide far away when they see people. However, many powerful sea beasts and extraordinary creatures exist in the realm of Azure Cloud. They mastered spell-like abilities and were not friendly to humans. These extraordinary creatures are even a headache for wizards. Therefore, other than the fixed safe routes established by some wizards, do not run around. Winnie instructed him. Levi looked out the window and suddenly felt a little worried. In this boundless sea, would he be able to concoct all the secret medicines for breathing techniques? Although he had arranged for Andrew to continue searching for breathing technique inheritance diagrams and secret medicine in the human world, it seemed that it would be tough to send them over quickly. Forget it. If he could not find the secret medicine, he could slowly work on it as a wizard. As long as he became an official wizard, his lifespan would be 200 years. It would be more than enough. Levi had thought it through. Senior, what should I do if I want to return to the human world? Levi asked. Return to the human world. It would be best to go to the Star Tower, where there is a subdimensional portal to the human world. However, using the subdimensional portal would cost a considerable price. Even if you were an official wizard, you would feel highly pained. Therefore, you should not go back if it is not an important matter. Why would you go back to the human world? That was not a place for wizards. If you need to contact your family and friends in the human world, or mail something, you can go to the Star Sea to find the Olary. The Olary is an organization under the Panplane Wizard Council. They have ways to contact your family in the human world. You can pay the corresponding mailing fee, and let their people pick up things from the human world, or send something over. This cost is much lower than returning to the human world yourself. The kind of mail was limited to non-living objects and items allowed by the law. Living objects or prohibited items could not be brought in without permission. This would be considered smuggling. Levi nodded. Before he became an official wizard, he might not have had the chance to return to the human world. They chatted and laughed as the giant ship braved the wind and waves and finally arrived at a vast island. The island was hidden in the fog and the sea. Two twin towers could be vaguely seen standing side by side in the mountains. Each building was nearly 100 meters tall and stood in the sky. Junior, we are here. Winnie patted the shoulder of Levi gently. Levi stood up and took his luggage. Winnie looked at the bow belonging to Levi and smiled. Junior has gained a lot in the human world. Levi smiled and said, they are all scrap metal. Senior, you would not care about them. Winnie covered her mouth and chuckled. The fog in front of her gradually dispersed, and a sea beast covered in brass armor and countless nails appeared before Levi, giving him a slight shock. The size of the sea beast was similar to the killer whale in his previous life. A breathing hole was on its head, and a black chimney extended. White hot steam spewed out, making a loud sound. Junior brother Levi, do not be afraid. This is the alchemical creature White Tower No. 7 developed by our Tower Master. Besides being good at the Ocean School of Thought, our Tower Master is also quite proficient in the School of Alchemy, and likes to study alchemical creatures. Therefore, if you occasionally see some strange iron-skinned monsters on the island, do not panic. These are all alchemical creatures. Chapter 238. After Winnie finished speaking, she muttered something. Then, her body floated down from the ship lightly like a feather, and landed on White Tower No. 7. It looked like some cantrip. Come down, Junior. It should not be a problem for a grand knight, right? Winnie said. Levi nodded and jumped down from the tall boat. With a bang, he landed on the head of White Tower No. 7. The alchemical creature swayed, and was almost smashed to the bottom of the sea. The seawater flooded over and soaked the defenseless Winnie. I am sorry, Senior. I am too heavy. Levi was a little embarrassed. He did not expect this alchemical creature to be so fragile. He was close to becoming a legendary Grand Knight and simultaneously cultivated strength, physique, and defense-breathing techniques. This caused his physical density to be much higher than ordinary people. He was tall, to begin with, and he was wearing the Frost Giant armor, which made him weigh more than 1,000 pounds. The impact of falling from the tall ship was undoubtedly too significant. Winnie smiled and said, it is okay. Just do not break the White Tower No. 7 belonging to the Tower Master. You will not be able to afford it. Winnie stroked the seawater on her long hair. Her soaked wizard robe clung tightly to her body, highlighting her perfect figure. On the other hand, Levi was staring at the island in front of him. The island was even more significant than the territories of some barons in the human world. Its diameter should be close to 100 miles. The island was surrounded by fog, and there were mountains and primitive forests everywhere. There was no end to it, and the low roars of wild beasts could be heard. White Tower No. 7 slowly advanced and finally arrived at the coast of the island. After landing on the island, White Tower No. 7 stopped and lay on the side, not moving. Winnie jumped down and led the way. Levi followed silently. The gray tower looked very close but was still far from the coast. To take care of the speed of Winnie, Levi strolled. Winnie had a cantrip that could speed up the journey, but did not think it was necessary. It had been a long time since a newcomer had come to the Grey Tower. It was not easy for her to get a chance to chat with the newcomer, so she would not miss it. Along the way, the taciturn Levi was forced to chat with his talkative senior. Fortunately, he was a wily old fox in his previous life, so it was not a problem for him to deal with a wizard like his senior sister, who had few interpersonal relationships. Not long after, they arrived at the bottom of the Grey Tower. I will take you to see the Tower Master first. Every new wizard has to see him, Winnie said. Levi nodded and followed. The Tower Master lived in the White Tower all year round. The White Tower was the residence of an official wizard. There were 7 floors, and the Tower Master lived on the highest floor. The other 3 first circle wizards stayed on the lower level. Some empty floors in the White Tower were still prepared for future official wizards, while the first level was not occupied. The 100-meter-tall White Tower was as tall as the office buildings in his previous life. Levi entered the first floor of the White Tower. Inside was a vast circular square. There were some uniquely shaped wooden planks on the court. Levi looked at them and saw that they were all the schedules of wizard courses. Some were the mission boards and other public function areas. A stone pillar ran through the entire White Tower at the center of the square. Levi saw a giant frosty white snake on the post as thick as a water tank coiling around it. The giant snake was huge, and each scale was the size of a palm. It was emitting a metallic luster. It coiled around the pillar, raised its head, and stuck out its tongue. It cast a cold aura as it stared at Levi. The aura of the giant snake made Levi feel a massive sense of oppression. Even the first-generation Blood Clan member, the legendary Knight Anderson, did not give Levi such a massive sense of oppression. A transcendent creature. A true transcendent creature. Moreover, it was at least comparable to an official wizard, Levi exclaimed in his heart. Let us go. Let Hormengun take us to the 7th floor, Winnie said. She gently approached the side of the white snake and reached out. The white snake lowered its head and let her stroke it. Junior, come here. Do not be afraid. Hormengun is the pet of the first Tower Master when he was young. He is a frost ice python raised by the first Tower Master. His age is the same as the Grey Tower, and he has witnessed the changes in our organization for 400 years. Winnie looked smug. This was something to be proud of. As Levi walked over, the white snake stuck its tongue beside him. Levi could feel that the black snake seed in his body seemed provoked, and an invisible pressure was emitted from his pupils. Then, the white snake quietly turned its head back. It no longer dared to sniff around Levi. Levi could feel the strange movements of the black snake seed. If the black snake with a candle existed, even if the white snake was a transcendent creature, it was still a little brother in front of the mighty black snake. Then, the tail of the white snake wrapped around Levi and Winnie, and its body coiled around the giant pillar, spiraling into the sky. Soon, they reached the 7th floor. After putting Levi and the others down, the white snake stared at Levi and silently descended. The 7th floor was very spacious. Levi saw all kinds of rooms, all of which were decorated with skull symbols that represented danger. One wrote, Tower Master Forbidden Area. Trespassing will be severely punished. Chapter 239. Finally, they stopped at the entrance of a small house. Because they had already informed him beforehand, Winnie dared to bring Levi to the 7th floor. Otherwise, the consequences of trespassing on the residents of the 7th floor would be dire. According to the rules of the Panplane Wizard Council, every legal wizard organization registered in the Panplane Wizard Council had the right to formulate their own rules within the scope of the Constitution. Therefore, in the Grey Tower, the Tower Master was the one who set all the rules in the tower. The door of the tiny house was tightly shut. Levi sensed the person inside. It must be the Tower Master. On the lock of the wooden door, there was a carved Ouroboros. The snake kept spinning. After leaving the lock, the wooden door automatically opened. A creaking sound echoed in the tower. In the small house, an old man in a grey robe and a tall hat was reading a thick book. The right arm under the long sleeves of the old man was made of mithril. The old man turned around and stared at Levi with eyes full of wisdom. Teacher Herman, this is Levi. He is one of the new batch of people sent in from outside. He is also a Grand Knight, Winnie said like a lark. Hello, Lord Tower Master, Levi quickly greeted. The Tower Master stared at Levi, and the alchemical body on his right arm suddenly extended, crossing a distance of 3 meters and gently coiling around Levi like a long snake. Then, the cold metal palm gradually withdrew. Winnie seemed to be used to this situation. Although Levi felt a little uncomfortable, he could not say anything. The Tower Master suddenly said, your spiritual power is not bad, almost reaching the level of an intermediate wizard. However, your spell power is a little weak. It seems that you practiced it blindly in the human world. Yes, Lord Tower Master, I fumbled alone, Levi said. It is not bad. With the talent of the children of chaos, you could cultivate the meditation art to this level at this age. I can see that your temperament and perseverance are not bad. Moreover, you still have to cultivate the breathing technique, and the effort you put in is not comparable to that of the wizards in this Grey Tower. Many wizards look down on children of chaos. No matter your talent, as long as you have some shining points, you can be put in an important position. The Tower Master did not seem dissatisfied with the talent of Levi as a child of chaos. Instead, he affirmed the talent of Levi. Thank you for your compliment, Tower Master, Levi said respectfully. Although the Tower Master looked strange, his personality was good. The Tower Master said, Winnie, take your junior down. Bring him to meet the other wizards and familiarize him with the rules and environment of the tower. I still have to continue my research. Yes, teacher. Winnie smiled and bowed to the Tower Master. Then, she took Levi and rode the white snake Hormengun to the other wizard floors to meet the rest. Among the other 3 wizards of the Grey Tower were 2 male wizards and 1 female wizard. Each of them was highly mysterious and powerful to Levi. They were official wizards, even if they were only first circle wizards. In the nearby sea region, the status of a group member was extremely high. Therefore, only the official wizard could apply for an island from the Star Tower and become the owner. In fact, with the talent of Levi as a child of chaos, the chances of becoming an official wizard were slim if he did not have the proficiency panel. About 1 in every 10 children of chaos could become a wizard. It would be much better if they had a 3-element affinity. They could become a wizard in their lifetime. Dual affinity meant that there was a chance for him to become an intermediate wizard. As for the children of the elements, as long as they did not die prematurely, it would not be a problem for them to become high-level wizards. Everyone believed only children of the elements hoped to become grand or legendary wizards. Of course, there were always exceptions. In the current Panplane Wizard Council, many powerful existences were still not children of the elements, but had ordinary talents. However, they often had other aspects surpassing others, such as perseverance and luck. In the end, Winnie brought Levi to meet every official wizard. The two of them returned to the Grey Tower together. The White Tower was the residence of an official wizard. The Grey Tower was the residence of wizard apprentices. At present, including Levi, the Grey Tower has a total of 30 wizard apprentices. Apart from that, there were also many wizard apprentices outside of the Grey Tower on this island. They could not become official wizards, and there was no hope of breaking through. Therefore, they left the Grey Tower and worked in other organization departments to obtain cultivation resources. Unlike the White Tower, the Grey Tower had 30 floors. Therefore, it looked a little like the pigeon coop from his previous life. However, the advantage was that every wizard could occupy a level, and each level was huge. Levi was assigned to the 9th level. The Grey Tower did not have an elevator like the White Snake. He had to walk upstairs. Fortunately, Levi was a grand knight, so reaching 9 floors in one go was easy. Winnie handed the 9th floor key to Levi. The key was a bracelet with runes engraved on it. With this bracelet, one could simultaneously open the door by chanting the incantation for the 9th floor. It was very convenient. Junior, you should rest first. Today is your first day here, so you should recover your energy. Tomorrow, you will officially start your life in the Wizard Tower. In the future, keep in touch. You can go to the 24th floor and look for me. Winnie waved goodbye to Levi. Chapter 240. It was said that according to the unwritten rules of the Grey Tower, only high-level wizards were qualified to live on the 20th floor. Every year, the White Tower would conduct an end-of-year assessment for the apprentices of the Grey Tower. The assessment content included courses and actual combat. The final ranking was based on the evaluation. The better the order, the higher the living floor. This was a symbol of honor and status. Moreover, the various facilities and functions on the upper floors were more complete. Levi smiled and waved his hand in response. Watching the back of Winnie disappear from his sight, Levi chanted the spell to open the door to the 9th floor. When he entered, the gate closed automatically. What greeted his eyes was an empty, huge living room and various small rooms. There was a bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, meditation room, spell practice room, storage room, and everything else. Levi estimated that the area of the 9th floor should be several hundred square meters. Even though he was a wizard apprentice, this place was much better than the one in his previous life. It was simply a mansion, not inferior to his castle in the human world. There were also some landscape oil paintings hanging on the walls. The scenery in these oil paintings was dynamic. Swaying wheat, soaring eagles, open waves. Levi casually tidied up the house to see if there were any dangerous sights. After checking, he placed some of his luggage on the ground. Phew, it went much smoother than I thought. Both Senior and the Tower Master seem to be good people. It does not matter if I can enter a powerful wizard organization. I need a safe wizard organization to cultivate in. Now it seems that the Grey Tower is indeed not bad. Of course, it is also possible that they are all pretending. After all, I am new here and do not know anything. Levi muttered these words to the empty room. It was his first time coming to such a faraway place, and he did not know what to do for a while. It was the same feeling he had in his previous life, when he went from a small county to the Imperial University of Political Science and Law on the first day of school. He was a little confused and at a loss. He was not tired now, so he might as well continue cultivating breathing techniques. No matter where he went, the fine tradition of cultivating breathing techniques could not be abandoned. While cultivating, Levi thought about his next step. First of all, he still had to continue cultivating as a knight. He was now at the peak of Black Snake level 10. He needed 8 points to break through, but currently, Levi had no extra defensive breathing technique. Before he left the human world, he had asked Andrew to continue collecting breathing techniques from the human world. Now, it seemed that even if Andrew had ordered them, he would not be able to give them to him quickly, so he had to rely on himself to manage them in the wizard world. Next, he had to find a new source of ambergris in the realm of the unbelievers. Apart from that, Levi also had the giant breathing technique at the peak of level 9, as well as the level 8 Red Lotus, Ostrich Mountain, Giant Rhinoceros, Blood Whale, Siren, Blood Beast, the level 7 Thunder Wolf, Vortex Beast, as well as a few shallow breathing techniques that had been cultivated to the limit. As for the Red Lotus, Ostrich Mountain, and Blood Beast breathing techniques, they had no limits and had to continue cultivating. As for the seals, Levi felt it should be easy to prepare all the required materials in the realm of the unbelievers. He planned to search for a way to find a way out. He would try to push all 4 seals to the maximum in the next few years. This way, even if he did not advance to an official wizard, he would have the ability to cast spells comparable to a first ring spell with the help of the seals. Moreover, the seal did not take up his spell slots. After cultivating it, it was equivalent to having 4 more spell slots than another wizard. Golden Cross Slash, the sword skill, required time to comprehend revolving force, so he put it aside for now. As for his lifestyle skills, he did not need to worry about his level 2 medicine skills. However, he might be able to upgrade his level 4 pharmacy skills. Finally, there was the deep sea meditation art and the insect controlling technique. This meditation art was almost at level 2 under the efforts of Levi in the past few years. At that time, his spiritual power would reach the level of an intermediate wizard. He still had to work on the insect controlling technique. In the future, he had to think of a way to cultivate saint scorpions. In short, after Levi concluded, he realized that even if he did not consider the wizard courses that he would have to learn in the future. He would spend a lot of time cultivating his current skills. Take it slow. Levi smiled bitterly inside. He did not dare to sleep on the first day. He spent the entire night cultivating breathing techniques on the 9th floor. In the middle of the night, Levi sensed through his advanced vibrosensing that the apprentice downstairs seemed to have brought a woman in. Then they had sex. The soundproofing of every floor of the Grey Tower was excellent, but the advanced vibrosensing of Levi was too perverse, so he could almost sense the movements in half of the Grey Tower. The White Tower was no match for him. The official wizard there had established isolation magic circles for their residences, and the advanced vibrosensing of Levi was useless. Levi had always lived in a giant castle when he was in the human world, so no one else was around him. Here, they could only stay in buildings. Levi did not know whether to laugh or cry at this rare experience, similar to staying in a cheap hotel chain in his previous life. He could only block his senses and cultivate quietly. The next day, the bell in the bell tower at the top of the Grey Tower rang automatically. Levi also came out from his cultivation. Chapter 241. The bell in the tower at the top of the Grey Tower rang automatically. This was the signal for apprentice wizards to gather. Levi put away all his items. He wore the frost giant armor beneath the wizard robe he had received the previous day. In the Grey Tower, the apprentice wizards wore grey robes, so they were known as grey-robed wizards. Once they became official wizards, they would be qualified to wear white robes and live in the White Tower, which offered much better conditions. Even among those wearing grey robes, there was a distinction. A star was embroidered on the wizard robe of Levi, signifying that he was a low-level apprentice wizard. Senior sister Winnie wore a wizard robe embroidered with a sun, representing a high-level apprentice. The medium level was naturally marked by a moon. Levi looked at himself in the mirror. He stood over 2 meters tall, draped in his wizard robe. With his muscular frame and thick beard, he possessed the temperament of the melee wizard Gondaf. He felt his mood brighten. Carrying his 2 swords on his back, he went downstairs. The Grey Tower was the living quarters for apprentice wizards, while the official wizards resided in the White Tower. Beyond these buildings, there were other areas, such as the small garden deep in the forest at the center of the island, and the alchemy cave located in the crater of a volcano. These places had little to do with Levi for the moment. The wizard courses in the Grey Tower were self-selected. There were no compulsory courses, only electives. Every apprentice could choose the courses offered by the teachers according to their current progress and needs. Meditation, art, spells, and general education were divided into basic and advanced levels. Levi was a newcomer, a wild wizard who had learned everything on his own. Naturally, he chose the most basic courses. In the morning sessions, there was only one basic class. It was the Introduction to Wizards General Education. This course was designed for newcomers like Levi. Normally, there would only be one session per week. Because the number of newcomers to the Grey Tower was very low, there were not many students in a given year. Levi walked into the classroom and saw a high-level apprentice wizard wearing a grey robe with a sun pattern. He served as the substitute teacher for this class. Official wizards remained too busy, and high-level apprentices usually taught this kind of basic class. The apprentices could earn points by teaching. With these points, one could purchase spell models, meditation art, magic wands, and other wizard tools in the White Sail Alley of the Grey Tower. Of course, in addition to accumulating points, one could also use ether stones to make purchases. These stones often contained rich elemental energy. They served as an important resource for the cultivation of wizards and acted as the general currency for the entire wizard world. Levi was the only person attending the basic general education class. The teacher gave a simple self-introduction and began the lesson. The knowledge provided by the teacher felt very systematic, and general knowledge was exactly what Levi lacked. After all, Tutton had not been a professional teacher, and there were many things he had never taught Levi. Just like that, Levi finished his first lesson, and the teacher left in a hurry. In the Grey Tower, every wizard and apprentice stayed busy. They seemed to have endless courses, research projects, and cultivation schedules. Levi looked at the bracelet on his right hand. A number appeared on it, 10. This was the initial point allowance that the Grey Tower gave to every apprentice wizard. Without these points, it would be difficult to advance in the Grey Tower. If these points were exchanged for ether stones, there would be 10 of them. Unfortunately, ether stones can only be exchanged for points, Levi muttered to himself. Ether stones functioned as the hard currency, and points could only be used within the area of the Grey Tower. Levi arrived at White Sail Alley. He casually walked into a wizard tool shop. He needed to buy a wizard tool. "Hello, I need to buy a Klein crystal," Levi said. "Low-grade Klein crystal is 5 points each," the shopkeeper replied. He was a lifeless, old, high-level apprentice wizard. He was not one of the 30 apprentice wizards in the Grey Tower. Because of his age, he had no hope of breaking through to become an official wizard. He had been removed from the list long ago. Now, the White Tower had arranged for him to guard the shop and spend his later years in peace. Levi used half of his points to buy a fist-sized crystal ball. This crystal ball was very crucial. The training of a wizard could not proceed without it. After buying the crystal ball, Levi looked at the various kinds of wizard tools in the display window, with the majority of them being magic wands. The low-grade swordfish wand costs 20 points. It can slightly increase the power of spells, and has a solidified zero-ring cantrip named Water Arrow. "Do you want it?" the old man asked. "I am just looking." "I cannot afford it," Levi replied. He had shopped around for items like wands, and the cheapest one cost 20 points. For example, the treasure of the shop, a top-grade wand, cost 500 points. It was said that this wand could be used by an official wizard, and it had 3 first-ring spells solidified within it. On one hand, wands were used to assist wizards in casting spells. A good wand could shorten the casting time, increase the power of spells, and save mental strength and spell power. On the other hand, if some spells were solidified in the wand, it would reduce the casting process when facing enemies, as the user only needed to chant to cast the spells. According to the general education class from the morning, Levi knew that only apprentice wizards and low-level wizards would use wands to assist them. After reaching the intermediate level, they would all cast spells without a wand. Chapter 242. Therefore, most of the wands, even the best ones, were only in the category of quasi-wizard tools, and were still not considered official wizard tools. In terms of value, these wands were not as precious as the pot of equal value belonging to Levi. Many official wizards did not even have official wizard tools, let alone apprentice wizards. But no matter what, he could not afford it. He was poor. He had 10,000 taels of gold, but he could only let them accumulate dust. Levi shook his head and left the shop with a sigh. Now that he only had 5 points left, it was better to use them sparingly. He did not need the wand for now. After all, he had only mastered 1 0-ring cantrip, which was the insect-controlling technique. The spells from the School of Insects did not really require a wand. After returning to his residence, Levi took out the Klein crystal. This was an item required for the cultivation of wizards. It cost 10 ether stones outside, but in the organization, it only cost 5 points. This was the benefit of joining the organization. Levi placed his hand on the Klein crystal ball. He entered a state of meditation. Above the Klein crystal ball, symbols began to appear. Spiritual force, 4. Spell power, 15. Looking at the numbers, Levi frowned. No wonder the Tower Master said that his spiritual force was fine, but his spell power was not enough. The threshold spiritual force for intermediate apprentice wizards was 5 points, and he was already very close. According to the general education teacher, the normal spiritual force value of 4 points should be 40, which meant that 1 point of spiritual force represented 10 points of spell power. The so-called spell power was a product of the cultivation of a wizard. If spiritual force was a bucket, then spell power was the water in the bucket. In the early days, wizards needed to consume spiritual force to cast spells, including what Tutton had introduced to Levi before. However, after learning in the general education class, Levi knew that this theory had been eliminated. Wizards were a group that pursued innovation and truth. They would not blindly worship the past, and believed that the present was better than the past. The truth could be infinitely close, but there was no way to truly grasp it. Therefore, the theoretical changes in the world of wizards were also constantly evolving. Tutton was old history. It was not his fault. After all, he had stayed in the human world for so long, and he had no contact with wizards. According to the latest research theory of a legendary wizard 300 years ago, it was more accurate to say that casting spells consumed spell power. The relationship between spell power and spiritual force was related. The higher the spiritual force, the stronger the spell power. Spiritual force determines spell power. No wonder I became weak when I used the insect-controlling technique a few times because I did not have enough spell power. Levi recalled the process of practicing the insect-controlling technique and came to a realization. The insect-controlling technique is a simple 3-structure spell model. Each casting requires 3 points of spell power. With my current level of spell power, I can only cast it 5 times. After that, I need to rest and meditate for a long time to recover my spell power. My upper limit of spell power is too low. I need to think of a way to increase my upper limit of spell power. This is the top priority. Levi put away the Klein crystal. So far, there were only 2 ways to increase the upper limit of the spell power of a person. The first was to constantly increase the upper limit of spiritual force. This was the most important thing. However, because the talent of everyone was different, and their physiques were different, the upper limit of spiritual force would often differ greatly. The upper limit of the spell power of a child of the elements would be far higher than a child of chaos if they had the same spell power and realm. With the help of the proficiency panel, the cultivation of meditation art by Levi improved, so his spiritual force also increased very quickly. Although it was still not as good as some of the children of the elements, at least he had a dual element affinity, far surpassing that of ordinary children of chaos. However, as his spiritual force increased rapidly, the upper limit of the spell power of Levi also increased. At this time, there was only one way to increase the upper limit of his spell power in the short term, and that was to take potions. The potion that increased the upper limit of spell power was sold in the potion shop in White Sail Alley. It was called Green Elf Tears. However, Levi took a look. A bottle of low-grade Green Elf Tears that could increase 1 spell power point cost a total of 2 points. If Levi wanted to increase his maximum spell power to the level that his spiritual force should have, which was 50 points, he would need 50 points. This made Levi feel like he was about to lose his balance. In the Grey Tower, any important cultivation resources required points. Therefore, he had to think of a way to earn some points. Levi did not go to class in the afternoon. The classes in the afternoon were all advanced spell classes. With his current points, he could not exchange for a new spell model. Insect controlling technique was not taught here, so there was no need for him to go to class. After practicing the breathing technique and meditation art, He went to the hall on the first floor of the White Tower to see if there were any missions to earn points. Chapter 243. The hall on the first floor of the White Tower stood quiet. Hormungund the White Snake had been dozing off. He remained still until he saw the tall young man walking in with 2 swords on his back. The snake watched the young man in silence. This person was Levi. Levi looked at the White Snake. If I use the blood of this white snake to make the black snake secret medicine, the effect should be very good. The effect of the black snake secret medicine primarily related to the quality of the snake blood. Previously, when Levi was in the human world, he had only used the blood of common mortal snakes. There were snakes in the wizard world that reached the level of transcendence, and Levi began to consider the possibilities. He did not dare to fight Hormon, but he decided he would pay attention to extraordinary creature materials in the future. Levi stood as the only person in the hall. The other apprentices remained in class or away at training. Levi checked his quest bar. All members of the Grey Tower had the right to issue missions. After the other party completed the task, they only needed to pay the points. This system functioned similarly to the bounty boards in the human world. These missions usually provided very few points, often only 1 point. The tasks that provided more points came from official wizards, known as White Tower missions. Naturally, the difficulty of these tasks increased significantly. Furthermore, the White Tower missions that remained easy to complete stayed in high demand. Once they appeared, other apprentice wizards snatched them away. The remaining missions usually required high effort, offered low points, or even presented physical danger. White Tower mission. Recruiting an apprentice to assist the teacher in completing the pharmaceutical mission. The requirement is to have basic pharmaceutical knowledge, be proficient in pharmaceutical techniques, and have patience. Reward, 5 points per month. Poster, Wizard Marlene. White Tower mission. Take care of the herbs in the small garden, be responsible for daily watering, fertilizing, pest control, and preventing the intrusion of wild beasts. Reward, 30 points per year. Poster, Wizard Marlene. White Tower mission. Head to the Black Sail Wizard Market and maintain order. Requirements, possesses the strength of a mid-level apprentice wizard or above. Reward, 100 points per year. Poster, White Robe Wizard Herman. After walking around, Levi realized that only a few White Tower missions remained available. They were all daily tasks. These quests took a long time and offered poor returns, so they lacked popularity among the apprentices. Levi felt helpless. He had no other options. Wizard Marlene was one of the 3 official wizards. She served as the teacher for the general education course and acted as the pharmacist of the Grey Tower. Most of the potions in the potion shop in White Sail Alley came from her hands, including the green elf tears that Levi needed. The 3rd mission came from the Tower Master. It offered the highest reward, but it also presented the most difficulty. It functioned as a long-term mission. The Black Sail Wizard Market existed on a nearby island called Black Sail Island, rather than on this one. Black Sail Island did not belong to any single organization. It served as a trading center. Wizard organizations such as the Grey Tower, Whale Song Island, and the Sighing Sea Breeze conducted business with each other there. Over time, that location formed a market. In the Black Sail Wizard Market, a large number of unorganized wizards or apprentice wizards set up their own stalls. The Grey Tower maintained their own businesses in that market. They sold potions and wizard tools to earn ether stones from wizards who did not belong to any specific faction. The market contained a mix of honest traders and a few unscrupulous outlaws who liked to cause trouble. Eventually, the large wizard organizations held a discussion. Each organization sent members to form a law enforcement team in the Black Sail Wizard Market to maintain daily order. Levi decided that with his current strength, he should avoid the law enforcement team for now. When he reached a certain level, he could consider earning points that way. He accepted the pharmaceutical quest and headed to the room of Witch Marlene on the 3rd floor of the White Tower. Witch Marlene appeared as an old lady with white hair, wrinkled skin, and a bloated body. She fiddled with her flowers and plants as Levi entered. Madam Marlene, I am Levi, and I applied for the pharmaceutical apprentice mission. Levi coughed before he spoke. Madam Marlene turned around. Her eyes were very large and appeared somewhat strange. She looked like Yubaba from an old animation. She laughed in a hoarse and sharp voice. You must be the new one. Yes, Levi nodded. Do you know anything about pharmaceutics? Marlene asked. She clearly doubted his abilities. Teacher, I worked as a pharmacist in the human world for a period of time, so I know a little. Levi answered. He possessed level 4 expertise in pharmaceutics. In the human world, people already knew him as a pharmaceutical master. He did not know how his skills translated to the standards of the wizard world. Oh, I have a relatively simple potion formula here. Take it. If you can concoct the potion within 7 days, you will pass the preliminary assessment. Witch Marlene said. Levi nodded and took the formula. Witch Marlene even provided the herbs so he would not have to spend his own money. Thank you, Ms. Marlene. Levi took the formula and hurried back to the 9th floor of the Grey Tower. Although Witch Marlene looked somewhat frightening, she seemed to be the kindest wizard in the Grey Tower. Chapter 244. Some apprentices call Witch Marlene Granny Marlene. These young people ask Granny Marlene for help when they are in trouble. Granny Marlene guides them when she has the time. This Grey Tower is pretty good, Levi mutters to himself. The prescription that Witch Marlene gave him is called the bread potion. This is the most common potion formula for apprentice wizards, so it is not considered precious. The reason why it is called bread potion is because the effect of this potion is to fill one's stomach and replenish one's strength. It is similar to biscuits. Ordinary wizards drink a small bottle of bread potion every morning, and do not need to eat for the whole day. This way, they save a lot of time for cultivation and research. Since coming here for 2 days, Levi has not seen any wizard cook. He is the only one who cooks in the kitchen every day. Life without good food is too boring. Levi goes to White Sail Alley and spends 1 point to buy a full set of potion refining equipment. This equipment is of much better quality than the ones he had in the human world. They are more professional and last for a long time. Looking at the 4 points on his bracelet, Levi speeds up his pace. He divides the ingredients for the bread potion into 10 portions, and then he studies the formula. With his current pharmacy standards, he basically understands it even though it is a potion formula. After he reads the potion formula, he realizes that the sacred medicines formulas recorded in the Book of Kungu are actually potion formulas. The principles of the two are similar, and Levi learns quickly. In just one afternoon, after wasting 7 sets of materials, Levi successfully concocts a bread potion. Pharmacy proficiency increases by 20. The level 4 pharmacy skill, that has not been used for a long time, also begins to increase in proficiency. Levi is overjoyed. As expected, this simplest potion is not a problem for his level 4 pharmacy skill. After 7 attempts, he succeeds. After that, Levi refines 3 portions of bread potion. Bread potion is the cheapest potion. 1 point buys a large bottle from the potion shop, and a large bottle is enough for an apprentice wizard to drink for half a year. As such, this formula is not worth much, and Levi will not refine this potion to earn points. He drinks 2 small bottles himself and is not full. However, his stamina recovers a little. Other apprentice wizards might be able to fill their stomachs with a small bottle. However, Levi has to drink at least 10 bottles to be full. He is a top-tier Grand Knight, and if he wants to fill up his whale sack, Levi has to drink at least a large bottle. However, this potion, to be honest, tastes bad. It is very bitter. Levi feels that it is better to eat. This is one of his few pleasures. Drinking potions every day to survive makes him feel like a complete robot. After refining the potion, Levi performs a breathing technique and lies on the bed to rest. I wonder how the territory is doing. Levi murmurs softly. The flow of time in the realm of the unbelievers is exactly the same as in the human world. In essence, this is a world, but it is a different parallel plane. This is a sub-dimensional portal, so Levi does not have to worry about a day in the sky being equivalent to a year on the ground. Wizards do not have the habit of keeping track of time. They have a long lifespan, so they do not have a concept of time. Levi does not think about the territory and goes to sleep comfortably. Refining potions also consumes spiritual force. The next morning, Levi has no classes. He takes the bread potion that he refined yesterday and finds Ms. Marlene, who is preparing to go to class. Ms. Marlene glances at the bread potion, sniffs it, and drinks it in one go. Gulp. Ms. Marlene's stomach growls. Not bad, Levi. Your pharmacy skills are much better than I thought. Many high-level apprentice wizards are not as good as you. From now on, you are my pharmaceutical apprentice. Which Marlene smiles. She feels that she has found an apprentice with good pharmacy talent. Thank you, Ms. Marlene. You should go to class. I will not disturb you anymore. If you need anything, just call me at any time. Levi smiles happily. Marlene pats Levi's head, which makes him feel a little strange. He feels that this teacher really treats him like a child. But thinking about it, it makes sense. Which Marlene has lived for 150 years. According to the maximum lifespan of a first circle wizard, she is already in her later years. She seems to have the same talent as Levi, a child of chaos. It is already not easy for her to become an official wizard. Without a cheat like Levi has, and without other fortuitous encounters, it is definitely very difficult for her to break through to a second circle wizard. It is said that a second circle wizard has a lifespan of 300 years. Once they reach the third circle and become an intermediate wizard, they have a lifespan of 500 years. Which Marlene goes to class. Before class, she gives Levi some tasks and 2 new potion formulas. One of them is called Smurf Sleep, and the other is Blood Elf's Whale. She tells Levi to use these 2 potions as practice until he can master them and increase the refinement success rate to at least half. Levi will then be able to provide her with assistance in refining a precious potion. If Levi can help her complete the production of that potion, she will give Levi an additional reward of points. Smurfs and Blood Elves. Chapter 245. This reminded Levi of the Green Elf Tears. These 3 potions came from the same series. Being a pharmacy apprentice offered significant advantages. Levi could acquire potion formulas at no cost. The Smurf Leap potion served as a basic potion, but it stood as a step above the bread potion. It recovered the spell power of a wizard in a short time. 1 bottle of Smurf Leap recovered the same amount of spell power that a wizard would normally regenerate over 12 hours. As for the Blood Elf Whale, it increased the spiritual force and physical strength of a wizard for a brief period. It reduced fatigue and allowed a wizard to maintain a high efficiency state. The potion shop in White Sail Alley sold these 2 potions for 1 point per 10 bottles. This counted as a common potion for apprentice wizards, so the consumption rate remained relatively high. During battle, a wizard would drink these 2 potions frequently. The formulas for these 2 potions were common, but they cost 1 point each at the shop. Levi, as the apprentice of which Marlene, acquired them for free. Levi traveled to White Tower Town and used gold coins to purchase herbs and materials for refining potions. White Tower Town stood on the opposite side of the island. It was a small mortal town. Many inhabitants were descendants of apprentice wizards. Because they lacked the talent to join the Grey Tower, they stayed on the island. Over time, the area developed into a small town. The residents served the wizards. They farmed, wove cloth, hunted, fished, and collected herbs. The logistics department of the Grey Tower purchased a large portion of the fruits of their labor. Levi calculated the cost. The materials for one bottle of snuff leaf cost about 10 gold coins. It was not as expensive as he had imagined. In the human world, 10 gold coins could not even buy a bottle of ambergris. This was, after all, the raw material for magic potions. The cost of materials for the blood elf whale was similar. This sparked a new money-making plan. Levi decided he would sell potions. Levi possessed 150,000 gold coins. If he used all these gold coins to buy potion materials, he could acquire 15,000 portions. If he successfully refined 10,000 of those portions into potions, and if he managed to sell them all, the revenue could theoretically be exchanged for 1,000 points. Only high-level apprentice wizards usually possessed 1,000 points. Even if they went to the Black Sail Wizard Market to enforce the law for a year, they would only earn 100 points. Levi did not plan to exchange the coins directly for points. Points only circulated within the Grey Tower, and they came with limitations. He planned to go to the Black Sail Wizard Market to sell potions. He had made inquiries. At the Black Sail Wizard Market, the price of a bottle of potion was 1/10 of an ether stone. If that held true, Levi estimated that the gold coins he carried could be exchanged for 1,000 ether stones. This represented a huge sum of money, and even official wizards might not have that much. Unlike points, ether stones remained very precious. Refining 15,000 potions would take a long time. Levi might need many years to complete such a task. Moreover, the production of medicinal herbs on the island was limited. Sales presented the most difficult problem. Many people sold these potions, and Levi worried that he would not be able to sell his stock after refining it. Therefore, this plan remained difficult to implement. This was only an initial thought. He did not need so many ether stones for the time being. Levi bought 20 sets of materials. This amount represented the total production of White Tower Town over the past few days. Regardless of whether Levi sold the potions or not, he had to refine them. This formed the mission of Witch Marlene. For the next few days, Levi alternated between cultivation and alchemy. His pharmacy skills continued to improve, and his proficiency began to rise. Witch Marlene noted that the pharmacy skills of Levi surpassed those of many high-level apprentice wizards. According to her, the realm of pharmacists followed the same structure as that of wizards. They were also divided into 9 circles. In the Panplane Wizard Council, a 9th circle great pharmacist existed within the burning school of thought. But so far, the world had not seen a legendary pharmacist. Below the first circle pharmacist was the pharmacy apprentice. Just like the apprentice wizard, this was divided into 3 levels: low grade, middle grade, and high grade. The current level 4 pharmacy skill of Levi had reached the peak level of a middle grade pharmacy apprentice. This remained relatively rare among high-level apprentice wizards. Not all wizards were pharmacists, and pharmacy was an expensive and time-consuming pursuit. If Levi lacked the proficiency panel, he would not have reached level 4 so quickly. Due to the scarcity of pharmacists, Witch Marlene felt very optimistic about Levi. She wanted to refine a 2nd circle potion. Once she succeeded, she could go to the Pharmacy Association under the Panplane Wizard Council to be certified as a 2nd circle pharmacist. A 2nd circle pharmacist held a higher status than an ordinary 2nd circle wizard. For example, in the waters surrounding the Grey Tower, only one 2nd circle pharmacist existed on Whalesong Island. Other than that person, no one else held the title. Becoming a pharmacist was a time-consuming skill. A long time ago, pharmaceutics was a skill every wizard had to master. However, with the development of the wizard world, the division of labor became more specialized. Pharmaceutics was a slow and costly subject that most ordinary wizards abandoned. The legacy of pharmacists was constantly decreasing, which caused the status of pharmacists to rise. Chapter 246. The 2nd circle potion that Witch Marlene intended to refine required the assistance of a 1st circle pharmacist. She stood as the only 1st circle pharmacist in the entire Grey Tower. She could only settle for the 2nd best, which involved finding 4 high-level pharmacy apprentices. Unfortunately, the Grey Tower possessed only one high-level pharmacy apprentice, and that person also held the rank of high-level apprentice wizard. She still required 3 more people. She found an official wizard friend and one high-level apprentice wizard from another force. The last position remained unresolved. Levi appeared and surprised her. Although the bread potion remained simple, it represented a formula that only a middle-level pharmacy apprentice could master. Levi, a newcomer, refined it in one day. This showed that the talent of Levi for making potions reached a high level. She felt that instead of going out to find people from other forces, she should spend some time directly cultivating an apprentice wizard of her own. She did not lack this bit of time now. Marlene was old. She wanted to train an official pharmacist for the Grey Tower before she passed away. It counted as repaying the Tower Master for saving her life. Levi did not know what Marlene was thinking. A few days later, he successfully refined 1 Smuff Leap and 1 Blood Elf Whale. These 2 potions could only be refined by the most outstanding middle-level pharmacy apprentice. However, the success rate of a middle-level pharmacy apprentice remained low. The current success rate of Levi was only 1 in 10. Generally speaking, only a high-level pharmacy apprentice could master these 2 potions and increase the success rate to 1/2. It is more difficult than I thought. It is still too difficult for me to refine these 2 potions with my level 4 pharmacy skills. I should use the bread potion and other formulas to cultivate pharmacy to level 5 first before starting to refine them on a large scale. Levi shook his head. The cost of these 2 potions was relatively high, and they were not suitable for practice. A few days later, Levi brought the successfully refined blue and red potion to Ms. Marlene. The blue and red potions were names that Levi had come up with himself. He felt that this was more appropriate and concise. On the 3rd floor of the White Tower, Marlene checked the potion of Levi. She seemed very happy. Great. I have already transferred your first month's points to your account in advance. Your pharmacy talent is even better than mine back then. From now on, practice your pharmaceutical skills well. If you do not have the money to buy materials, you can look for me. Strive to become a high-level pharmacy apprentice within half a year. At that time, I will arrange the next task for you. Little Levi, your talent as a wizard is not that good. For you, perhaps the path of becoming a pharmacist is a shortcut. As long as you can become a first-circle pharmacist, your status will not be inferior to a wizard. After Marlene finished speaking, she let Levi return to his room. When Levi reached home, he opened his bracelet and saw that Ms. Marlene had given him 6 points. It was 1 point more than what the mission stated. It seemed like an additional reward. As for the suggestion of his teacher for him to become a pharmacist, Levi would consider it. He felt that being a pharmacist might be his main way of earning money in the future. However, he would never give up on the path of the wizard. Strength remained the most important thing. Everything else was secondary. Levi had also learned from Ms. Marlene that in the profession of pharmacists, starting from the 3rd circle potion, one needed to be in the corresponding wizard realm to be able to refine it. Therefore, the path of a wizard could not be avoided. This was also the reason why high-level pharmacists were so rare. Marlene did not have bad intentions. She did not know that Levi had the proficiency panel, and thought that it would be difficult for Levi to achieve anything on the path of a wizard. She thought that as long as Levi became a first-circle pharmacist, and lived out the rest of his life, he should be satisfied. No matter what, Levi felt in a good mood. He now had another 10 points. First, he would buy 2 green elf tears to test the effects. If it could increase the upper limit of his spell power, then he might be able to refine this potion himself. It would definitely be much cheaper than buying it. At that time, he would just have to be thick-skinned and ask Ms. Marlene for a potion formula. White Sail Ali greeted him. Levi spent 4 points to buy 2 green elf tears. He returned to the 9th floor of the Grey Tower. He sat down in a meditative position, opened the potion, and drank it in one gulp. The potion was bitter and tasted bad. Levi quickly entered a meditative state. He dived into the faint golden ocean. In the shallow sea, Levi found something different from his usual meditation. He found some golden spots of light. Levi had seen these specks of light in his meditation before, but they were all sparse. He did not have a systematic wizard general education back then, so he did not know what these golden specks of light were. Looking at it now, this was spell power. Because his talent was average, the golden light spots he could come into contact with when he meditated were very few. However, with the green elf tears, Levi saw a lot more light spots than before. These light spots surged into the mind of Levi, filling him with warm energy. After Levi finished meditating, his meditation art proficiency increased by 1 point. He placed his hand on the Klein crystal ball again. Spiritual force, 4. Spell power, 16. As expected, the upper limit of my spell power has increased by 1 point. Levi smiled. When he meditated the next day, he drank another bottle. Chapter 247. Then, his spell power reached 17 points. Low-grade green elf tears were only suitable for apprentice wizards. At the middle-grade apprentice wizard level, they would need the advanced version of the potion Green Fairy Pearl, which was expensive, costing 5 points per bottle. Therefore, Levi had to increase the upper limit of his spell power before his spiritual force advanced to the middle-grade apprentice level. Year 1017 of the Holy Brilliance calendar, the month of flowers. On the sea, the vigorous search for the treasure of Golden Knight Gregor had ended. When someone finally found the island where Golden Knight Gregor had buried his treasure, they realized that the island had already been occupied by someone else. The treasure of Golden Knight Gregor was already gone. Everyone was guessing who had obtained the treasure. Many people felt that the Fist of the Empire had succeeded. After all, the Fist of the Empire was the most powerful, so it was most likely to obtain the treasure. However, the Fist of the Empire had disappeared again. No matter how hard the people of the Church of Storms searched, they could not find it. Therefore, this matter was left unsettled. Meanwhile, in Flower City of the Emerald Kingdom, inside Black Snake Castle, Andrew, who looked like Levi, was playing chess with Anderson. Speaking of which, your master has been in the wizard world for half a year. I wonder how he is doing there. Has he become a legendary knight? I have high hopes for this kid. Anderson smiled bitterly. Elder, there is no need to worry. With my master standards, he will definitely be able to survive in the wizard world. My master is not an ordinary person. I can feel a terrifying aura from him, Andrew said. During this period of time, with Andrew in charge, the territory of Levi was very peaceful and nothing happened. The Emerald Kingdom had just ended the war and had begun to recuperate. With the efforts of the church and the various worlds, the snow demon calamity in the north had barely stopped the momentum of the south. For a long time, the south should be able to sit back and relax. Andrew had also collected some ambergris and breathing techniques for Levi. He was waiting for Levi to come home when he had time. In the realm of Azure Cloud, Levi also spent half a year in the Grey Tower. In this half a year, Levi had trained the Blood Beast breathing technique to the limit of the 9th level. Blood Beast breathing technique, level 9, maximum, breakthrough available, current progress 0 out of 7. Special effect, Blood Wings, gas, blood contract. After reaching the limit of the 9th level of the Blood Beast breathing technique, the transcendent speed special effect from before had been upgraded to a new effect, Blood Wings. Blood Wings, black gas gathers on your back and transforms into gaseous blood wings. Through the high-speed oscillation of the blood wings, your explosive speed, jumping ability, reaction speed, and so on will be greatly increased. The special effect of the blood wings was like an upgrade to transcendent speed. The Blood Beast breathing technique has reached the limit of the 9th level. Next, I can break through the limit. My current extreme speed type breathing techniques include the Siren breathing technique, the Thunder Wolf breathing technique, the Thunderbird breathing technique, and the Swift Dog breathing technique. The Thunder Wolf breathing technique at the limit of the 7th level provides 4 points to break through the limit, the Lightning Bird at the limit of the 5th level provides 2 points to break through the limit, and the Swift Dog at the 4th level provides 1 point. As for the Siren breathing technique, I will just keep it for now. The Siren breathing technique had been with Levi for so long that it could be considered a veteran breathing technique. Furthermore, the Siren breathing technique was a rare initial breathing technique with 2 special effects. Levi felt that there was no need to fuse with the Siren for the time being. Soon, the Blood Beast breathing technique had broken through its limit. After resting for a while, Levi opened his proficiency panel. Blood Beast breathing technique, level 9, 1 out of 150,000. Special effect, Blood Wings, gas, blood contract. Now, let us test the effect of the Blood Wings. Levi went down to the 9th floor of the Grey Tower and left his residence. He came to a dense forest. Seeing that there was no one around, he ran in the direction of the small garden on the island. The blood beast seed in his body began to erupt, and a blood-red aura circulated through the limbs and bones of Levi, causing his speed to increase by a level. In addition, the excess blood aura also vaguely transformed into illusory bat wings on the back of Levi. These bat wings looked very small and thin. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see them clearly. They were very illusory. However, as the bat wings flapped rapidly, it suddenly accelerated. With a bang, Levi moved like a loaded bullet. He shot out, and the fallen leaves in front of him were sent flying. Smoke and dust filled the path. In less than 10 breaths, Levi had already run 2 miles away. In other words, my current explosive running speed has completely stabilized at 100 meters per second. If I explode my seed, I might be able to go a little faster. Not long after, Levi arrived at the small garden in the depths of the island. The reason why he came here was to complete the mission. In the past 6 months, he had also accepted another mission from Ms. Marlene. That was the task of looking after the small garden. The small garden was located in the depths of the island. The elemental power was the densest there, and it was suitable for the growth of herbs. This was the exclusive herb garden of the Grey Tower, and the director was Witch Marlene, because she was the only one who knew the most about herbs. Considering that herbs and medicine were complementary, Levi accepted this mission. This mission could also earn 30 points a year. Although it was not as good as going to the black sale market to enforce the law, it was safer. Levi cultivated every day, and apart from practicing pharmacy, he only needed to set aside some time in the morning and evening to go to the small garden to look at the herbs planted. Watering the herbs would be enough. Chapter 248. In general, this mission was not difficult. The reason why many high-level apprentice wizards did not choose this mission was that it required them to learn a cantrip and occupy a spell slot. This cantrip was called Flower Fairy Dew, and it was a zero-ring cantrip belonging to the Ocean School of Thought. Levi came to the small garden. He approached the first plot of land in the herb planting area and chanted a spell. As he chanted, mist surged from the herbs in this small plot of land and gathered above the soil. When the mist dispersed, the petals, leaves, and roots of these medicinal plants were covered in dew, like pearls embedded in the greenery. These dewdrops imitated the natural dew of the flower fairy. Flower fairies were a very magical and rare type of spirit. It was said that some wizards raised flower fairies in their gardens. The flower fairies took care of the herb garden for the wizard. Wherever they were, they produced rain. This rain served as the favorite thing of plants. It contained rich elemental power and nutrients. However, due to the large number of flower fairies captured by wizards, their numbers remained extremely low. Most wizards or pharmacists did not possess such creatures. Later on, some wizards imitated the ability of the flower fairy and developed this zero-ring cantrip. Of course, the effect of this cantrip was definitely not as good as the original, but it was still much better than ordinary rain. Other than watering the flowers and applying fertilizer, the zero-ring cantrip, Flower Fairy Dew, had no combat power. Generally speaking, only a pharmacy apprentice would learn this kind of trick. Many wizards would not waste their precious spell slots to learn this. Levi was different. He was considering the path of a part-time pharmacist. Therefore, after accepting this mission, Levi looked for Witch Marlene and acquired the spell model of this cantrip from her for free, saving him another 2 points. After that, he spent half a month learning the basics of this cantrip, and now, Levi had reached the 3rd level. Flower Fairy Dew, level 3, 5,789 out of 10,000. With the level 3 flower fairy dew, the casting area of Levi was much larger than before. In the small garden, a small plot of land was 5 square meters, and there were hundreds of such plots in the entire garden. The level 3 flower fairy dew was just enough to cover an entire plot of land. The current maximum spell power of Levi had reached 36 points after consuming the potion. It was almost comparable to his current 5 points of spiritual force. The flower fairy dew required 2 points of spell power to cast, and Levi could cast it 18 times a day. He only needed to water once, and he could ignore the plants for a week. Therefore, Levi could basically water all the herbs in the small garden once a week. To be honest, this kind of work was very tedious and tiring. However, Levi was enjoying himself. He had already been in the Grey Tower for half a year. As a low-level apprentice wizard, he only had 2 cantrips, which were the insect controlling technique and the flower fairy dew. In the eyes of other apprentice wizards, these cantrips were not serious spells. However, Levi did not mind. With his current strength, that was comparable to a legendary knight, he really did not care about the power of apprentice spells sold by the Grey Tower. They were not as powerful as his fists and seals. On the other hand, Levi liked this kind of auxiliary cantrip. Because all of the hard work of Levi in the past 6 months had been seen by Witch Marlene, he could feel that the attitude of this official wizard towards him was getting better and better. She really saw Levi as her successor. Levi knew very well how precious the legacy of an official pharmacist was. Therefore, everything he did now was worth it. Moreover, his progress in the field of wizardry in the past 6 months was not stagnant. The current deep sea meditation art was about to break through to level 2. After completing the watering task for the day, Levi sat in the small wooden house in the small garden to rest. While meditating, he took out the Klein crystal. Spiritual force, 4. Spell power, 36. Levi looked at his bracelet. Currently, he only had 8 points on his bracelet. In the past half year, he had earned 25 points as a pharmacy apprentice. He had also earned some points by doing some other scattered missions. Unfortunately, before these points could be accumulated, Levi bought the green elf tears. When my spell power reaches 40 points, I will be able to upgrade the deep sea meditation art to level 2. The entry-level standard for a middle-grade apprentice wizard is 5 spiritual power points, and the upper limit of spell power is 50 points. After Levi finished his work in the small garden, he returned to the Grey Tower. He happened to see senior sister Winnie, whom he had not seen for a long time, walking with a high-level apprentice wizard's senior brother. It seemed that they were going out to sea. Junior brother Levi, we are going to Whale Song Island as guests. Do you want to come with us? Because everyone was very busy, and Levi was even more occupied with pharmacy and watering flowers, she rarely met him. I am sorry, senior sister. This year's assessment will be held in a few days. I will not be going. There are still many courses that I have not completed. Levi looked at the eyes of the senior brother beside senior sister Winnie. It was obvious that he did not want Levi to come along, but because of Winnie, he was too embarrassed to say it. Senior sister Winnie was an extroverted person. She was beautiful and had a good temperament. She had many followers around her, many of whom were high-level apprentice wizards who lived on the 20th floor and above. It was not that Levi was afraid of these apprentice wizards. Even if he did not use the magic seal and his quasi-wizard tools, he could easily defeat most of the high-level apprentice wizards of the Grey Tower just by relying on his knight's ability. However, Levi did not like to cause trouble. All right, then we are leaving. Winnie and the senior brother left excitedly. Levi returned to the 9th floor alone and went to his pharmacy lab. After half a year of practice, his pharmacy skills had just broken through to level 5 a few days ago, reaching the level of a high-level pharmacy apprentice. As a high-level pharmacy apprentice, he could start to refine green elf tears. He had already bought the materials in White Tower Town. The materials for the green elf tears were relatively expensive, costing 100 gold coins per portion. However, it was still much better than spending 2 points to buy it. For the next few days, Levi spent all his time in the pharmacy lab refining medicine. He also took part in the assessment. The final result was excellent in the basic theory course and fail in the actual combat course. As a knight's abilities were not allowed in actual combat, Levi did not want to use his seals either. He did not have any combat type spell, so Levi always took the initiative to admit defeat as soon as he got on stage, leaving both the opponent and the examiner speechless. Fortunately, the consequences of failing once were not that serious. It was just that he would not be rewarded with any points. Levi did not care. As long as he did not fail more than 3 times, he would not be expelled. He just quietly trained his pharmacy skills and followed the established goal step by step. 7 days later, he was already proficient in making green elf tears, and his success rate had reached half. A month later, the spell power of Levi reached 40 points. His spiritual force and spell power had both reached the limit of a low-level apprentice wizard. In the end, on a quiet afternoon, his meditation art also broke through to level 2. The spiritual force of Levi had reached the level of a mid-level apprentice wizard. At this moment, he felt that his perception was stronger than before. He used the Klein crystal to check. Spiritual force, 5. Spell power, 43. The moment his spiritual force reached the level of a mid-level apprentice wizard, the Black Devil Blade, which had been at its limit for a long time, had also broken through to level 3. As Levi thought about it, black gas appeared behind him. The black gas rose and drifted to his back. It condensed into a terrifying evil spirit with 3 heads and 6 arms, wielding 9 swords. Chapter 249. Levi, Black Devil Blade, Level 3, 1 out of 10,000. According to the creator of the Black Devil Blade, after Level 3, the black gas could be condensed into a black gas incarnation, also known as the evil spirit lingering. The appearance of this evil spirit would be formed according to the mind of Levi. It was random, and not under the control of Levi. Levi stood in front of the mirror, and looked at his 2.2-meter tall body. Behind him, there was an abstract and tall shadow. He was even stronger than Levi. His muscles were almost as exaggerated as the Platinum Star, and he was 3 meters tall. This black figure was covered in armor that looked like scales. He had 6 bulky arms, and each of them held a black gas sword. The most ridiculous thing was that this evil spirit actually had 3 heads. Among the 3 heads, the right one was angry, the left one was smiling, and the middle one was expressionless. Each of the 3 heads had a long sword in their mouths. Therefore, this evil spirit held a total of 9 swords, which looked very exaggerated. At present, with the control of Levi over the black gas, he was unable to display the detailed appearance and features of the evil spirit in more detail. He could only vaguely make out some outlines. However, just the malevolence of this silhouette alone was more terrifying than any evil spirit Levi had ever seen. He looked at the appearance of the evil spirit, and then muttered to himself, 3 heads, 6 arms, and wielding 9 swords. Looks like a green-faced Azura with fangs. Good heavens, he is like a great demon king who crawled out of the abyss. I will call you 9 Swords Azura. Levi called the evil spirit created and born from his mind 9 Swords Azura. All in all, this evil spirit was a little out of place in this world. Perhaps it was because he came from a different world, and his heart had been influenced by the culture of his previous life. What surprised Levi was that the Black Devil Blade was not at the maximum level even though it reached level 3. It could be cultivated further. This made him look forward to the power of the Black Devil Blade after it reached the limit. He came to a room specially designed for apprentice wizards to test the power of spells. The room was very sturdy. Under normal circumstances, the cantrips of apprentice wizards would not affect this room at all. Levi clenched his fists and stretched his body. The evil spirit behind him, 9 Swords Azura, did the same thing. He did not use ripple force. He just clenched his fist and punched at the wall. 9 Swords Azura behind him did the same. The 3-meter-tall phantom clenched its fist, and the black gas fist did the same thing as Levi. The attacks of Levi and the evil spirit substitute overlapped. Boom. The air exploded, the walls trembled, and gravel flew everywhere. A fist print appeared on the wall. The wall, which could withstand the impact of any apprentice cantrip, had a fist mark on it after the normal punch of Levi. It was hard to imagine that if he used the Golden Ripple Divine Palm, the power of this punch from the evil spirit substitute would probably be able to shatter this wall. It is terrifying. I wonder if it can break the defense of an official wizard. Levi sighed. After a few minutes, the evil spirit substitute of Levi, the 9 Swords Azura, suddenly dissipated. With the current level 3 Black Devil Blade of Levi, the substitute could only last for a few minutes. Not bad, another trump card. With my current 9 Swords form, and the explosive power of the Red Lotus form, even a legendary knight should not be able to take a punch from me. Levi called the state of burning Red Lotus blood, Red Lotus form. This was his strongest form without using wizard abilities. He could fight Andrew, who was comparable to a legendary knight, without losing. Now, Levi had a new form, which he called the 9 Swords form. His intuition told him that the legendary knight was no longer his match when the two forms overlapped. After he finished studying the 9 Swords form, Levi opened his proficiency panel. Levi, Deep Sea Meditation Art, Level 2, 3 out of 5,000. Insect Controlling Technique, Level 3, 690 out of 10,000. Flower Fairy Dew, Level 3, 5,678 out of 10,000. Now, the spiritual force of Levi had advanced to the level of a mid-level apprentice wizard, and his spell power limit was 43 points. Mid-level apprentice wizards could master 5 zero-circle cantrips. Out of the 5 spell slots, Levi had only used 2. He still had 3 spell slots left, so he had to learn an offensive and defensive cantrip first. Although his knight ability was powerful, this was the world of wizards after all. The methods of knights were much more monotonous than those of wizards. Moreover, he could not keep failing the annual combat assessment. If he failed for many years in a row, he would be removed from the apprentice wizard rankings of the Grey Tower. Now he had already become a high-level pharmacy apprentice. He had fulfilled the request of Witch Marlene. Next, he was going to look for Ms. Marlene. On the 3rd floor of the White Tower, Ms. Marlene watched as Levi refined the Smith Leap and the Blood Elf Whale potions. Levi had refined 10 sets of materials, and 7 of them were successful. This was already the standard of a high-level pharmacy apprentice. Clap, clap, clap. Ms. Marlene smiled happily and clapped for Levi. She walked up to him. Little Levi, you have really surprised me. You were born to be a pharmacist. Marlene sighed. Teacher, you flatter me. I am just using other people's sleeping time to make potions, Levi said humbly. Chapter 250. The kind Granny Marlene smiled until the wrinkles on her face trembled. She stood up and said with a smile, since you have already advanced to a high-level pharmacy apprentice, I will give you some special training. After the training, I need you and 3 other high-level pharmacy apprentices to help me refine a second circle potion, the Eye Devil Gaze. Yes, teacher. As far as Levi knew, the Devil Gaze was an extremely precious potion that could simply increase the upper limit of a first circle wizard's spiritual force. Most importantly, it could also increase the probability of a first circle wizard breaking through to the second circle. Levi guessed that this potion was meant for her own use. He knew that Ms. Marlene had been a first circle wizard for 100 years. She should have been stuck at the threshold of breaking through to the second circle long ago, but because of her talent as a Children of Chaos, she had been unable to break through. Now that Ms. Marlene was getting old, she could not wait any longer. Refining the second circle potion served two purposes. It would certify her as a second circle pharmacist. It would also help her break through to become a second circle wizard. Marlene gave Levi special training. This special training focused on the refinement of the second circle potion, Devil Gaze. She covered everything from the potion formula to the method of refining the potion, along with the details that required caution. Marlene repeatedly trained Levi. Although Levi played only a supporting role in this round of refinement, he had to be familiar with all aspects of this potion to provide better help to his teacher. A month later, under the special training of Ms. Marlene, the level 5 pharmacy proficiency of Levi had increased by quite a bit. Levi felt that he might even become a first circle pharmacist before he became an official wizard. Apart from that, Levi had obtained an extremely precious second circle potion formula for free. This formula was not open for exchange in the Grey Tower. In the tower, only apprentice potion formulas could be exchanged. In order to refine this potion, Marlene also invested a lot. Moreover, she had already treated Levi as her personal disciple. If she could not break through to become a second circle wizard, she hoped her skills would not be lost before she died of old age. Although wizards paid attention to the protection of intellectual property rights, for a witch like Marlene who had no descendants, she hoped that her legacy could continue. The way of inheritance remained the master-disciple bond. Levi felt sincerely grateful for the guidance of Ms. Marlene. He felt glad that the atmosphere of the entire Grey Tower matched the wizard organization he had imagined. Everyone remained busy and did not disturb each other, yet there existed some warmth. This was the best outcome. On the vast island in the endless sea, the Grey Twin Towers had become the harbor where Levi could cultivate in peace. On a sunny afternoon, after the special training concluded, Ms. Marlene brought Levi and another high-level apprentice wizard of the Grey Tower to the coast. They waited for the ferry. The wizards called it the Azure Ship. It was the ancient giant ship that Levi had taken when he came here. These giant ships were developed by the wizards of the Star Tower. They operated as fully automated, unmanned maritime transport. Under the effect of the magic circle, they absorbed the power of water and fire elements of heaven and earth, turning them into the driving force for navigation. They sailed endlessly on the safe sea route opened up by the wizard pioneers in the realm of Azure Cloud. These routes covered all the wizard organizations in the endless sea, big and small. Every other week, a ferry arrived at the Grey Tower. Even though wizards had developed a high-level portal spell, only high-level wizards could learn and master it. First circle wizards usually learned a flying spell, but it served only for short distances. They had no way to fly long distances. Therefore, traveling on the Azure Ship remained an important way for wizards in the realm of Azure Cloud to communicate. This time, which Marlene planned to take Levi and the others to a relatively far place, Whale Song Island. If one wanted to become a second circle pharmacist, one had to go through the Pharmacist Association. The only Pharmacist Association branch in this area was on Whale Song Island. The president was the second circle pharmacist from Whale Song Island. There were only 5 first circle pharmacists in this association, but there were more than 50 official wizards from the 10 wizard organizations in this area. From this, one could see that official pharmacists were rare. Basically, there was only one official pharmacist among 10 official wizards. Therefore, potions above the first ring were exceptionally expensive. The future plan of Levi was to become a first circle pharmacist as soon as possible, and then sell those first ring potions to make money. Of course, an official pharmacist would probably need to have the pharmacy skill at level 7, which remained far away for Levi. The Azure Ship arrived, which Marlene took out her magic staff and began to chant an incantation. Levi saw a pair of gorgeous wings of light suddenly spread out from her back. The golden wings of light spanned at least 20 feet wide. The two of you take White Tower number 7 and hurry over. I will go first. After Marlene finished speaking, she flapped her wings of light and turned into an arc of light, flying forward quickly. Levi felt envious. He wanted to become an official wizard and learn a flying spell. To be continued. Hope you liked today's video. Join the community by subscribing and dropping a like. I'll be back with another update tomorrow. See you then.